75 plus recipes to cook, around 140 items to craft, over 30 friendships to max out, and over 15 million gold needed to be earned. Oh, and also all these other goals on screen now, except times that all by 4 as we did it in multiplayer. In this movie, we played 300 days of Stardew Valley with the ultimate goal of reaching perfection. Normally, perfection is shared in multiplayer, but apart from money, shipping, and the museum, we had to individually complete the rest. Will we all make it to the summit of perfection in time, or will some of us fall just short of the ultimate goal? Let's head back to the beginning of the story and find out. Leaving the mundane office life behind, we headed to Fumble Farm, a standard farm which was left to us by some random old guy claiming to be our granddad. Not a bad result. Robin and Mayor Lewis introduced us to the farm, which hadn't particularly aged well over the years, and that was it. They left it to us, along with a nice care package containing 15 parsnips each. As day one of spring started, we exited our cabins, quickly stumbling upon each other for the first time, with my character instilling some strange tension among the group.
Who's this, eh?
Hey guys!
Someone's coming. Oh, it's disgusting. What is that?
We spent day one planting our 60 parsnips and watering them, heading to Pierre's shop where the first introduction of shared money came into play. We then met the local villagers, foraged for some plants, and got into trouble for raiding bins. We ended day one by clearing up some of the farm, crafting our first chests, and planting what we purchased from Pierre's. A quick side note if you were wondering, we've added some subtle UI mods which are on screen now. Nothing to change the gameplay experience, but just to enhance it. So with that out of the way, let's head to day two. Day two was an action-packed one. We received letters inviting us to Old Willie's shop, so we woke up, watered our crops, and raced straight down towards the beach, collecting a bamboo pole from Willie. So we decided to bin the bamboo pole, opting for the training rod for better XP. And that was it. The addiction had commenced. We fished from morning to afternoon and afternoon to evening. We headed home. However, having heard rumours about a certain skill at level 5 fishing, we decided to hold on to our fish for now, apart from Matt. So we hauled our fish back home, stored them away, and headed to bed, ending day two. Day three brought the first rain to the valley, and with a quick browse at the wiki, we learnt of the catfish, which can only be caught during rainfall, but does bring some juicy profits, which would help us towards our 3 goals for the video. So without needing to water our crops, we ignored everyone in town, opting to head to the river and fish. But no catfish came. Hours passed until we made our first fumble of the video.
Training rod can only catch basic fish.
Yeah,
anyone got their bamboo pole still?
Difficulty lower than 50. So I don't think we can catch it.
So yeah, we can't catch them with the training rod, but we still hauled home a huge number of chub, shads and breams, and also Joe randomly found this.
You coming back, Matt? Are you still
Ancient
sleeping?
seed.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
No way.
I got an ancient seed from a chest.
Which is ridiculous luck on just day 3. We brought everything we fished up back, and a couple of us were rapidly approaching level 5 fishing, Kieran being the closest, so we headed to bed knowing that we were closing in on our first big payday. Now we woke up on day 4 and took care of the usual business, watering our parsnips, which had 1 day left to go, and our potatoes. Did some cleaning around the farm, and decided today would be spent fishing in the final spot we hadn't visited, the mountain lake, where we found a boulder blocking our path, so we got to work fishing in a separate area close by. Joe and Matt, however, took a trip to the museum, meeting Gunther and trading in the ancient seed for an ancient seed we could actually plant, so a decent trade. We then went back to the farm and planted them, which caused a little argument.
You chopped up my acorn.
Why did you plant it there? That's genuinely annoyed me, Matt.
That's where my acorn was.
I don't care, I mined it up for a reason.
With that out of the way, I stopped fishing and grabbed my seed, followed by Kieran, and that brought about more awkward ancient seeds being planted, so we went to bed a little annoyed at one another. We awoke on day 5 with a mission and a plan, but not before harvesting and selling every parsnip but the gold ones, and a single normal one. You see, we'd been solely fishing for the first 4 days with a touch of foraging, and had mostly hit level 3 and 4, with Kieran being the closest to level 5, unlocking us higher profit margins. So we sent him to the beach and sentenced him to fish until he hits level 5. I quickly popped to the travelling cart, but she wasn't selling much we could afford. Shortly following this, me and Joe headed to the mines. If you're wondering where Matt is for the majority of this day, he bumped into Mayor Lewis, who spent his whole day showing Matt around the abandoned community centre, which didn't appear to be entirely abandoned. Joe's insane luck streak continued, dropping all the way to floor 20 with myself alongside him. Joe managed to find a wooden club, discarding his rusty old sword. Following this though, Joe managed to reach floor 24 and passed out at 2 AM, with the rest of us having headed back early. Kieran was 1 or 2 fish from level 5 and Matt had a slight headache from Mayor Lewis's voice. We did make 2,000 gold from the crops, which was good, gaining some basic farming levels with combat and mining mining levels coming along. Day 6 was more of the same, but with a united front. Kieran raced off early, but it was the right call, quickly grabbing level 5 fishing. He then returned and headed to the mines. Speaking of the mines, we had our second fumble of the day. Matt didn't see the elevator, so while he was mining on floor 1, me and Joe were quickly approaching floor 30. I was getting low on energy, so we subbed Kieran in. And with that extra help, we were able to break through to floor 40, reaching the iron floors, meaning we now had a source of iron and copper, crucial for our plan to get sprinklers soon. Shortly after floor 40, they headed back, allowing Kieran to grab the Fisher perk for 25% extra profit on all fish sales. Day 7 was time for an upgrade in organisation. Up to this point, we all had our own chests by our own cabins, but Kieran changed this by organising all the shit we had collected in just 1 week here, which was a lot, including this wedding veil, into communal chests. Me, Joe and Matt spent the rest of the day doing various tasks, harvesting our potatoes, keeping one but selling the rest, and visiting the travelling merchant, to no avail yet again. We then opted to do some fishing, trying to get level 5 ourselves, and some foraging and exploring the valley, speaking to the villagers. Back at base, Kieran had organised the chests and also replanted 60 parsnips, leaving us with 8 gold. Hold on, go back. Did he just do what I think he did? So he bought them, sold them by accident, and then rebought them. Great. After his error, he threw the fish collection into the shipping bin and we headed to bed, earning a cool 11,000 gold overnight, which was huge for the looming egg festival on day 13, which, just foreshadowing, is about to control our lives for the foreseeable future. Now with our pockets full, we knew day 13 was approaching. If you weren't sure, we wanted to make enough money to buy strawberry seeds, each costing 100 gold, but they would be very profitable for us. We also didn't want to have to water them every day, so we needed iron and copper to make basic sprinklers. Knowing this would set our farm up for success down the line, we split into 2 teams. Kieran and Matt were headed to the mines, rotating between copper and iron floors, grabbing what they could, and myself and Joe would fish, generating as much money as we could. We also had rain today, so we made up for the earlier blunder by catching as many catfish as we could, earning a decent profit and collecting a good amount of resources to end the day. Day 9 was more of the same, except we swapped places. Kieran was fishing, Joe and myself were mining. The only difference today was Matt had received a letter from the wizard a few days back, so he headed off to his tower, which triggered a strange series of events. He took some of this magic potion, tripping his way through the cutscene, but apparently could now speak to these little things known as junimos in the community centre. So not a bad day for Matt. We spent the remainder of the day mining, fishing, and smelting ores, watering our crops and ending the day with a load of momentum, money, and resources. Sadly, day 10 is where everyone started to turn against me, but to start the day we got a cat, which was promptly named Gnarp Gnarp by Matt. Now, I mentioned people turning against me. Kieran kept fishing away and Joe kept busy in the mines, and Matt was also being productive, heading off to the community centre, discovering the bundles were now accessible. So he filled out and completed the spring foraging bundle, getting some spring seeds as a reward, which he planted and watered, then spent the evening fishing. I was just going to say nothing about this day, but apparently I have to talk about my day. I did start well, mining till around 2 PM until I got bored, where I then just watched Matt do his chores. Then I manually put my items into chests one by one instead of auto-organising them, and that was my day done around 8 PM, where I just laid in bed for 6 hours before the others joined me. Anyway, day 11 was the second parsnip harvest, where we all got to level 2 or as close as we could, unlocking the basic sprinkler recipe. Kieran spent his day smelting and organising the layout for the sprinklers, using stone paths to set it up. I again mined till 1, clocked out and slept the rest of the day off. Joe kept mining, ploughing forward, and Matt did another community centre run, adding items but completing no bundles. He then grabbed all these spring crops from Pierre and planted them back on the farm before clearing a path to the bottom farm entrance. This brought the end to day 11, with around 15,000 gold to our names and around 30 iron and copper bars which were ready to be used for sprinklers. It was looking good. Day 12 was the final day for any mineral or money gathering. Kieran spent it smelting and constructing the sprinklers, filling out what he could, removing any stone paths, giving us the final layout. Me and Matt watered our crops and then took off to the museum, donating what we had gathered, including some gems and some artifacts, granting us some seeds and a chicken statue as a reward. Matt then spoke to a lot of people around the valley, which he was doing more than the rest of us. He then foraged, cleared the farm and planted his seeds, watering everything along the way. Me and Joe then spent our afternoon fishing for some last-ditch money, and that brought an end to this mini project. We managed to get a lot of sprinklers in the ground and a lot of money, which was a good sign. Now, with all the preparation done, the big day was upon us, so we had a little performance meeting. We're here to discuss my performance review.
I'm going to bed.
Deciding I needed to wear the wedding veil for team morale, and with that issue closed, we headed to bed. The big day has come. We had been busting our gut for today. Well, I had spent 90% of my time wandering around, but the team was ready. Bright and early prior to the festival, we decided to water the area around the sprinklers and hoe the ground, reducing the pressure for later. With the egg festival beginning, we finished the land preparation and raced off to town for our first festival on Fumble Farm. With festivals comes opportunities to acquire new items, but for us, it was a chance to actually meet people for the first time. With that done, Matt purchased 160 strawberries. We didn't count our sprinklers, so we just made a calculated guess, meaning now it was time for the egg race. A grueling competition separating boys from men, and with pride on the line, we took our positions. And off we went, sprinting corner to corner, scouring the course, shoving Jazz into a tree and Abigail into a bin. Someone was going to come out on top, but who?
Yeah.
No. How many did you get?
I had 10.
10? What?
Joe won, crushing the closest 6 eggs with his massive 10, earning a straw hat and bragging rights for the next year. We returned to the farm and planted our strawberries before heading to bed. It still pisses me off. Following on from that, day 14 was a bit of a nothing day. We had been working hard with the goal of sprinklers and money. That was it. So when day 14 hit, we had nothing in sight for now. So as usual, we watered the crops and then looked at our beautiful strawberries. The travelling merchant did come into town, but that yielded nothing useful again, as well as the Queen of Sauce made her second appearance, teaching us a new recipe for cooking. It was also Hayley's birthday today, so we raced over with daffodils, forming a strange queue outside her bedroom. Joe then arrived later to grab a daffodil off Kieran, but he ate it right in front of him. What goes around comes around. Other than that, Joe returned Robin's lost axe, and Kieran, Joe and Matt planted 50 more parsnips, adding some extra sprinklers to the setup, as we attempted to hunt down the 5 gold quality parsnips we needed for the community centre. And with that, day 14 came to a close. Day 15 brought salmon berries to the farm, which Joe took in his stride, spending the majority of the day gathering them and also chopping plenty of wood, specifically looking to fund the 300 wood bridge project down at the beach and any other future projects. I spent a lot of my day roleplay walking around the valley, but when I was being productive, I joined Kieran in dropping down to a very respectable floor 62 in the mines before running low on energy and coming back home. Matt decided to run some more items into the community centre, dropping off a carp, cauliflower, bullhead, winter root and a yam before deciding to fish by this lake for the remainder of his day, where he headed to bed with the fish still in his pockets, where he was joined by the rest of us to end the day. Day 16 began with us watering the remaining crops not covered by the sprinklers. When me and Matt finished watering them, we set off fishing for the rest of the day. Joe did another repeat of day 15, except staying on the farm for the majority of the day, cycling between his bed and cutting down trees, cleaning up the farm as he went, which left Kieran, who continued to drop down the mines, sadly only dropping to a pitiful floor 65 before taking care of some tasks he'd put off, including visiting the community centre for the first time, completing some quest goals, and gathering salmon berries, which took up most of his evening. We all returned, heading to bed, where I hit level 5 fishing, earning a nice 1500 gold, and Matt hit level 4, where he kept holding this amethyst close to his person. I wonder what that was for. Day 17 began with a harvest of our spring seeds planted earlier, giving us some much needed foraging XP, as it was hard to come by. No! We kept some for energy and sold the remaining ones. Now, Joe was being a boring prick again. He spent most of his day chopping down trees. Thankfully, he did leave the farm today, which is better, raiding nearby bins and visiting the beach, stumbling upon Linus on his way home, also raiding the bins. I returned Robin's full-flossed axe, which happens a lot apparently. Then I joined Kieran in further attempts to drop down floors in the mines, where we made much better progress. Dropping down to floor 70, Kieran found this strange monster book. Then we ploughed down to floor 75 before time became an issue, so we turned around to go home. Matt, however, fished from dusk till dawn, getting halfway to level 5, but he wasn't there yet at the end of day 17. Day 18 was a big day for the community centre. We had our next parsnip harvest, where we managed to get to the magical number of 5 gold parsnips, ticking a big milestone off for spring. Then for Kieran, it was another day in the mines, cruising down to floor 80, unlocking the gold floors, which was another big step. He then took his leave, spending his day picking some salmon berries before tripping with the wizard. But for the rest of us, it was a day for fishing. But first, a quick pit stop at Pierre's to restock our parsnips, where me and Joe indulged in a large backpack upgrade. Matt started fishing in the river, hunting down some catfish and an array of various fish before joining me and Joe at the beach for the main attraction, eels. They were needed for the community centre and other things later on. We spent our day catching as many as we could. With Matt ending his day hitting level 5 fishing, we joined a dazed Kieran back at the farm, ending a big day, earning a nice 4,500 gold. Day 19 started with Joe entering the wizard's tower, followed by myself. We stumbled out, stopping by the travelling merchant to no avail yet again. again. Kieran quickly went into Pierre's to buy the large backpack upgrade alongside Matt. However, before Matt could leave, a commotion started between Pierre and Morris, the manager of Jojo Mart. This commotion took up the majority of his morning, in which me, Joe and Kieran used this time and the remainder of the day to drop down the floors in the mines. We had a superb day, managing to gather plenty of ores, grabbing the obsidian edge on floor 90, a huge upgrade in combat, and proceeding to drop down to floor 95, just short of 100, but we were out of time so we headed home. Matt managed to pass out, as on his way home, he was stopped by Linus raiding the bins yet again. It's strange how when we do it, it's harmless, but when he does, everyone kicks up a fuss. But the game's the game, and that brought the end to this day. Day 20 was time to spend some more money. Since we had all got our first backpack upgrade now, I decided to place my pickaxe into Clint's, spending 2,000 gold on the copper upgrade, as we were quickly approaching the bottom of the mines. Speaking of, I raced straight over, joining up with Joe and Kieran. We quickly hit the century of the floors, dropping down to floor 100, where our first star drop was acquired, reminding us of various things. Matt joined us to grab his star drop, and with the four of us together, we pressed forth, dropping floor by floor, making huge progress. And with time and energy running out, I had to eat something.
Did you eat a red mushroom and it got rid of your energy and you passed out?
Yeah.
Yeah, I died to a mushroom. But they hit floor 120, reaching the bottom of the mines and getting our hands on the skeleton key, which unlocked a door we hadn't yet come across. So we'll come back to that later. We had to race home, barely reaching our beds before 2 AM, ending day 20. Day 21 was our first strawberry harvest, a huge day indeed. Now, to keep it fair, we opted to each go in one corner of the crop layout, counting down and then gathering. We had no need to keep any, so sold them all for a juicy profit. But just as important was the morning showing of the Queen of Sauce, so we watched that, learning a new recipe before heading out. Joe then jetted down to the travelling merchant, nothing again. He grabbed his tools, taking his anger out by farming copper for the rest of the day. Kieran headed to the community centre as we were gathering a lot of items for it. He donated a purple mushroom, crystal fruit, spice berry and a wild plum, along with our old potato, followed by a shad, eel and the 5 gold quality parsnips. Then I dropped him off some more stuff, where he added the green bean, completing the spring crops bundle, unlocking the boiler room bundles, donating the 3 metal bars, finishing the blacksmith bundle, unlocking the bulletin bundles, where he finished by adding the purple mushroom to the new bulletin board bundle. I've never said bundles so much in my life. He then headed home with an idea. At the same time, I visited Gunther to donate a blue dwarf scroll, diamond and a rusty cog. If you're wondering, Matt fished his day away, earning some more money. Kieran returned to the community centre in the evening, where he finished the adventurers bundle and the geologists bundle, finishing off the boiler room. And with the first room down, I'm really starting to hate the word bundle. But we ended the day earning a nice 24,000 gold, and the Junimos fixed the broken minecart system during the night. With our pockets strapped full of gold, we wasted no time flying over to Clint's after taking care of some farm chores, where I picked up my copper pickaxe and put my axe in for upgrading. I put the copper pickaxe in a chest back at the farm, and Matt took it back to Clint's and started upgrading it to steel. Joe popped into Gunther's, donating a frozen tear and a prehistoric skull, deciding to grab the rewards whilst there. He was then off to the community centre to study what we still needed to get in spring, before donating an apricot to help things along. At the same time, Kieran was up at Robin's commissioning our first building, the coop, to begin animal farming, which is exciting. He then headed to Pierre's to replace the parsnips we'd harvested this morning, and also put his pickaxe in for a copper upgrade at Clint's. The busy day of spending was finished off with some much needed relaxation, so we fished until bedtime. Day 23 brought our second fumble in regards to fishing. You see, Stardew Valley contains 5 legendary fish, 4 being specific to a season and 1 in a future place that we haven't unlocked just yet. The legend is the springfish, caught only in rain in this spot, so with the rain crashing down, we all headed there, fishing up nothing but carps and chubs, until we got fooled again.
Have you guys had an encounter with it?
None of us were even high enough fishing level to attempt catching the legend. After we realised this, we went back to our prior fumble, fishing the day away, catching catfish and anything else we could. Let's just move on quickly, yeah? The 24th of spring, or the day of the flower dance, a festival where you can ask a partner to dance if you have enough hearts, which we didn't. So when we entered and spoke to everyone, buying a rare crow from the store, the chance of a dance looked slim. So Joe and Kieran took their spots in the back to avoid embarrassment, and then me and Matt took centre stage.
Look at the losers not dancing, eh?
Lol.
Joe and Kieran vowed never to be alone at the dance again and sulked home to end day 24. After that beautiful day, we realised that spring was quickly drawing to a close. With only 4 days left, we had reached the quarter mark of this 100 days video. So we had our final strawberry harvest, meaning one last cash injection to set us up for summer. We then went off to Clint's to collect the copper pickaxe, the copper axe and the steel pickaxe. Kieran promptly grabbed the steel one and headed to the mines to grind all the ores that he could find. I quickly stopped at Gunther's, donating a nautilus fossil, a skeletal tail, and a prehistoric tool. Back on the farm, Joe was busy working on a tree farm, with an assortment of trees that we could put tappers on for the future endeavors. I decided to put my axe to work, destroying the large tree trunks around the farm, and Matt was busy planting and destroying an assortment of trees on the farm. This is where most of the day was spent. Kieran returned with a bag full of loot, and we made some solid progress on a tree farm and planting extra seeds around the place. On day 26, I raced straight over to the traveling merchant, and finally, we got fuck all. A big tone setter for the day though. It was Pierre's birthday, so we did the usual thing and did nothing about this. But I did buy an apple tree sapling from him, so he made some good money at least. Back at the farm, Robin had finished constructing our coop, so Matt purchased 4 chickens, naming them Ganapus, Titcho, Pongo, and Dongle. So they joined us at the farm, which was a nice addition. Pongo. Having finished the tree farm, Joe spent his day smelting ores in order to expand our sprinkler empire. A little bit of subtle foreshadowing, but this is child's play compared to what's to come. But the expansion added more opportunity for profits. I helped by adding some scarecrows and planting the apple tree sapling I purchased earlier, leaving Kieran to continue his pattern of mining ores dusk until dawn to fund this sprinkler expansion. This carried on into day 27, so if you're ever wondering, he's probably in there grinding ores, chasing down as much profit as physically possible. He did pop out to give Emily a birthday present, in which we all managed to get there at the same time, which was a touch awkward. Even more awkward was the position he found me and Joe in upon entering.
Oh, family.
Trying to Jacob's spies look like that, brother. That is disgusting.
Matt then joined Willie and fished to his heart's content, whereas Joe continued his great smelting mission, creating even more sprinklers for summer, and that left me. I fished slightly away from Willie and Matt. There was some strange tension while fishing for some reason, which caused them to move away, and that's how things went. Fishing, mining, smelting, late into the night to end day 27, and move on to the final day of spring. The final day of spring was upon us. A chance for Kieran to get some last minute ore collecting done and the rest of us to fish and get some last minute gold. Whilst we did this, we made a plan. For the first day of summer, we opted to get one of every community centre crop, accompanied by 40 melons for the gold quality crops bundle, and then fill the 300 plus spots remaining up with blueberries, our summer crop of choice. Matt also took some wood and stone up to Robin's to get ourselves a nice barn commissioned, as we had just enough money spare to do it, so we might as well. So with the fishing done for the day and the sprinkler empire ready to go, we had a big day ahead of us tomorrow, so we got an early night to prepare properly. We awoke on the first day of summer in a stressed mode, rushing quickly to hoe and water all of our sprinkler spots. Kieran jetted off to Pierre's as soon as it opened to purchase the 14 melon seeds, taking our total to 40, and also a tomato, red pepper, and 305 blueberry seeds, which definitely hurt the collective finances of the group for the time being. We worked through to the evening, adding extra sprinklers to accompany our 4 starfruit seeds we earned from the museum, and soon after, it was complete. Our newly upgraded crop area housing over 350 spaces. This is a huge upgrade in earning potential. You'd think we'd take this moment to start completing other goals, but we kinda just admired our handiwork to kickstart summer on Fumble Farm. After admiring our handiwork some more, me and Matt took off early to the secret woods in search of a wood skip and some hardwood, which I managed to snag both fairly quickly. Matt wasn't as lucky. Kieran also spent his day fishing at the ocean, managing to haul in a decent amount of fish. But it was Joe who made significant progress today, foraging and delivering a sweet pea alongside a grate to the summer foraging bundle, completing it and earning some summer seeds. Then I dropped off the wood skip I'd caught, and that was it for a fairly slow day 30. Matt then felt in the giving mood, so rushed off early on day 31, dropping off a fiddlehead fern to the community centre. Back at the farm, the new barn was finished, and we were once again yearning for expansion, this time with the quality sprinkler, which requires 1 iron, 1 gold, and 1 refined quartz bar to craft. So we sent Kieran down to the mines once again to reset floors 40 and 80 over and over again, collecting the resources we'd need, whilst myself, Joe and Matt all fished to fund the future crop purchases. Joe fished by Leah's hut, I fished up and dropped off a ghost fish to the community centre, and Matt spent all day wrestling with the crimson fish down at the beach, which was the legendary summer fish, but he couldn't quite reel it in. I was off to Robin's on the morning of day 32 with a bag full of loot and some money to commission a silo, because now we had 2 sets of animals to look after, as with a quick visit to Marnie's we were now the proud carers of Megatron and Blitzcrank, the cows. We dropped off some birthday presents to Jazz. Kieran Kieran again was subjected to spending his days gathering materials for the expansion project. I dropped off an anchor to Gunther and a copper pickaxe to Clint before once again sitting at this table and doing nothing for the rest of the day. Joe and Matt decided to fish together by Leah's hut, and alongside Kieran, they managed to bring in a decent profit and haul of resources. Not a bad team effort all around, especially from me, I'd say. It was Matt's mum as the highlight of day 33, dropping off some pink cake for the whole team to enjoy. Of course, Kieran wasn't allowed any of his as he was off to the mines again, so we enjoyed ours before spending our whole day together. Literally all we did was fish from this pier, but that was it for day 33. Day 34 was the rematch for Matt as he raced straight over to the correct pier this time, with the crimson fish on his mind, but we'll come back to him a little later. Kieran did something other than mine today, which was shocking. He dropped a copper axe off at Clint's, then only mined for a fraction of the day, opting to fish by the mountain lake for some sturgeons. I mean, it's nice to see him change it up. Meanwhile, I visited the passing train, getting some decent loot before collecting my copper pickaxe from Clint's and cracking open some geodes, making some decent donations to the museum. Meanwhile, with his steel axe in hand, Joe was clearing the farm today, as well as deforesting as much of the valley as he could manage, hitting level 5 foraging in the process. Back to Matt then, who got nowhere near, so he abandoned the rematch to catch sturgeon instead, but somehow hauled in a dinosaur egg instead.
Oh, I got Jewels of the Sea. And a dinosaur.
That's a mythical pull, bro. You need to put that shit in the museum.
Which was some more fucking ridiculous luck. And that capped off a very productive day around the farm, with Joe ending the day opting for the more wood as his chosen skill. Day 35 brought rain down to the valley. Joe raced off to the traveling merchant and we actually got it. The red cabbage that we'd need to complete the community center in 100 days. So he bought it and wasted no time at all racing up to drop it off into the bundle. Also grabbing his steel pickaxe. A great start to the day. I carried this momentum on, chopping down some trees early in the day before joining the others at the ocean, where we would hunt down the red snapper, a specific rainfish needed for a bundle. Some of us having a bit more luck than others, but we managed to catch a fair few along with some other fish. I then decided to tackle the crimson fish that Matt had been defeated by a few days back. Bowing out at 6 PM before the death of the day, close to passing out, Kieran swept in and managed to reel it in before using a farm totem to get home. Was it worth it? Absolutely. I raced straight off on day 36 to donate a rare disc, a bone flute, a fire quartz and a topaz to Gunther's museum, receiving some more rewards for the farm to claim, before dropping my pickaxe in for its iron upgrade, and then capping this off by commissioning the construction of a big coop by Robin, probably my most productive stretch so far. We all then visited Gus at his saloon as it was his birthday, doing our usual daffodil gift train before Joe and Matt fished by Willie's shop, but it was time for my rematch with the crimson fish. I didn't get it, move on. Over the last few days though, our ancient fruits had begun to give us harvests, which was huge news for our future money-making endeavors. Kieran, as you probably guessed, wandered for a bit before heading back to the mines, bringing an end to day 36. On day 37, it was Matt's turn to venture into the mines, where he went to the gold floors to farm for some resources. Joe headed over to the secret woods to speak to this crow and to farm the hardwood for foraging XP, before he commenced another deforestation for the ages, scurrying all around the valley, taking plenty of trees with him alongside dropping a blackberry off at the community center. Kieran was in the mines with Matt until the afternoon, where he headed to Leah's house, deciding to fish for the rest of his afternoon. So with all three of the guys farming their respective resources, it left me to arrive for the trilogy, the rematch for the ages. The time is now. I didn't get it, just end the day. Day 38 brought the completion of the big coop upgrade from Robin, which came with a brand new incubator for us to hatch eggs in the future. We headed off to form some strange queue outside Maru's house as it was her birthday, but she wouldn't come out, I don't know why. And then it hit us, all of a sudden, tomorrow was the Stardew Valley Luau, which was a festival centered around a soup that if you place the right ingredient in, can boost your friendship with everyone. But we didn't have any of the best items. But a gold sturgeon would do it, so we fished from morning till evening, catching about 6 silver ones but no gold. So we tried our luck in the mines hunting a lava eel, but again came up short, returning home defeated going into the luau. Day 39, as I mentioned, was the day of the luau. Kieran frantically tried to fish up a lava eel, but it wasn't going to happen, so once the festival began at the beach, we grabbed the second best items and took off, arriving and speaking to everyone around the beach, greeting as many people as we could, before we added our items and waited patiently for the result from the governor, who deemed it a pleasant suit, so not the worst result. We left late into the night, ending the day of the luau. With that day behind us, Matt kickstarted the day by tending to the animals before heading to the mines for a day of grinding ores and materials on the iron floors, as he was quickly joined by Kieran, who decided to take care of the gold floors. Joe headed to the travelling cart and we were rewarded yet again, purchasing a rare seed for a future project. I was off to Clint's this morning to collect my new steel pickaxe, deciding to spend an hour in the mines testing it out before I gathered up more materials from storage and dropped some more money into a big barn upgrade from Robin, unlocking more animals for us to bring in. Then it was smelting time for me. I was processing the ores that Kieran and Matt had been bringing in, and with Joe spending his day doing random chores around the farm, that brought a close to the 40th day. Day 41 brought the completion of our melons, so we harvested them and kept a few but sold the rest, sending Matt to Pierre's to restock and replant them. Joe harvested them, collecting the one we needed for the community centre and 4 out of the 5 gold ones that we also needed for another bundle. So he decided to donate some stuff today. A red mushroom to the dye bundle, and then a sturgeon completing the lakefish bundle, alongside a cherry, cloth, an apple, and a tomato, melon, and a hot pepper, giving us some great progress. Kieran once again jumped into the mines to carry on the resource gathering, and that's how the day went. More mining, more smelting, more fishing, and overall more progress. Day 42 was blueberry harvest day, the first one of summer, so we all watched the Queen of Sauce and then took our spaces at each corner of the sprinkler system, and we got to work, harvesting an absolute shed load, including some star fruit we'd got from Gunther, and opting to keep one blueberry for the community centre and then just sell off all the remaining ones, levelling up our farming along the way. Joe then ran the blueberry in and completed the summer crops bundle, another milestone down. Speaking of milestones, with his level reaching 6 in farming, he could now craft quality sprinklers, so took as much metal bars as he could while smelting more and started the expansion, adding an initial 30 sprinklers, increasing our crop capacity to 240. Not a bad start, especially with Kieran and Matt in the mines gathering us more resources. I took my day to utilise the new barn upgrade, purchasing the GOAT Stephen Bunting, appropriately named if you ask me. I also then purchased a second rare seed from the travelling merchant and then helped Joe clear the farm for more sprinklers, leading to more money in the long run. Day 43 started with the usual, taking care of the animals, sorting inventories out, stuff like that. Then Kieran decided to plant some coffee beans today for some future speed boosts. However, it wasn't him to grace the mines today, that would be Matt, who went to farm more resources for the team. Joe was out fishing and smelting today, fishing in both the ocean and the lake, which left Kieran to complete a monumental goal for the team moving forward. He spent around 40,000 gold and completed the vault room in the community centre, paying for all 4 bundles and collecting the rewards. Then coming back to the farm and placing a jade into the new crystallarium to duplicate over time. And if you're wondering where I've been today, don't fucking ask. I failed again, okay? I'll get him one day. Matt also got to level 5 mining and chose the miner perk, so not all bad in the end. And this happened overnight too.
Demonic magic.
With shit luck today, we opted against riding the bus this morning, and it was initially looking like a return to form from Kieran as he headed straight towards the mines, grinding the different floors, but with the rain falling, he decided to fish instead by the mountains, and that's how the day ended up panning out. More of an errand running day. Matt was running around chopping trees and returning to smelt in between. Joe was smelting and mining, trying to increase our sprinkler empire, and once again that left me, and I headed straight for it. Minutes turned to hours, and as my energy ticked over to exhaustion, it was another fail, so I limped back home and did some chores around the farm to end day 44. We awoke on day 45 with a strange icon promising green rain tomorrow, and also a message about a halibut frenzy on the beach. So me and Kieran headed over there for it to promptly end 20 minutes into us arriving.
Fuck off, that lasted about 2 seconds.
Matt, however, spent his morning waiting for Sam, who he had barely spoken to, so just creepily moved from couch to couch, waiting to give him a birthday present. But he got it done and then joined us fishing. And around midday, myself and Matt moved over to the pier to try for the crimson fish another time. And on his first true day, he caught it and I failed again.
Kill yourself.
You gotta back your guys, man.
Just when it's the happiest moment of my life.
That's what I mean.
Yes, to bring it all down.
Utter heartbreak. Another failed attempt. Joe was fishing, if you were wondering, just being different and fishing elsewhere, the stupid prick. Day 46 was a very strange one. The sky was raining green and all of our blueberries and ancient fruit grew overnight. So we started the morning by picking and shipping all of them. So a nice little bonus payday. Alongside the crops growing, green trees were popping up all over Pelican Town. So myself, Matt and Kieran decided to take advantage of this and spend our days chopping down the trees to get a large amount of wood for future building projects, and to maybe make this factory of a farm look nice one day. But not today, as Joe spent his day running over to the community centre to take shelter. But whilst there, he also donated cheese to complete the artisan bundle. He also donated oak resin and pine tar, completing the exotic foraging bundle as well. Although for some reason, he didn't want to donate that 10 hay just sat in his inventory, but oh well. What a strange day on Fumble Farm this one was. Day 47 was the first bit of decent luck we'd had in a long long time. So now is the time to strike, and we headed straight to the desert. Joe went and greeted Pam to make her go faster, and once she arrived, we paid her and jumped in the bus for the first time. If you're expecting expert Skull Cavern players, look away now. I thought I'd be brave and enter first, as Kieran was setting up a tree farm. Matt was taking it all in, and Joe was foraging. It was down to me to set the tone.
Fuck off. How quick was that? That must be a speedrun or something.
Yeah, so a floor 1 death was not what I predicted. So it was down to the other 3 to bring this one home. And without Kieran, Matt and Joe managed to get down to floor 11 before way too many slimes put Joe down, ending his run.
Jesus Christ. I died.
Leaving Matt to struggle down to floor 14 before an infestation also ended him.
No. There are too many flying snakes.
By the way, Kieran, the little twat, was still out making his tree farm, then dipped his nose onto floor 1, saw 3 enemies and just came home. Not the debut Skull Cavern run any of us were expecting. We crawled into bed, but at least Harvey got paid, right? Previously, as he made it home yesterday, Kieran was able to add an extra 20 sprinklers to our empire, adding an extra 160 crop spots for us to plant, so I kinda let him off. Especially as my focus was elsewhere today, being the annual trout derby. Another test of skill with this fisherman offering 10 prizes, 1 for each ticket exchanged with him. The tickets are found attached to random rainbow trouts, so it was every man for himself. We fished all day from morning to sundown, only needing 10 tickets over 2 days for a maximum prize. And as 2 AM neared, we had to at least claim the first prize of a tent, allowing us to sleep before passing out. We ended day 1 of the trout derby with the scores on the screen now. Out of the 10 tickets needed, Kieran had 3, I had 4, Matt had 6, joined also by Joe on 6. So plenty of work to do going into day 2 of the annual trout derby. The second day, nothing much else to say. We fished and kept fishing, and we weren't leaving until we had 10 tickets that we all individually needed. Matt struck first blood, getting 10 and claiming his wealth of prizes. Then Joe struck, also getting to 10 tickets shortly after, and with a huge effort they both stuck around to help Kieran across the line, but I just fell short. Not a bad first trout derby for us all in the end, as we headed to bed. Day 50 was another big payday. Having all the fish to sell from the trout derby alongside the blueberry harvest, we got to work harvesting and selling that and all the other items, before I headed off to Gunther's to donate a prehistoric tibia, a dwarf scroll to complete our set of 4, along with elvish jewelry and a chewing stick. Then for the 4 of us, it was mainly farm chores. We set up the sprinklers with some scarecrows and rarecrows we'd collected. Myself and Matt set up these note blocks around the farm, and we could now speak to the dwarf in the mines due to the scrolls. So with it being his birthday, we gave him gifts, and finally we could buy bombs for future Skull Cavern runs. So we polished the day off with more farm work, and then headed to bed, earning a humble 83,000 gold.
83.
We were entering the final stretch of summer. With a lot of new sprinklers, we were now in a position where we needed to save up a lot of money to pay for the cranberries and pumpkins come fall. So Matt and myself went fishing. Obviously, I was still hunting the crimson fish. Joe dropped off a maple syrup and an oak resin to the community centre before heading to the mines to reset floors and grind for materials. Kieran was giving Haley gifts more frequently these days before he spent most of his day calculating how much money we'd need and how many crop spaces we had for fall. And after days of failed attempts, I finally got him.
Finally.
So I celebrated by doing nothing for the rest of the day. I'm not joking. Day 52 was Willie's birthday, so we celebrated by donating a cockle, completing the crab pot bundle, and gaining 3 crab pots as a reward. And then on his way back through town, Matt spotted Penny and George having a frosty encounter. Kieran was smelting for last minute sprinklers until he was sent down to Marnie's to purchase a duck. He called it so we had to rename it later on to his disagreement. I decided to spend my day going to watch the train come through town, yielding a few decent rewards, but nothing special, before I went on a foraging and chopping spree. Joe was once again tackling the mines, gathering mainly iron and coal, once again for the production of sprinklers. The goal of creating a beautiful farm was drifting away quickly from our vision, day by day as the factory-like design was coming to fruition. So with some extra smelting, day 52 drew to a close. Day 53 started with us harvesting the melons, giving us some extra farming XP levels as well as the 5 gold quality ones needed for the community centre. So not a bad start to the day. Today we had a new member join the farm.
Oh my god, something's hatched in there.
The dinosaur egg we incubated a while back had hatched, so whilst me, Joe and Kieran raced off to the Skull Caverns to avenge our last run, Matt was pondering about the name of the dinosaur, settling on Pitplop. He then dropped off a hot pepper to George for his knee before finally joining us in the Skull Caverns. We were making a slightly better account of ourselves, dealing with an infested floor on floor 3 before reaching floor 10, leading to the first casualty. casualty, myself yet again. And then on floor 18, Joe met his end too, joined by Matt on the same floor, just buying Kieran enough time to escape. I mean, it was a slightly better showing overall. Back on the farm, Kieran crafted 35 more quality sprinklers and expanded the empire before we headed to bed, battered and bruised. Day 54 was a nice pick-me-up, starting with a blueberry harvest, the final one of summer, so we picked them all and sent them to the shipping bin to fund our full crop project. Then Matt took himself down to Leah's hut, doing some foraging before he invited himself inside to have a conversation with her, promptly leaving to head straight to Abigail's to play some games with her. Ladies man. Back on the farm, we did one of the stupidest things we'd done yet. Kieran's fault on this one. To attempt to save us a job come full first, he bought a shit ton of wheat and spent the entire day planting it, only to realise it won't grow in time to scythe and plant all the full crops.
So is this pointless?
Arguably making the job harder. So we crawled into bed, this time our egos bruised, well actually just Kieran's, the fucking idiot. Day 55 was the penultimate day of summer, and not much at all was really needed to be said. We literally all fished in different spots all day, catching what we could to build up a little extra pocket change to buy crops. So we fished and went to bed, earning an extra 5,500 gold, not bad. Here we are then, the final day of summer, a chance to prepare for the hectic season of fall. I know it's not aesthetic, but the farm wasn't looking half bad with all the crops growing, in my opinion anyways. We received letters today, inviting us to a festival called the Dance of the Moonlight Jellies, at 10 PM tonight. So we watched the Queen of Sauce, Joe dropped off a large egg at the community centre, and then he went to see the train pass, joined by myself. And today I did my best work, I ran around. But I did help Kieran set up some extra sprinklers and calculate with him. We kinda figured out what we would need, setting up a shopping list for tomorrow, consisting of tons of crops. What a day to be Pierre it would be. Speaking of Kieran, he headed to the secret woods to chop some logs and hardwood, before quickly the evening rolled around and it was time to head to the beach. The Dance of the Moonlight Jelly signifies a calm before the storm, so we spoke to the villagers before standing on the pier and reflecting on the first half of our year, the failures and the successes along the way, and with that the jellyfishes danced the evening away, taking us from summer into the fall. To kickstart, we employed a similar strategy. When Pierre's opened, Kieran purchased an absolute shit ton, totaling to 50 pumpkins, 1 eggplant, 1 corn, 4 rare seeds we'd collected throughout the year, and over 1,000 cranberry seeds. Insanity. And the three of us would begin hoeing and watering the land, before he would return and distribute the crops. And then it was just a race against time to get everything planted, so we got to it. We opted to leave some of the wheat in the ground for the community centre, making surprisingly quick progress. I was sent to Robbins to commission a big barn upgrade, returning quickly to help the boys finish the job. And after tons of food was consumed and a lot of wheat dug up, we planted the last crops and managed to get over 1,000 crops down in one day, so we crawled into bed to end the first day of fall. Day 2 of fall started with a quick check of the farm, filling in any spots we managed to miss, adding some extra sprinklers for spare crops. Then Matt rushed off into town, running into Lewis and Robin, who were planting a special orders board in the ground, allowing for some extra quests to be taken on, meaning some extra rewards too. So Matt accepted the community cleanup quest, which tasked us with fishing up some trash for Linus. Today was also the birthday of Penny, so we all queued up again to give her as many emeralds as we could. Matt dropped off a hazelnut into the community centre, and then I followed this by dropping off a large egg, and then Kieran followed this by dropping off a common mushroom, completing the full foraging bundle. And to cap off one of our all-time most productive days on Fumble Farm, Matt decided to catch the legendary fish, the angler, followed by Kieran right at the death of the day.
Yeah, I'm leaving it for another day.
Yeah, we'll leave it one.
No, I didn't get it, just move on. Day 59 started slow, but after a lazy start, Matt headed off to the community centre to see what else we needed / could get done in full. Kieran kicked off his morning attempting to fish any new fish to add to his collection. He was followed by Joe doing a similar thing. I was also fishing today, and I managed to finally grab the legendary anglerfish.
Hold on, I'm bamboo poling this fucker.
Yeah! Joe also got it too, which meant we all had managed to catch it. Joe then headed to the desert to catch and donate a sandfish to the community centre, completing a bundle. Matt then ended the day by donating 3 apples to the fodder bundle, and emptying 18 out of 20 pieces of the trash needed for the community quest. Matt was off bright and early to complete the community cleanup quest, granting us some money, which was nice. Alongside him, Joe was off to a fast start, donating a duck egg to the community centre, completing another bundle. The two of them then exchanged their tickets for prizes at Lewis's house, before Joe Joe headed to Gunther's to donate a dinosaur egg to the collection. Me and Kieran were spending our day by Willie's shop, fishing by the ocean to catch fish we needed for our collections in full, both of us catching plenty. Then Kieran and Joe spent the remainder of the day replenishing our ores in the mines from the sprinkler expansion. Matt spent it fishing around the valley, and come on, you know I did fuck all this evening, opting for an early night. Day 61 began with the usual chores of caring for the animals, then I was off to the travelling car, which delivered again. We snagged a rabbit's foot for 3,000 gold, meaning we wouldn't have to get one in year 1, and we could wait until we had more money later, which was huge. I then made a huge investment, spending 16,000 gold on a pig, and after Joe wouldn't let me name it after his mum, Snoinky was brought to the farm. Joe was once again off to the mines, grinding for ores and combat XP. Kieran dropped a gift off to Haley before joining Joe in the mines for the day, looking for gold specifically. Matt, being a good citizen, gave Elliot a birthday present before spending his day fishing by the ocean, and I spent my whole day fishing in the desert, trying to add every fish I could to my collection. Rain fell over the valley on day 62, prompting us to head towards the mines to fish, specifically looking for the rain-only fish found in fall, like walleye. Whilst me, Matt and Kieran were doing this, Joe raced over to the community centre to drop off 10 pieces of wheat, completing the fodder bundle, giving us a radiator for our animals, crucial for winter. He then visited Pierre's to plant some extra pumpkins and then joined us fishing, and that's how the day went. Kieran went into the mines for a bit but mainly spent it fishing, until Joe and myself peeled away to donate an eggplant that had grown and the walleye, which completed yet another bundle for us to end day 62. Matt's day 63 began with an encounter with Elliot at his cabin, where the two shared a deep conversation. Then he went and met Willie, who showed him the rock had cleared at the mines, and he gifted him and the rest of us a copper pan in order for us to pan for resources. And then on his whistle-stop tour of the valley, he saw Linus skinny dipping by the mines. Strange guy. Meanwhile, the travelling merchant rewarded us yet again, this time with a truffle, meaning we didn't need to buy that pig, typical. But we bought it and I ran up to the community centre to donate it, before spending my day in the mines, where I was joined by Kieran in the evening. Meanwhile, Joe had grabbed our geodes and with the help of Clint, spent his afternoon crushing geodes for potential artifacts. After a few runs, he was able to donate Erenite, Obsidian, a dwarf gadget, and marble to the museum, before he returned to Clint's and repeated the cycle, this time donating a ghost crystal, malachite, a petrified slime, a thunder egg, celestine, sandstone, and slate. What a shift from Joe. And he spent his evening doing farm chores to round out day 63. Day 64 brought the growth to a lot of our cranberries. However, we opted to wait an extra day in order to harvest all the cranberries at the same time. So myself and Matt took off to the desert early to pan for some ores and also fish up whatever we could find. And then Joe and Kieran joined and it was all about the skull caverns. We fought harder than our previous attempts, making it down to floor 14 before racing home. Not very deep, I'll admit, but at least there were no embarrassing deaths, and we brought home some decent loot. It was finally time for the morning of day 65, Cranberry Day. With all the ores, coal, and money invested, it was time to harvest a huge field of crops. So we all took our positions at each corner and got to work. After 4 hours of pure harvesting, with a lot of level ups and an absolute shit ton of cranberries, we piled them all into the shipping bin and felt pride in our work. Then with our tails up, we headed again to the skull caverns, and it was looking absolutely wonderful. We were dropping floors rapidly, until floor 21, where in about 30 seconds our whole team was decimated by these fucking pricks.
There's a mummy.
Bro got spawned.
Oh
Cam.
my
There
god,
goes
that's
another
BS.
one. I'm down as well.
Not the end of the day we were hoping for after that promising start, but we did earn a humble 190,000 gold from our cranberry harvest, so there's been a worse day I suppose. Thankfully on day 66, the Queen of Sauce was able to calm us back down, before I jetted off to Gunther's to donate a prehistoric rib. Kieran was also on the move to Clint's, dropping his steel pickaxe in for its gold upgrade, which I also did shortly afterwards, followed by Matt too. Matt grabbed all of our construction ingredients before setting off to Robin's. However, before he could order something, he was caught in the middle of something, but he got out of it, deciding to upgrade his main house, which would unlock the kitchen for us to begin the absolute monster cooking collection. Kieran then spent his day picking blackberries, whilst me and Matt did a combination of fishing and disturbing Linus in his tent, before finding and reading the Bait and Bubbles book for some fishing XP, to close out a rather slow day 66. Day 67 is time for some honesty. We've been growing ancient seeds since early on due to the lucky find way back on like day 4, and had accumulated a decent amount of fruit. So Kieran constructed a seed maker, and since I like to just watch other people play the game for hours at a time like you've seen, I watched him routinely enter the fruit for the 1 to 3 seeds it spits back out, until we both collected it at the same time by accident and noticed we both got the seeds. And it was like little kids getting their dream Christmas present. So we got Matt to join in and giggled when it worked with the 3 of us.
3, 2, 1, go.
I got it.
I got it as well.
Oh my god.
So then Joe also joined in and we processed the fruit, laughing and thinking we were geniuses. We ended up with a decent chunk of seeds, enough for the entire greenhouse to be filled when we eventually unlocked it. So I could have lied, but we spent the whole day doing this. If you want a reason, we gaslit ourselves into thinking it was a mechanic, as most of us have never built a seed maker before in this game. Other than that, we gave gifts to Jodie as it was her birthday and did some routine chores around the farm to end this day. Day 68 brought the traveling merchant back into town, and surprisingly, she didn't have anything good for once. Poor from her, really. So we all opted to head to Pierre's once again, each dropping 10,000 gold on a bigger backpack. The cranberry money was beginning to be splashed. We were then off to Clint's, picking up our freshly upgraded gold pickaxes, while Kieran dropped off his axe for a steel upgrade before he went fishing, joined by Matt hunting for salmon, as Matt earlier had grabbed the aquatic overpopulation community quest from the board in town. I grabbed a bunch of geodes and headed to Clint's to crack them open for some artifacts and minerals, dropping down to Gunther's to donate the ancient drum, opal, esperite, star shards, geminite, pyrite, tiger's eye, flora petite, calcite, and finally the lemon stone. Jesus Christ, that was a long fucking list. So I took off to join the boys and fish for salmon. If you're wondering what Joe did today, he stood in his doorway for about 5 hours, and he complains at me, hypocrite. Joe returned to life on day 69, taking care of the animals before Pierre saw another influx of people, this time to bombard his daughter with amethysts. Matt's day had finally come, but he took care of this later, opting to fish for the remaining salmon, joined by myself and then Joe, which we cleaned up no problem. After later gifting her the gem, Matt had numerous encounters with Abigail that day, including graveyards and games, a strange mix. Meanwhile, Joe dropped Marnie off an amaranth and then carried on with me fishing the day away, where I would hit level 10, eventually choosing more money from fishing, leaving Kieran to spend his whole day cracking geodes and running any artifacts to Gunther's. I'm not listing every fucking item again, even though he wrote them all in the script, but I just know he donated stuff to the museum to end day 69. Day 70 brought a mega harvest to the farm, but first, an episode of the Queen of Sauce to keep us humble. Also, after Kieran's donation fest yesterday, Gunther popped by to drop off a rusty key for donating 60 items to his museum. That doesn't seem like a fair trade to me, but it's fine. All the cranberries were ready to go this time, and so were the pumpkins. So you know the drill by now. We took to our corners, counted down, and went to town, with Kieran this time getting over the line to hit level 10 farming, alongside Joe. We also smashed the 5 gold quality pumpkins we needed, so ended up selling a lot of our harvest, saving some for gifts down the line. Joe then ran up to the community centre to drop off a fried egg he made in Matt's new kitchen, before we all gathered around, inserted the rusty key and entered the sewer, where it was love at first sight, as Matt laid eyes on Krobus for the first time. As we were all excited by the income of money tomorrow, we impulse purchased star drops from him, and then one by one spent the rest of the day catching the legendary fish, the mutant carp. We then headed to bed and earned another 195,000 gold, opting to choose the artisan perk at level 10 farming. What a day this was. Jodie was on our doorsteps on day 71, asking us to bring a largemouth bass to her house for dinner, so we prepared for that but never went. Then I was straight off to the community centre to drop off some gold pumpkins and complete the quality crops bundle, also dropping off a pumpkin to the full crops bundle. Today though, I put my standing around to use. Whilst the other 3 tackled the skull caverns, I scoured the wiki, putting together our best 9 items for the Stardew Valley Fair. Meanwhile in the mines, they did the usual. Dropped to around floor 15, this time 18, and immediately lost Kieran.
Someone's got like 6 chasing him.
Yeah, it's fucking me. I'm dead.
This time though they pressed on, and earlier that day Joe had found 2 prismatic shards, which was insane luck.
2 prismatic, oh my god, 2 prismatic shards just then.
So after the pair of Joe and Matt dropped to floor 22, they left the caverns and took their prismatic shards to this shrine area before this happened.
Oh my god. What's happening to me?
And they both acquired the Galaxy Sword, a very powerful weapon, so we headed to bed feeling successful. And to add to this, the bundle Joe completed allowed us to unlock the greenhouse, thanks to the Junimos. Day 72 brought the day of the Stardew Valley Fair, so after admiring our new greenhouse, we took off to the fair. I set up a beautiful display, containing mostly fish but some gems, wine, and mushrooms. And then when Lewis gave it a look, he declared us the winner over Pierre's shocking display, which came in second. Then it was on to gambling. We played games for tokens token which we could then gamble to make more, which after enough trial and error allowed us to buy mainly the star drop alongside some other items before we returned home, ending another amazing festival. Day 73 brought some luck to the valley, so with the newly crafted bombs on Kieran, me and Joe joined him in the Skull Caverns. Meanwhile, Matt had to play peacemaker between the dwarf and Krobus before joining Alex and Haley in a conversation. Meanwhile, with the addition of bombs and some spicy eels to our roster of equipment, we descended the floors much quicker, and Joe's new sword was definitely helping with the enemies. This time finding a good combination of holes allowing us to drop much further, alongside some ladders. Quickly breaking our record and passing floor 25, completing Mr. Key's quest. We kept pressing forward, gathering as much loot as we could along the way, eventually making it to floor 50 before bailing out and heading home, closing out day 73. Day 74 we saw that luck was once again on our side, so we brushed Marnie's birthday aside to dive back into the Skull Caverns, quickly restocking on bombs before we entered. Even with his new Galaxy sword, Matt traded with an enemy to die on floor 24. Not his favourite place, the Skull Caverns, so we pressed on without him, gathering some more gems and ores, dropping to floor 44, so a day on par with yesterday, well apart from Matt having a 90% death rate down here. Kieran hit level 10 mining though, opting for more coal as we were going to need it down the line. Day 75 brought us 3/4 of the way through this 100 days. I awoke clutching Mayor Lewis's shorts, which admittedly looked worse than it was, but everyone quickly forgot about that incident as it was another cranberry harvest day, so we did the usual. We went to our corners, harvested all the crops and then shipped the majority of them. Joe then took off to the community centre, completing the Enchanter's bundle by dropping off the missing pomegranate. I took a trip to Gunther's to drop off a dried starfish. Luckily for me that was it, so I gave Lewis's shorts back before also heading to the community centre, where I dropped off a duck feather I'd found in the morning whilst doing animal chores, and this completed the dye bundle for us. Joe then made the first steps to our future wealth empire by crafting some kegs, opting to use the fruit cave as a temporary place to keep them for now. Before we get to Kieran, Matt spent his day giving out gifts and completing quests before him and Caroline drank some tea, which wiped him out for a while. Kieran spent his day doing another big thing for the future, placing down iridium sprinklers and filling the greenhouse with ancient fruit, which Joe helped to water to close out an action-packed day. Now an issue had cropped up that put the whole video in jeopardy. We had made a mistake and it was a big one. We forgot to plant a poppy in the summer, which we needed to finish the community centre in this 100 days.
This old bent one. Oh, plant pot.
Wait,
Where?
I knew it! We can do it! We can do it! We can do it!
So we desperately tried to grow one, but nothing was working.
Sunflower, furry rose.
Hold on, let me check the wiki.
So for now, we relied on the travelling merchant Gambit. With the bad luck, it was more farm chores today. Kieran expanded the furnace area and smelted as much as he could. Joe put his axe in for a copper upgrade alongside Matt, however he went for his steel axe upgrade. And then the rest of the day was spent by us all doing random chores, mainly completing little quests that we'd built up over time. So it involved a lot of gift giving and a lot of weird cutscenes. Day 77 brought a decent amount of luck, so with any excuse for a Skull Cavern run, Joe raced off to speed up Pam while we did the chores around the farm. This time, with it being Sunday, Kieran grabbed our excess of jade and traded for 40 staircases, which he used to plow us all the way down to floor 41, allowing the rest of us to join him and grab any important resources he missed on the way down. He kept jumping down floors where the rest of us joined him, and as we passed floor 70, then 80, then 90, eventually reaching floor 95, agonizingly close to the 100 mark, but we had to dip. We brought home a lot of iridium ore and a lot of other important minerals, so a huge day going into the last week of fall. With the successful trip to the Skull Caverns, we dropped off our loot from yesterday and like addicts, we went straight back. Pam must be making a fortune. Kieran grabbed his Galaxy sword using a prismatic shard we found yesterday and we went to work, trying to utilize the good luck to our advantage once again. Without any staircases, we had to go at it with bombs only, causing me to die on floor 36. They then got down to floor 43, but a prehistoric floor halted their progression for a while, so they got down to floor 46 before they had to give it up. Still a decent day though. Matt stayed back due to his death recently, opting to fish, chop trees, and grab new community quests to close out day 78. With the night bringing a strong windstorm, fuck knows what that does, we woke up, took care of the usual chores, then Matt constructed 8 bait makers, which would give us 4 to 5 deluxe bait per day per machine, so a great investment. With the influx of cash over fall, we took to some upgrades. Myself, Joe and Kieran headed to Clint's, all purchasing iridium pickaxe upgrades for an eye-watering 25,000 gold each. The spending continued as we purchased some iridium rods from Willy, maxing out our fishing potential. I then headed to the mines to catch a lava eel. Joe and Matt completed the Biome Balance community quest, and Kieran expanded our crystallarium setup for more jade, before gifting me with the greatest gift I've received yet to round out the day.
Face us. Oh my God, it is such an upgrade.
Day 80 brought the final harvest of our cranberries for the full season, so we picked them all and opted to keep them. Kieran suggested holding them as we can build some preserve jars to produce jellies and supplement our income during winter, so we held over 1,500 cranberries. It was George's birthday, so some of us dropped him off a present. Knowing that we'd need max hearts with everyone was beginning to look like a colossal task. I had a classic day, fishing for a fish I caught yesterday before clocking out at 6. Then I hovered on the farm for a while and then headed to bed. Matt went on a woodcutting rampage to fund a project, that project being the preserve jars which Kieran set in motion, buying a shit ton of coal and some wood. Also, we commissioned a shed on the farm, as our storage was getting out of hand. He placed the preserve jars down and filled them, and then joined me in sleeping to end day 80. Day 81 was a big day. Our sweet gemberry we'd planted weeks ago already, so we took them to the secret woods, exchanging 1 berry for 4 star drops.
Yay, my mind fills with thoughts of car.
Not a bad exchange rate. Alongside this big upgrade, we grabbed our brand new iridium pickaxes, with Kieran opting to place a gold axe in for an upgrade. Matt decided he needed a training arc, so headed solo to the skull caverns and battled everything, dropping down to floor 17 before calling it a day. Back in Pelican Town, I searched my collection of fish and headed to the mines to try and catch a ghost fish, which I managed to get before returning for my well-earned rest. Kieran and Joe were also fishing in the mines, but they were hunting lava eels, to no avail, so everyone returned home, ending the day. Well, some of us made it to bed. It was the eve of Spirit's Eve, and as you've probably gathered by now, any signs of good luck only means one thing. Matt rather timidly stayed back, opting to chop trees, leaving the 3 of us to plow as deep as we could get into the skull caverns. We made it easily past floor 50, finding treasure floors along the way, where Matt plucked up the courage and caught up with the team. We extended our stay down to floor 60, picking up some great loot and a lot of iridium ore, before we waited as late as we possibly could before popping a farm totem and heading to bed. Day 83, or the day of Spirit's Eve, was upon us, but that wasn't until 10 PM, so we still got to work doing other things. Whilst waiting for the festival, I carried on work on my fishing collection, gathering the ice pip and the goby. Back on the farm, the first cranberry jelly round was finished, so Kieran sold and replenished that before helping to move items on the farm around, as Matt was tasked with leading the new storage room creation. He first moved some buildings around and then started work on the room. Joe spent his day following in my footsteps, fishing throughout the mines for what he needed for his collection, but before long, the clock ticked to 10 PM and the festival began. Feeling incredibly underdressed compared to everyone else, we spoke to everyone before absolutely destroying the maze, grabbing the golden pumpkin as a reward, which Joe sold immediately. Idiot. But we quickly left the party as we had winter to prepare for, with only 1 day left in fall. With the final day of fall, I opted to give myself a day off. I'd earned it, so I kinda just watched Matt do the storage room before completing some really small tasks. I don't want to exert myself too much, you know, but I always have enough energy for the Queen of Sauce, so I made sure to watch that. Kieran grabbed his gold axe from Clint's before heading to the desert to destroy and replant as many trees as he could manage, before returning home to smelt the evening away. Joe headed to Clint's too today, but to grab his axe and crack open as many geodes as he could, selling duplicate minerals and storing the new ones away as Gunther was shut when he finished. A tomorrow's job. And with Matt continuing to create the storage room under my watchful eye, day turned to night, and just like that, fall was over. We headed to bed and prepared ourselves for winter. The first day of winter. Most take this as a sign to slow down and maybe make the farm look a bit nicer, but not us. That goal can wait for the 200 days. We stepped out to see no crops, which made us thankful for the cranberry jelly business we'd started to keep the money flowing. Matt had a strange encounter with a Krobus looking figure before he took off. He then found him in this bush where he handed us a magnifying glass for our troubles. Matt then dropped off a birthday gift to the real Krobus. Kieran commissioned his hoe for an upgrade at Clint's before he headed to the desert to chop wood all day. Joe was out foraging, and once he had found what he needed, he donated a crocus and a snow yam, completing the winter foraging bundle. And with that, completed the penultimate room, leaving only the bulletin board and that stupid poppy left. Speaking of which, after working on my fishing collection all day, me and Kieran returned to the greenhouse for one last desperate effort, and just as all hope was lost.
Sunflower. Tulip. Sunflower.
Poppy! With the poppy now growing in our greenhouse, that means that we could complete the community centre just in time before the 100 days ends, as long as we didn't forget to water it. We finished the day by planting some winter seeds before working on the storage shed and then crawling into bed. Day 2 of winter, or day 86, began with Kieran replacing the jellies and selling them off for a nice 16,000 gold injection, before he was off to the desert yet again, chopping, trading and fishing his way around. Matt spent his whole day back back at the farm though, spending it working on his storage room, which was progressing as items were beginning to get transferred in. Me and Joe spent the morning and the afternoon fishing by Leah's, working on that fishing collection we needed for perfection, before I headed to the ocean, whereas Joe went to Gunther's to do another artifact run. Time for another big list. He donated Jamborite, Helvite, a fairy stone, Lunarite, Basalt, Granite, a dwarven helmet, Nekoite, or however the fuck you say that, and finally limestone. And our museum was looking beautiful, and more importantly, very nearly complete. So he came back to fish some more before heading to bed, ending the day. It was Linus's birthday today, and Joe, who couldn't give two shits, got straight on Pam's bus and spent his day doing a solo Skull Caverns run to work on his combat XP, dropping to a measly floor 18. Poor Linus. Anyway, we'll leave him to do that. Whilst back at the farm, Kieran was at Robin's commissioning a second shed, intending to fill it with crystallariums to increase jade production, which equals more staircases for the Skull Caverns. He popped over to Clint's to take his new copper hoe and immediately commissioned a steel one, before deciding to give Matt a hand with his storage shed, which after another solid day of work was complete. A huge upgrade moving forwards. That left me. I spent my afternoon clearing the quarry, which we could now access due to the bundles we'd completed, and after clearing some of it, headed into the quarry mineshaft, clearing through it and reaching this statue, claiming the golden scythe as my own, before doing some more clearing and heading home to end day 87. I followed Kieran's blueprint on day 88, taking my hoe to Clint's to upgrade it to copper, before the next installment of my legendary fish story began. The glacier fish is caught here, as you can see, and he's a bit fast, but not fast enough for me, as this time we don't need 3 weeks for me to catch him. Result: Joe once again dipped into the Skull Caverns solo, getting to floor 24, but mainly he was looking for combat XP. And then Matt, with his newfound freedom, took off to the quarry to claim his golden scythe, before joining me in fishing his day away. If you're wondering, Kieran spent his day completing quests he's had overflowing for weeks, so he got his catching up done on day 88. Whenever that luck dice shines bright green, you know what time it is. Armed with plenty of food, bombs, and all 4 of us having galaxy swords, as I claimed mine before heading in, it was Skull Caverns time. We've done this plenty of times now, so I won't bore you with any details. Plenty of holes, infested floors, and iridium later, we made it all the way down to floor 90 without any staircases, collecting a bucket full of loot before we all totemed. Oh wait, go back a sec. Yeah, Matt died again. And due to the time, whilst we just made it to bed, he passed out, a broken man on Harvey's very cold floor. Day 90 was a day back at the farm, so Joe took one of the prismatic shards we acquired yesterday and donated it to Gunther, ticking another one off the list, before stopping in at Clint's to upgrade his axe to gold. Matt finally got his iridium pickaxe upgrade started, and then decided to accept the prismatic jelly quest, which tasked us in hunting a prismatic slime down and killing it for its loot. And after checking the regular mines, I went to clear the quarry some more, popping into the cave, and there it was. So I handed it over to the wizard to finish the quest. Joe took himself to the woods to catch the glacier fish, and surely he couldn't. First try, great, so happy for him. So he and Kieran went to the quarry where they found 2 more golden scythes, making the feeling a little less special when you realise everyone can get one. Matt was found later that evening tripping with Emily, so the ladies' man strikes again to end day 90. Day 91 began with Pierre boasting about new seeds being available at the start of year 2. So after rushing him out the farm, Joe took off to the travelling merchant, passing by the new shed. She didn't have anything we wanted. I just wanted to tell you that the new shed had been finished. But he did then water the poppy, which we all had forgot to do, meaning it would now be ready very close to the end of the first 100 days. But today was Jelly Day, so Kieran sold them and replaced them all before everyone rushed to give Caroline birthday gifts. It was then his turn to try and catch the glacier fish, but it took him more than first try, so I'm quite calm about the situation. To help my own and the team's fishing collections, but mainly my own, I increased our crab pot supply by the beach and then fished alongside them for a while. And then to end the day, Matt tried and failed to catch his own glacier fish. And I'm saying that with a big smile on my face. Not so easy, is it, Matt, huh? Anyway, on to day 92. Day 92 was a chance for us to plant a few seeds we could plant, which consisted of glowberries and winter seeds, so not a lot of options. Joe grabbed the rock rejuvenation quest where we had to give Emily some crystals for some reason. Then at 10 AM it was time for the Festival of Ice. A simple festival where after visiting the shops and speaking to villagers, a fishing contest begins where it's every man for themselves yet again. You get 2 minutes to catch the most fish, with pride on the line, so we began. Matt adopted an unusual tactic and the fish began to flow in. It was incredibly close, but I managed to win this time, catching 6 compared to the closest 5. A great day for me and my favourite festival, and I can't wait to win again next year. Day 93 started with some quick chores. I put my hoe in for its steel upgrade, Matt foraged by the beach, Joe collected gems for Emily, and Kieran, after giving enough, reached 8 hearts with Hayley, so he gave her a bouquet early in the morning. Matt walked into Sebastian's room unannounced, he has a habit of doing that, before picking up his iridium pickaxe pickaxe from Clint's and chatting the afternoon away with Krobus. After his successful morning now dating Haley, Kieran dropped a gem off to Emily from Clint. Bit of a weird quest giving a gem from a grown man, but we moved. Keeping his quests completely going, he dropped off a squid to Willie before heading back to the farm to replenish his jellies. I went back to the quarry for some reason, so I gave myself an early night because I earned it. And Joe finished the quest for Emily before heading to bed himself. Slightly good luck washed over the farm, so you know what that means. Skull Caverns time. So we ignored Sebastian's birthday and headed straight there. We ploughed all the way down, but like usual, we lost someone. Kieran ran into a mummy on floor 42 and was sadly lost. And then in the territory of Iridium bats, they proved too much for Matt, who died there too. So he spent the rest of his evening with Linus, leaving me and Joe to hit a respectable floor 76 before heading back home. Another decent run. Joe was straight off to the train on day 95, getting a pretty shit haul, but worth the go anyway. Matt then moved the second shed up to the top to start the project before finding out you can paint buildings, making this monstrosity. After his success, he did a victory lap of the mines for the remainder of his day. 2 raccoons had commandeered this tree and were asking for food. They asked me for dried crystal fruit and a powder melon jelly, so I set up the equipment in my house and set off to work, before just walking about for 9 hours, just getting my steps in. Joe then went over to Gunther's, which means I have another list to read out. He donated kyanite, oh, and that's it. And then he spent the rest of his evening foraging. He does nothing for this farm, I tell you that. This left Kieran, who worked all day on his new factory shed, adding over 20 furnaces and filling the remainder of the space with as many crystallariums as he could craft, filling them with a mixture of jade and ruby. The 12th of winter brought good luck, but this time we weren't heading to the Skull Caverns, as the Squid Fest came to town, where the goal is simple. Head to the beach and fish as many squid as possible, over a course of 2 days. Day 1 you need 8 squids to get all the rewards, and day 2 you need 10 to get them all. So we got to work. Kieran got off to a flying start, having 4 before some of us even arrived. And as the hours passed and more fish were caught, it was eventually Kieran at 9 PM to get all 8 and grab the rewards, which included a rare pearl. He was followed by Matt at 11 PM, and then just as all hope looked lost, I hit a buzzer beater to get it done at 1:30 AM and passed out honorably. And Joe only got 5, the loser. Lucky for Joe, there was another day of this, with new rewards, but 10 squids were needed, with us all starting back on 0. And this time things were different. Kieran, with a bit too much confidence, stayed back for a bit, doing the cranberry jelly harvests, and then he got off to a slow start, so a nightmare scenario. I also started pretty terribly alongside Matt, but Joe was flying today, having his 10 by 12 AM, shortly followed by a monumental comeback from me, hitting another buzzer beater at 1:30 AM, and I passed out yet again. Sadly for Kieran, he fished up the 10, just passed out as he caught the 10th squid. And Matt, let's just leave Matt alone. Not a good day for him. So we all either passed out or headed to bed to end the Squid Games. With only 3 days to go, we sold most of the rewards and fish early in the morning. Then Joe grabbed a chest and all of our geodes and went on an absolute tear at Clint's. He stayed there for as long as he could, processing all the geodes, hoping for some artifacts or minerals that we were missing. But the museum was shut by the time he finished, so we won't know until tomorrow. After visiting the quarry and the train, Matt was able to donate to Gunther's and added a trilobite to our collection, before he headed to have another crack at the glacier fish, which he failed. I indulged in the new squid hat I'd won before picking up my steel hoe before joining Kieran in waiting outside Harvey's clinic to give him a birthday gift. Speaking of Kieran, he traded our jades at the Desert Trader and then headed back to his shed to smelt. I sat on this chair for a few hours and pondered on the fact that we had 2 days until the 100 and we still hadn't completed all our goals yet. All to play for though. Let's get one of them goals done then. After all the bundles and hours spent donating items, I entered the greenhouse and there it was, the one that nearly got away. Barely hitting the deadline, I raced over to the farmhouse and passed the baton over to Joe, who entered the community center placing the final piece of the puzzle, and it was complete. The community center was finished. Saying goodbye to the Junimos, Joe then headed over to Gunther's, donating a strange doll, barite, mudstone, and dolomite, before finally joining us in the Skull Caverns where we were chasing another goal. Kieran had 69 staircases from the trader, so we manually pushed our way down to floor 30 before he started to staircase his way down to the bottom. Finding multiple treasure rooms and plenty of iridium, he popped out at floor 103. And when we followed him down, I met a special someone on floor 100, Mr. Key, who I have a feeling is going to be an important character moving forward. So I drank his iridium snake milk, increasing my health just as the night market opened its doors. I bowed out at floor 101 to go visit it, but with the knowledge that the night market was going to be there tomorrow as well, I didn't do too much, as Matt and Joe stayed following the path Kieran laid, picking up ores and gems he missed, because he focused solely on going as deep as he could, reaching floor 164 before having to head home. He was joined by everyone else as we headed to bed on the eve of day 100. Now here we are, day 100, and we kept it incredibly simple. We did some chores around the farm, took it all in. It wasn't quite a beautiful farm in the traditional sense, but we loved it all. So we took a stroll over to the community center with its new exterior, and at midday, everyone came came to enjoy the fruits of our labour. It looked incredible, and for renovating it, we were awarded the Stardew Hero trophy. But before we could celebrate, Morris entered from Jojamar, and Pierre stood up to him. After some light peer pressure from Matt, this happened.
Oh, because.
He's gone through the. We've just repaired this. Come on.
Fuck.
So with Jojamar out of business in the valley and the community centre restored, we paraded our trophies home and took a walk around to take it all in, before heading to the night market, where after exploring and enjoying the festival, we headed down in the submarine. Well, most of us went down in the submarine.
Oh, it's currently in use. You didn't fucking let me in.
Oh, I thought it was one person. Sorry.
Cunts.
So Kieran remained at the night market whilst we fished for any brand new fish, before time was up and we headed to bed thinking about how far our Fumble farm had come, making way over the 1 million gold mark, completing the community centre and having a sort of nice farm, but perfection was still the ultimate goal on all of our minds, as day 100 drew to a close. Day 101 started with some housekeeping. Kieran funneled through hundreds of letters he'd left unattended while sleeping at Matt's for the first 100 days, learning plenty of new recipes.
Why am I getting so many cooking recipes?
Kieran and I were the only ones to remember the wizard's birthday today, so we dropped him off a void essence before collecting my copper watering can from Clint's and heading to the night market early to help set up. Naturally, I'm sure you were expecting more of a productive start given the goal of perfection, but we'd just come back, so took it all in before 5 PM rolled around, and the rest joined me at the night market. Previously, Kieran had been left at the surface, but this time joined us in the submarine, where we spent the whole time fishing up blobfish, spookfish, and midnight squid, as we were trying to complete our fishing collections, and that drew day 101 to a close. Day 102 brought the best luck possible, so as quick as we could, we took care of the farm chores and headed straight off to the skull caverns, dropping through holes and ladders, finding a prehistoric floor on floor 21 before continuing to drop down floors as around 2 AM rolled around. We had shockingly all made it down. No, I died on floor 62, leaving Joe, Matt and Kieran to drop down to floor 80 before surfacing just in time to make it to bed, bringing home plenty of loot between the 4 of us. After dusting myself off from yesterday, I was taking a walk when this truck driver called me over, asking for a rabbit's foot and that he'd make it worth my while. So I followed this with no question or suspicion, and it paid off as he gave me a permanent luck increase, disproving the theory of stranger danger. Joe was in town too, but he was grabbing another special order. This time Gus was asking for a shit ton of eggs for his omelettes, so we got to work on that, dropping him off 24 eggs straight away, and now we had to just collect 24 new ones from our chickens to complete the quest. Not bad. Matt was off to see Krobus again today, dropping him off a pumpkin before he found a stone Junimo statue near the community centre, before also giving that truck driver a second rabbit's foot. Kieran spent his day in the desert, deforesting his previously built tree farm, whilst also restocking it with new seeds, as we were going to need a lot of wood for our Keg Empire plans. So I joined him on this endeavour before returning to the farm, where a rather distressed Joe summoned Kieran to quickly harvest the first ancient fruit harvest we had completely forgot about. This meant we had now got enough ancient fruit to start producing wine, which would triple the profit to around 2,500 gold per bottle, so I understand Joe's urge to get this done. Like a gift from the gods, day 104 brought insane luck yet again. However, through pure willpower alone, we resisted the allure of the skull caverns, as there was too much to get done back on Fumble Farm. Firstly, it was Evelyn's birthday, so cue the bombardment of diamonds to her, which began with Matt bright and early. Then after some consideration, the tree farm was reimagined, as it was only producing 6 oak resin a week, and we needed way more to produce wine, as each keg required 1 oak resin. So Matt and Joe repurposed it, whilst I dropped my watering can at Clint's for its steel upgrade, before grabbing the 41 kegs that Kieran had already made using our current stock of oak resin, and ran them to the quarry, placing them down alongside the first batch of ancient fruit to be turned into wine, before accidentally interrupting this strange crystal ritual Emily was doing, which put us all out of commission for the rest of the day. Day 105 started with a request from Robin for 10 pieces of hardwood, so after Matt helped Willy with his crab problem, he speedrun through quests, giving Clint an iron bar, Marnie a piece of amaranth and a cave carrot, and then finally giving Robin her hardwood. Kieran dropped a diamond off to Haley, and Joe dropped his watering can off at Clint's, and then visited the raccoon's new house before we all headed to the skull caverns for a cheeky afternoon session. We couldn't resist it twice in 2 days, could we? I grabbed 80 staircases from the trader and actually opted to fish and chop trees instead, so they only managed to reach floor 34, and due to the lack of time, we all headed home and went to bed. With only a week left until the end of our first year on Fumble Farm, we still had things to do before spring, so I waited until Pam's hangover was gone and then headed to the desert. desert, spending my whole day decimating the tree farm for wood and foraging XP, before replanting it and returning to study the calendar. I do work hard, as you can see. The same can't be said for Joe though, who did virtually nothing until 2 PM before heading to the Skull Caverns with Matt, both of them working on their combat XP to try and get level 10. Matt did stop by the bookseller in town before this, but didn't make a purchase today, leaving Kieran, who did help me in the desert chopping trees, but returned for a more important goal. He completed the revamped tree farm, stocking only oak trees, and made some tree fertilizer to speed up the growth process before turning in to end the day. Day 107 was Leah's birthday, so we kept up our worrying trend of queuing up outside her cabin to give her an array of gifts. Matt stuck around to speak to her about her toxic ex, but as he only had eyes for Krobus, he didn't quite understand her. Joe once again did his best me impression, doing some little chores but mainly running around and heading to bed early. I, on the other hand, was actually being productive, crafting and adding to our keg empire by the quarry, before popping by Clint's for my steel watering can, before studying my hearts, which were improving at least. Kieran was polishing off his remaining quests that he could do today, gifting his way around the valley, before marveling at his growing tree farm, and smelting his day away. Whilst getting my steps in, I bumped into the wizard by the train track, where I spotted the witch fly by before being instructed to speak to Krobus about a dark talisman, and after doing so, he opened a passage for me to explore, so I scrapped my way to the chest and acquired the dark talisman. Before leaving, I fished for a while, catching the slime jack, so I called it a night on an action-packed day for myself. As we awoke on day 108, it had slipped all of our minds that today was winter 24, the eve of the Feast of the Winter Star, so we all checked our letters to see who we had got for Secret Santa, some of us happier than others. Matt was scavenger hunting today, using his secret notes, finding a solid gold Mayor Lewis statue behind his house. It's a bit egotistical if you ask me. So he stole it before carrying on with his combat XP grinding. Kieran was back at Robin's today, commissioning a stable for the farm, before doing his jellies and popping to Krobus's to purchase a void egg, which he put in the incubator, and also completed Gus's famous omelette quest by collecting the 24 eggs. Joe was also hunting a mystery, coming across a batteryless lockbox, so he placed one inside, and what do you know, Mr. Key was back, tasking us with placing a rainbow shell up by the station. So he did this, and then he was tasked with placing 10 beets in Lewis's fridge. At the same time, I removed this blockage, allowing me and Joe to enter and teleport to a swamp area, learning that we couldn't pass. So we fished in protest, catching a void salmon. That henchman's a prick. It's kind of pissing me off how productive we've been for the past 2 days, as the scripts are getting lengthy. But Joe carried this on by donating a strange doll, an arrowhead, and a chipped amphora to the museum. And finally, Willie took me in the back of his shop, and my worry was replaced with excitement when he showed me his old boat. And luckily I had plans on fixing it, so we headed into Christmas Day with our minds full of excitement. The Feast of the Winter Star was here, but not before the witch decided to do this.
Witch, the witch!
Oh, we don't even need to buy a void egg.
Oh. Is she just going to turn one of our chickens?
You just spent 5k on that.
Making the void egg Kieran purchased pointless. 5,000 gold down the drain. Merry Christmas, I guess. Gus gave us a mini fridge, so not the end of the world though. We grabbed our gifts and headed into town, where the festivities were very high. I gave Emily a diamond, Joe gave Alex some shitty wine that he found in a corner somewhere, Kieran gave Vincent a singular grape, and Matt fueled Shane's drinking problem by gifting him beer. We then all received our gifts. Sebastian and Shane gave Kieran and Matt mushrooms, Joe got given the wine he gave Alex, re-gifted to him by Jody, and I got cookies from Evelyn.
A tea set. Sick.
That's the best thing in the What?
Jake and I got cookies.
You fucking bastard.
So I definitely got given the best gift to end the first Feast of the Winter Star in the valley. Gus was on our doorstep this morning, gifting us a jukebox. Bit late, mate. Christmas was yesterday. So Matt took off to the travelling cart, which yielded nothing, before he gave this bear some maple syrup. We then did the usual queue method and bombarded Clint with various metals for his birthday, before we all met in that swamp, and I handed the void mayonnaise, essentially bribing the guard, and it worked. So we entered the hut, finding the wizard's magic ink, before we teleported again, and I was tempted to change my appearance, but resisted, heading through again, this time landing at the wizard's tower. So we gave him his ink back and completed the quest. But we weren't finished, so we raced over to Willie's, fixing his boat with various parts we already had. And once that was done, we all headed to bed, excited for what would happen. Overnight with the parts, Willie and Robin worked hard, managing to fix the old boat and get it working again. But we had business to do first, mainly harvesting the first batch of ancient fruit wine and then replenishing them, also adding more kegs bit by bit. Joe drew the short straw, and with spring around the corner, he was tasked with reorganizing our sprinkler layout to be more space efficient. So whilst he did that, we paid Willie 1,000 gold each and took off on his boat. We landed on Ginger Island, opting to fish for a while. I later broke off from the group, finding this golden walnut outside this hut, which I entered and fed it to this parrot, interacting with a guy called Leo for the first time. After a brief wiki visit, we learnt that there's a lot of these golden walnuts. So I chased this fire, finding a tent and a mountain mine shaft, which I entered briefly before it was time to come home to end day 111. Day 112 was the final day of our first year on Fumble Farm, but for us it was business as usual. I paved the quarry area, Kira named our new horse Dorito, which after finishing the sprinkler setup, Joe raced him around the valley before returning to add scarecrows to the farm. Kieran then calculated what we'd need to buy tomorrow before racing to Robin's to commission a deluxe coop upgrade. He then spent a shit ton of money on resources like wood, which would increase in price in the next year, so it was the last chance to buy it now. Matt was riding Dorito around foraging, before continuing in the desert by chopping trees. I helped Kieran in calculating what we'd need, before doing some leftover quests I had, which rounded out the first year, earning a cool 92,000 gold from our first wine harvest. A good start. On to spring we go. The first day of year 2 and the first day of spring. Time for the stress levels to go through the roof then. Today was simple. For perfection, we needed to ship 15 of most of the crops, so we would have to purchase everything we could. So with me, Joe and Matt solely hoeing the land, we rushed Ken out of the farm before Kieran started at Sandy's buying 75 rhubarbs. Then he was off to Pierre's where he purchased 109 cauliflower, 260 parsnips, 100 kale, 25 jazz, 75 garlic, 75 rice, 25 tulips, 250 potatoes and 75 bean starters to go along with his carrots and coffee. Then it was a race against time, planting, hoeing and more planting. Minutes turned to hours and luckily come nightfall we had planted everything we could. The goal wasn't profit in spring really, as we had ancient fruit. It was just to grow as much as we would need for perfection. Of course, we had to add to the madness early on day 114, planting even more potatoes to start the day. At the same time, Joe was at Clint's collecting his copper watering can whilst Matt was riding Dorito, until he stumbled upon Emily doing typical strange things. He then helped Leah grab this fruit. The ladies' man strikes again, but as I've said, he only has eyes for Krobus, so he visited him. Kieran extended his crystallarium shed for more rubies and jade, eventually completing the layout. Joe accepted a gift for George, tasking us with gifting Evelyn 12 leeks, so he raced around the valley hunting them down on Dorito, leaving me, and after helping Kieran, I did fuck all once again. Kieran started day 115 by doing a round of gifts, mainly to Haley, Abigail and Penny, before he studied the mountain of cooking we'd have to undertake, which was worrying to say the least. Matt finally took charge of the mess that was the layout of the farm buildings, organising it into this, leaving Kieran's hut surrounded by crops for aesthetic purposes. He also did some painting whilst there, before working on his fishing collection in the mines, joined by Kieran. Joe once again spent his day working on his combat in the desert, and I took off to Ginger Island, hunting more golden walnuts. I found a few in random spots before I headed to the forge, finding some more in there, as well as some cinder shards to end day 115. In the early hours of day 116, the abandoned Joja Mart building was struck by lightning, which was intriguing to say the least. Joe took off and found that the Junimos once again were requesting a bundle to be completed, and luckily we had all the items back at the farm. So Joe donated dinosaur mayo, a prismatic shard, an ancient fruit, a void salmon, and caviar to complete the lost bundle. Joe then spoke to this lost Junimo who promised something good would come to him soon, so he decided to spend his day with Clint cracking geodes. Due to good luck, Kieran and Matt headed to the Skull Caverns, utilising the 80 staircases we had to drop down deep, getting all the way to floor 154, finding tons of good loot along the way, which once again left me, and it was time for revenge. Way back in spring last year, the legend was unable to be caught, but this time I was ready. So I set up bright and early and vowed not to leave until I was victorious. I didn't get it, but I will be back. Overnight, the Junimos worked their magic, and when Joe visited the abandoned Joja Mart, it was now a full-blown movie theatre. So after seeing that, Joe popped into Gunther's, donating a fire opal and a hematite, getting us even closer to completion. He then picked our ancient fruit before I visited Willie to purchase some upgrades for my next encounter with the legend, before sitting down to ponder the upcoming battle. Joe decided to join me in pondering, and let me just tell you, he smells awful. Kieran also prepared for the legend fight, but he kept busy doing other farm chores, whereas Matt prepared by riding Dorito around and fishing in the mines. Tomorrow the rain would fall and we would once again have a chance to catch the infamous legend fish. Here we go, go then. The rain had arrived and nothing else mattered. I totemed to the mountain to maximize the time I had. Eventually we all arrived and the attempts were coming thick and fast, but this time we were all prepared, eating seafoam pudding and using attachments to aid in our efforts. So a few hours after starting, I was the first to strike, reeling it in, followed shortly after by Kieran.
You know what they say though, Joe. Long day for you too.
Then by Matt.
How have you all hooked it already?
And in a perfect world, I'd then say followed by Joe, but not today. And can I just say, this is extremely satisfying personally. Anyway, he sulked his way back home baitless and a failure. Whilst Matt and Kieran worked at the other fish in their collection still to be caught, I expanded our wine empire, adding more kegs as well as adding more stone paths to the layout for future expansion. What a fucking day. Day 119 was Mayor Lewis's birthday, so I waited on his doorstep to give him a coconut, joined by the others doing the same. Then me, Kieran and Matt headed to Ginger Island, so we spent the day in the sun, fishing for any uncaught fish before tackling the Forge mineshaft, managing to find plenty of golden walnuts and plenty of enemies at the same time. But we pressed on, finding this dwarf. He sold some pretty cool stuff, but we were running out of time, so we kept going until we made it to the Forge, a place where we could enchant our tools and weapons, using 1 prismatic shard and 20 cinder shards per enchantment. So we pulled our shards together and Matt enchanted his sword, getting the Haymaker enchant, but time was up, so we rushed home and headed to bed. Not before Kieran found this ostrich egg randomly, so result I guess. Oh, and you're probably wondering what happened to Joe today. He did have all day and night to try and catch the legend, and he didn't do it again. And I wish I could say this, but I can't stop smiling. It doesn't feel good, does it, Joe? Day 120 began with Kieran taking himself off to Clint's to pick up his brand new iridium axe. Then when he was passing through the valley, he bumped into Haley and a photo shoot commenced, so we'll have to leave them to it. Joe had a productive lazy day, if that makes sense. On one hand, he spent the whole day roaming around, but he did spend a lot of time foraging as well as raiding people's bins, so productive in a sense. And whilst we're here, the same goes for Matt, who also rode Dorito around the valley, foraging, solving hidden notes, and chopping down trees. Kieran returned to the farm in an attempt to incubate the ostrich egg to limited success, and I spent my day doing a monumental task. The cooking collection was going to be a tough chore, needing certain items, so I started the painstaking process of making chests full of items we currently had, times by 4, so that in the end we would all have enough, and then I listed down what we didn't have to end the day. This continued into day 121, but early on we were all summoned to the lava floors of the mine, where we threw a strange doll into the lava, which gave us a faraway stone in return. And when Matt took it to the wizard's hut, this happened, giving him the useless but cool sword Meowmere. A strange start to the day. Even stranger was that the temptation came back as I locked eyes with this shrine, and it proved too much as I gave in to the consistent abuse I'd received about my hair. So when back from the hut, I positioned myself behind the bear and unveiled my new look to the boys.
Oh my god.
What is that, bro? Fuck me, that is horrible. I actually prefer you bald.
It wasn't quite the reaction I was looking for, so I carried on my shopping and collecting for the cooking collection, trying to erase from my mind the abuse I got. Kieran tested out his new axe all day and night in the desert, leaving Matt to jam away with Abigail in the rain. The ladies' man strikes again. Just to the right of the two lovebirds, Joe could hear music distantly as he tried once again to catch the legend fish, and I'm really enjoying the shoe being on the other foot for once, because the idiot didn't get it again. Day 122 was the birthday of Vincent, so we grabbed whatever love gifts we could find and gave them to him. Kieran then decided he was going to join in with the combat XP farming, this time crafting monster musk and heading to the skull caverns to grind the day away. Joe had been cozying up with Leah recently and ran into her during a phone call with her ex, freezing for about 5 minutes when she asked him a basic question. Not ideal for him. So he left and gifted George his 12 leeks completing the community quest, accepting the Pierre Prime product quest, tasking us with collecting 25 gold standard vegetables. Kieran got Robin to start upgrading his own house, meanwhile Matt was off at Ginger Island, and managed to get Leo to come down and speak, which was good progress. So he then proceeded to deforest the whole island before returning to end day 122. After 3 days straight of switching between the wiki and the game, calculating what we'd need and what we already had for the cooking collection, I was taking a day off, joining Kieran and Joe heading off to the Skull Caverns, where the monster musk really started to pay off as Kieran encountered about 20 bats at once. We spent the day dropping floors and killing whatever we could, reaching floor 46 and gathering plenty of loot. As Matt and the Skull Caverns don't exactly get along. He was over on Ginger Island. He didn't do too much though, opting to have a chill day in the rain fishing, catching plenty of clownfish before returning home to end day 123. We awoke today with news that the Egg Festival of the previous year was returning, meaning the competitiveness was back in full swing after last year's fraudulent result. You may be asking, why was it fraudulent? Let's get the day's business out of the way first and then I'll enlighten you. We literally all went to the Skull Caverns, nothing much to it, some holes and some loot. Now that's out of the way, let's talk about this fucker. Now whoever's editing this part, I'm sorry, but pull up the footage from last year's festival and bang, there it is. Look at Kieran's POV, normal right? Now look at mine, also normal. Now show Joe's fucking POV, blatant cheating. He can see everything. He should be banned from all future events and stripped of that straw hat in my opinion. If he wins this year, I'm not gonna be happy, I tell you that. With that over, let's get to the race then. Remember, the winner not only receives the coveted straw hat, but receives bragging rights for the year. So we arrived early to stretch and get loose, whilst Kieran purchased 1,300 strawberries to plant back on the farm, and then it was time. We took our positions. I wasn't fucking around this time, so I let my hair flow for extra agility, and off we went. It was fast and furious until Joe fucking ruined it. He ran around using his fraudulent zoomed out camera and told me where the eggs were, souring my eventual victory.
Oh, he won.
Yay. As you can tell, I wasn't pleased, and we all sulked home after Joe tarnished the Egg Festival for a second year running. But third time's the charm though, right? Oh, and I also need to mention before the festival, we harvested and re-kegged our ancient fruit, earning 164,000 gold, so not a bad way to end the day. The morning after the Egg Festival was certainly frosty. However, the Desert Festival was coming to the valley tomorrow, which definitely took our minds off of yesterday's disaster. We had been letting all the crops on the farm just grow out, waiting specifically for today, so we spent the majority of our morning and most of our afternoon harvesting hundreds of crops and replanted over 1,000 strawberries. We let Joe leave the farm early in the afternoon as chances at the legend fish were running out. Truth is, I just wanted him off the farm for a while. He didn't even catch it, the twat. But we got everything planted at around 6 PM, so Kieran raced over to the beach to spend some money on a pendant before returning to tend to his jellies. It was also Hayley's birthday, so we all rushed to give her gifts in the evening before I went back to the cooking collection preparation, and Matt took a seat outside the house to take it all in, heading into the Desert Festival. Day 127 was the beginning of the Desert Festival. 3 days of activities, outfits, and plenty of surprises. So after a chill morning, we hopped on the bus and headed to the festival. So the main goal of this festival is to complete challenges and activities to earn calico eggs, which are like tokens you can exchange for items around the festival. So we dived straight in, fishing for a challenge set by Willie, getting reclothed by Emily to mixed success.
What is going on? I've gone in this place that you've gone in.
Emily's fingering me in this box, I think.
Yeah, I don't like this.
Diving into the Skull Caverns and getting cooked meals, all whilst earning tokens along the way. But the main attraction, the gambling.
Go on, Cactus!
Let's go, Cactus!
No, he shot himself!
Simply bet on one of these 3 creatures and watch the race unfold. So with some tokens in our pockets, we headed to bed, ending day 1 of the Desert Festival. Day 2 of the Desert Festival, or day 128, started in the Skull Caverns, accepting the challenge and diving as deep as we could, finding plenty of calico eggs along the way. Now Joe and Matt literally spent all of the second day down here, so we will let them collect the eggs whilst me and Kieran focus on the main event, the races. But not before we got 3 cactus statues from this man. And with the atmosphere just right, I perched atop this cliff and watched Kieran in his bright green morph suit get engaged to Hayley, my totally real hair blowing in the desert wind. So we celebrated in the only way possible, gambling our calico eggs on the snail, who hadn't won a single race yet, losing everything. The final day, we all decided to try our luck at Emily's one final time, and Matt was first up and she absolutely smashed it out the park.
Oh my god, my new outfit is sick.
Matt's a dinosaur!
She continued the hot streak as Joe and Kieran exited with equally cool outfits.
Lava Christmas.
Oh shit, I got like a raincoat on.
Leaving me to complete the perfect set of 4 incredible outfits.
We all have sick
Yeah, she absolutely fucked me over, giving me the perfect divorced dad look. So with Joe and Matt heading off again to the Skull Caverns, me and Kieran indulged in some fishing, but more importantly, more gambling. And after humiliating defeats, Escargot rounded the corner in first place and it was looking like he could do it.
Oh my god, a bird! Oh my god, it's on! No! Come on, take the inside, take the inside.
Corner! Come on!
No, you No! Oh.
Oh my god. That stupid fucking King Sting has lost me everything. Kieran pulled me away after I accused the Scorpion of taking performance enhancing drugs, so we all spent the eggs we'd accumulated over the past 3 days of the festival and took the bus home, ending a very peaceful couple of days on the farm. Back to normality then. Kieran decided to work on his combat XP today, so headed to the Skull Caverns for the day. Matt decided to ride Dorito around the valley, collecting salmon berries all day. Joe tripped with Emily, but mainly did chores around the valley, finding this Joja decoration catalogue along the way, and I ran around a lot. But I did drop off a skeletal hand to the museum. What I'm basically trying to tell you is, we kinda did fuck all day. So when the evening came around, we visited the Stardrop Saloon, gifting Pam with enough beer to get her through about 30 minutes, before we all headed to bed nice and early, with a big day on the horizon. Day 131 was a special one on the farm. As bright and early, Kieran put on his bright yellow outfit and the villagers gathered to watch him marry Hayley, bringing the first spouse to Fumble Farm. And at the back of the ceremony, we looked on proudly. My beautiful hair that's definitely real was flowing in the springtime breeze. Matt was thinking about Krobus being up there one day, and Joe was probably thinking about the legend evading him twice already. However, it was back to business as usual straight after the ceremony, as I raced straight off to Ginger Island after organising my inventory. I paid this parrot 10 golden walnuts to clear a path to the west, finding a broken farmhouse that could prove useful in the future, but we didn't have the walnuts for that right now. Back at the farm, Joe checked the merchant, but nothing good came, so he just went about his chores, chopping hardwood before joining me on Ginger Island, discovering that for 1 million gold, we could unlock all the walnuts, but we didn't have the cheddar. So we spent our day collecting walnuts before we hit the magic number of 20, allowing Joe to unlock the Ginger Island farmhouse, giving us a place to stay for the future. I played this game for a while, but failed and gave up.
No, I fucked it up. I can't be arsed with that. Someone else with a bit of brain can do that.
Before meeting this old woman fishing where Matt joined us. We then spent the rest of the day hunting walnuts, speaking to villagers and fishing, staying in the new farmhouse to end day 131. Having remained back at the farm yesterday, Kieran got to work on chores, picking the ancient fruit, collecting oak resin, crafting some sprinklers for the Ginger Island farm project, and smelting ores so that he could craft another 46 kegs. Then he was off to harvest our wine and restock the kegs, placing new ones down and filling them too. Our empire was expanding rapidly. Meanwhile on Ginger Island, we spent the morning fishing, finding something belonging to Ken, so we returned early to the valley to give it back to him, before also gifting Shane something as it was his birthday. And now it pains me to say this, but Joe finally caught the legend, and that's all the screen time he gets. So Kieran called us back to the farm where we processed more ancient fruit into seeds, which we were going to plant on Ginger Island to end the day. Oh, and our ancient fruit wine sold for a humble 290,000 gold.
Fucking hell.
Fuck me.
So the plan was beginning to come together. The Queen of Sauce blessed us this morning with yet another classic episode to kickstart the day. Kieran noticed that Hayley had moved into his house as well before he took care of his jellies. Then he headed off to Ginger Island to start a project. Matt also headed over, not before gifting a pumpkin to his true love. Over on the island, he spoke to a frog, completed the puzzle I couldn't finish, and explored around. I was here too, but mainly I spent my day fishing for my personal collection. Joe was at Robin's though, upgrading his house for the first time. His ego has grown since he caught the legend, I see. He then gifted Leah some goat cheese, not quite the ladies' man compared to Matt, before he done some random chores around the valley. To end the day though, Kieran drafted myself and Matt, and we worked through the evening planting as many ancient fruit seeds as we could get in the ground, to increase our profits moving forward. After that laborious day, I started my morning with some fishing by the shipwreck, before it was time to go back to golden walnut hunting. However, my brain did short circuit at this puzzle, so once again, I left it alone, going back to hunting the walnuts. Joe was the one to draw the short straw today, as he was the only one in the valley, on the day where our strawberries were ready. He was tasked with harvesting over 1,200 crops, so as you can imagine, it did take him all day, but we made a cool 185,000 gold from it, so a good shift. Kieran paved out some potential extra sprinkler slots before he actually returned to the valley, opting to sneak past Joe and spend his day smelting, but he was caught by Joe and sentenced to help him, before he had to process a lot more ancient fruit into seeds. This left Matt to fish and chat to Krobus, and definitely not helping Joe at all, and spend his day exploring and checking his collection progress to end the day. Abigail gave Matt a frosty apology for whatever happened yesterday between them. Maybe he was losing his touch, so he took a ride on Dorito to clear his head, visiting Lewis's prize machine to take his mind off of it all. Leah was also on Joe's doorstep this morning, but he had a better encounter, being gifted a pretzel statue, so he took it before taking the community quest Fragments of the Past, tasking us with collecting 100 bones for Gunther. He then joined me at Ginger Island for a day hunting walnut walnuts and exploring, where I fixed this bridge near the tent for 10 golden walnuts. Not a bad deal. Then I met this geezer called Professor Snail and his empty table, so I gave him a fossilized leg to help him get going. The ladies' man was back on form, however, later in the day, as Matt sweet talked Sandy into giving him a TV remote so that he could give that to George in exchange for an Arctic shard. God knows where he was keeping that. So he traded that for a wiggling worm with the wizard. What a tongue twister. He then traded that with Willie, who was frothing at the mouth for the worm, offering a pirate's locket in exchange, ending his day of trading. Kieran was also in the desert, purchasing 1,000 starfruit, preparing for summer, and also chopping trees late into the evening. In all the chaos of the wine business, Ginger Island, and the mounting list of goals for perfection, it had completely slipped our mind that today was the flower dance, so we took care of some chores before heading over. Joe and Kieran avenged their past failures as Kieran danced with Haley and Joe danced with Leah. Matt may have sulked as Krobus couldn't attend, so he begrudgingly danced with Emily,
Did you all take your pants off?
leaving me to dance with Penny, and just like that, the second flower dance was over and we headed to bed. Matt was off on Dorito early to start day 137, heading to see the raccoons who had moved into the tree next to Marnie's. He gave them some carrot juice and pickled horseradish, expanding what they sold us as well as receiving some fairy dust. The bookseller was in town today, so with our wine business up and running, we headed over there to spend some money, purchasing The Way of the Wind Part 1, increasing our running speed, before me and Kieran decided we would test out the new movie theatre, so we purchased a ticket and headed inside. After the film, we then carried on spending, all purchasing a mega backpack from Pierre for an eye-watering 50,000 gold each. Joe was once again at Gunther's, this time only dropping off the prehistoric scapula before he headed to the desert, purchasing 1,000 deluxe speed growers from Sandy for the summer crops. Matt joined him in the desert to fish, but Joe quickly left, joining Kieran on Ginger Island, where Joe donated a snake skull to the field office before heading to the forge, leaving me to plant this mango sapling back at the farm, and Kieran to extend our Ginger Island farm with more ancient seeds to end an action-packed day. In an almost perfect role reversal, day 138 began with everyone but Joe having to harvest the 1,000 strawberries, which wasn't fun. So we harvested them over the morning before cooking up some fried calamari, as it was Pierre's birthday today. So we gifted that to him before Joe spent time chopping hardwood and working on quests he had piling up, so plenty of gift giving. Matt kinda just spoke to people today, opting to spend his day socializing and riding Dorito around. Kieran crafted an iridium band and spent his day smelting ores back in the shed, and that left me. And as you can probably imagine, I proceeded to also do fuck all. God knows why we always follow a productive day with a horror show of laziness. But anyway, on to the penultimate day of spring. Day 139 started with another awkward queue outside Emily's house as it was her birthday, so we restocked her crystal collection before I went to Ginger Island, inspired by Emily and her crystals, finally cracking the puzzle.
Oh, I did it.
To get 5 more golden walnuts. So I spent them unlocking the Parrot Express.
10 walnuts, Orc, Parrot Express. Did I do it? Did I cook? I'm cooking.
To make traveling around the island easier, so I continued fishing and foraging around for the rest of my day. Joe continued his quests, also working on a fishing collection and foraging around the valley. I'd argue he's lazier than me nowadays. What wasn't lazy was Kieran's day. He harvested the ancient fruit and the oak resin before crafting 30 more kegs and adding them to the quarry, before harvesting and selling our biggest ancient fruit wine harvest yet. But until the Ginger Island farm was grown, we had spare kegs, so he spent his day kegging coffee to turn into triple shot espressos to move even quicker, which left Matt, who worked on his combat XP from morning to night, and at the end of the day we earned 400,000 gold from the wine and jellies. Here we are then, the final day of spring. As you've probably seen, we planned to repeat the same formula, shopping for various amounts of the spring crops we'd need for cooking and shipping collections, whilst also planting 1,000 speed grow star fruits, just to keep our wine business going through the summer. So Matt visited Krobus to catch up before finally returning the locket to Birdie on Ginger Island, in exchange for some golden walnuts. So he spent his day fishing and hunting more walnuts, while Joe followed his footsteps doing the same. However, it was a big day for Joe, as he entered Leah's hut early in the morning and asked her an important question. And I also did the same. No, not getting a new partner, I just went to Ginger Island as well. Kieran also had a laid-back day, spending his day mainly continuing to keg coffee, stopping by the desert trader to purchase over 400 staircases and then back to more coffee, then spending his evening chopping wood to end spring and bring us yet again into summer. For Joe, Matt and Kieran, their morning and afternoon involved scything the dead weeds, planting the speed grow, and then trying to lay down the 1000 start fruit seeds. Meanwhile, I was the shopper today, purchasing 8 blueberries, 8 peppers, 30 melons, 30 radishes, 20 poppies, 50 red cabbages, 20 sunflowers, 60 tomatoes, 30 corn, and 15 sprangles, heading back to plant them all around the farm. By late afternoon, the guys had finished crop laying, so Kieran regifted Haley some food before chopping more wood for foraging XP. Matt got his 4th level 10 skill in foraging this time, and also learnt he couldn't give Krobus a regular bouquet. He wasn't basic like other people's partners. And Joe helped me back at the farm. He only had foraging left before he had all level 10 skills, with Kieran at level 9 in both combat and foraging before he was there too. However, I wasn't looking so good. I was unfortunately still at level 7 in foraging and combat, and 9 in mining. But hey, I'm the motivator of the group, so I called all the boys over to sleep the first day of summer, where Matt opted for the tracker perk for level 10 foraging. Day 2 of summer started with Joe accepting the crop order community quest, asking us to grow and ship 100 pieces of wheat, so we can tend to that over the coming days. But Joe had a familiar foe on his mind, the one that caused me so much trouble in the first 100 days, the crimson fish. He did it on the first try, prick. I left for Ginger Island so I wouldn't have to see him, planting the spare crops we had on the island farm, before fishing the afternoon away. Matt purchased a Void Ghost pendant aiming to friend zone Krobus and ask him to move in, before grinding his combat XP in the caverns. Kieran was in the Ginger Island Forge, farming for cinder shards, aiming to enchant his weapons by the forge very soon. And Joe went on a geode spree at Clint's, but was only able to donate a golden mask to our collection, but progress is progress. He then just ran around. I'm not letting him get away with being lazy after my treatment earlier. Speaking of me, I donated some fossilized ribs to Dr. Snail before planting my tent and stargazing at the beach, leaving Matt to ask Krobus the important question, and with a yes, Krobus would soon join us at Fumble Farm. But he wasn't done. Matt had reached level 10 combat, getting full level 10 skills, so he found and entered this cave, finding a letter from his granddad about these 5 special mastery perks which he could unlock, but he needed more XP to do it, so he got on Dorito and headed to bed. Matt followed the exciting news from the previous day by pretty much doing fuck all on day 143. He just hopped on Dorito and did his best Santa impression, speaking and gifting as many villagers as he could, as we all needed max hearts with everyone, with some of us still yet to meet people, which wasn't good. Kieran found some new fishing collection items from my crab pots before jetting off to the forge again, this time joined by myself and Joe. We spent all day there, killing plenty of monsters, gathering some golden walnuts, and most importantly, reaching the forge with some cinder shards this time. So Joe went first, enchanting his sword, getting the Crusader perk. I managed to get the exact same enchant, leaving Kieran to complete the trilogy, also getting Crusader earlier in the day. I hope it's fucking good. Due to his past days of grinding, he also had spare cinder shards, so enchanted his pickaxe, getting Swift, self-explanatory really. Also combining his galaxy sword with the sword we got way back from the magical portal, giving his sword a fresh look. And finally, he finished the day by getting Swift on his Iridium Axe 2. Kieran was straight over to Clint's to start today, cracking 3 golden coconuts open, managing to get a banana sapling,
Got a banana tree.
That's really good.
and the best item yet, a golden coconut hat, matching his outfit. So he ran around showing everyone, including Haley, before returning to the forge to farm more combat XP for level 10. Matt continued his present shower around the valley, gifting Jazz a birthday gift, completing quests, and using Lewis's prize machine whilst improving his hearts with everyone he could find. He was the only hope right now for the friendship part of perfection. Joe was back at the desert solving secret notes before absolutely fucking decimating Kieran's tree farm, replanting as he went luckily, still hunting for that foraging level 10, leaving me and Matt on Ginger Island in the evening, becoming tempted by the parrot offering to find all the walnuts for us, but resisting it for now. I also had 2 bouquets of flowers, accepting Matt's extra one, but currently I had zero idea who to go for. I wanted Krobus, but Matt got rather aggressive when I expressed interest, so I backed off. So we hunted around for some golden walnuts on opposite sides of the island before night fell and we had to head to bed. I have never seen someone move quite as fast as Matt on day 145, as news broke that his roommate had arrived. So he raced back on Willie's boat, hustled through the valley, and there he was. So after getting excited, he utilized all that pent up energy and fought through floors on floors of the Skull Caverns. Not even for XP anymore, just the love of the game. Kieran also found excitement through his partner as he reached 12 hearts with Haley, grabbing another star drop. So he raced off back to the forge, completing his set and enchanting the fishing rod, getting the master perk. So he stuck around and fought the day away too.
What the fucking... These fucking blood clot mushrooms are just started trying to fight me.
Leaving the two of us to have a standard day, Leah didn't get Joe anything special, so he traded for some artifact troves as we were close to completion, cracking them at Clint's, and getting fuck all. So he chopped hardwood, gave the raccoon some bug meat and moss. Oh, and you might be thinking, what else did he do? Fuck all again. And you might be asking, Jacob, what did you do today? Well, I gave out presents all day and night whilst riding around on Dorito, looking much more productive than Joe whilst I did it. Leah had invited Matt and all of the rest of us to her art show early on day 146, which I'm positive half of us didn't even compute and just got on with our day as usual, especially the golden bowling ball, who was active early, harvesting our ancient fruits, collecting oat resin, collecting, selling and rekegging the wine, before jetting off with Matt as company to the Ginger Island Forge to work on combat XP. Matt didn't even go to Leah's thing, by the way. He opted to play catch with Alex. Priorities. Joe also didn't go to his own girlfriend's art show today, as he was tending to the animals and heading to and purchasing 100 wheat from Priere's for the quest we got a few days ago. And then he went back to Clint's, opening more artifact troves. He got nothing again, so he came to Ginger Island to plant wheat and hunt walnuts, which is also what I did to end day 146. I raced home early today to give Krobus a pumpkin and catch the newest episode of The Queen of Sauce, learning carp surprise. I then laid eyes on our coop, which was a touch full, so I had to show everyone.
Come here.
Wait,
How long have they been there?
So with the morning spent looking at that, I went to Clint's to crack some geodes, joining Kieran with the golden coconut hat, but ultimately not getting anything we needed. Speaking of Kieran, he hit level 10 in combat, meaning he was just one foraging level away from all level 10 skills. So he headed straight to the desert to work on that one foraging level, chopping trees. Matt did nothing again today, a rare lazy day from the ladies man, who kinda just ran around checking tasks we'd done days ago, leaving Joe, who was doing fuck all before he went to work on his fishing collection in the mines. So not all bad from him. Matt wasn't going to be lazy twice though, as he rode off on Dorito to accept Robin's project to collect 80 pieces of hardwood in 7 days, which would be easy as we all needed the foraging XP. Matt then put his watering can in for an upgrade at Clint's before, like the rest of us, dropping Gus off a birthday diamond. My head is just hurting from how productive he's being. He then finally made it to the second showing of Leah's art show before setting off to the Skull Caverns to practice some more. Kieran was also in the desert today. Well, he was wherever a tree was, as he dedicated his whole day to deforestation and replanting seeds where he could fit them. But he also repurchased 1,000 starfruit seeds for when they grow very soon. Joe was visiting the train today before deciding he'd head to the desert to chop wood too, but Kieran had massacred every tree, so he tried to find more trees before cooling it off and fishing in the mines. It was my turn to be Santa today, however, as I completed spare quests and gave out as many gifts as I could, working on the friendship as it wasn't looking too good for me, heading into the end of day 148. I was continuing my gift giving into day 149 before purchasing an apricot sapling from Pierre's, planting and fertilizing it back at the greenhouse before heading to the mines to finally start work on my combat XP. Kieran was emptying our pockets today too, purchasing 750 copper and iron ore from Clint's as we'd ran out and needed more kegs urgently. So he was smelting all of that for his afternoon, and after a tough day of smelting, he crafted 35 more kegs, ready to go for the starfruit day tomorrow. It was more mine fishing for Joe before he got fed up and headed to Ginger Island, exploring for walnuts and tackling the forge. It was more skull caverns for Matt too today, so the day sped by as we all worked on our own tasks, until the day turned to night, all making it to bed apart from Joe, who passed out in the forge. The big day had arrived, day 150, also starfruit day, so we distributed the seeds and went to town, harvesting and replanting the seeds. The thing about using speed grow means we get 3 whole starfruit harvests this summer, instead of the 2 we'd get without, so 1,000 more starfruit for our wine empire. As you can imagine, this took us into the late afternoon, as we had other crops to harvest and replant too. Joe back on Ginger Island was also replanting more wheat for the quest, and also commissioned the parrots to reconstruct the island resort, which was huge. Other than that, I spent my time organizing ingredients for our cooking collection. Joe and Shane drank by this pier together. Kieran drove himself to the desert, massacring more trees, and Matt had gained his first mastery level, so claimed farming mastery, unlocking the iridium scythe, allowing him to harvest crops with its swing instead of just hay. So he headed to bed a happy man. Now today had completely snuck up on us. We'd been so focused on golden walnuts, wine, and starfruit we'd forgotten about the luau, which was today. And after last year's satisfactory result, we weren't taking any prisoners tonight. Luckily, we had just harvested 1,000 starfruit, so all placed a golden quality one into the soup and crossed our fingers as the governor took his first sip. Oh my god, that soup is so ridiculous. And just like that, we had created the best soup possible, gaining a shit ton of friendship with everyone in the process. So we ate some soup and headed to bed feeling victorious. Day 152 was another one of those lazy days on Fumble Farm. Even with the crunch of perfection weighing heavy, today Matt picked some coffee beans before running around the valley all day. Kieran extended our keg quarry empire, Joe worked on his foraging before also running around all day, leaving me, who after a little picnic with Penny, I finally made my mind up and started dating her. Just to get indecisive and alongside some peer pressure from Kieran.
You've got 2 bouquets though in that inventory, because I know you have. You ain't gonna fire the second one off, I hear.
I might just play about, you know.
I also started dating Emily. Don't judge me, I wanted Krobus. So I helped Kieran harvest our wine before slotting in our first starfruit wine batch before heading to bed. After a morning spent browsing the wiki for what Alex liked as it was his birthday, we scoured the valley for him, only to realise he was at the resort on Ginger Island. So we jetted straight off and bombarded him with a range of gifts, only to see the horrors of Harvey and his speedos. Then it was time for something special. I broke off to the Pirates Cove, and after catching a stingray, I achieved a huge step towards perfection.
Yeah! He's done it!
Oh shit.
Was it cool?
He's got everything.
I'm fished up.
The Master Angler, which you get for catching all the fish in the game. So I celebrated by harvesting some plants at Ginger Island. Joe dropped off 80 hardwood for Robin and purchased something from this dodgy bloke at the beach. Kieran had planned to plant some more ancient fruit seeds at Ginger Island but forgot the seed makers, so he took his anger out in the desert on some trees. And that left Matt, who gave out some gifts, hunted golden walnuts and fished in the cove to end day 153. You know the drill. Bright green dice and an early morning. There's only one place we're going, and now we had 500 plus staircases for plenty of Skull Cavern runs. So Joe took off, dropping down as many floors as he could with Kieran. Matt and myself trailing behind him, you know, collecting anything of value. So after plenty of treasure floors, some iridium, and Mr. Key made the whole team's acquaintance, and this awkward treasure floor with tons of enemies, we made it way past floor 160, opting to stop dropping floors and focus on grabbing all the loot we can, which ended up being plenty of iridium ore and more valuables before we all headed home alive, which was a rare occurrence. Oh, and also, after rushing to get down floors and barely escaping enemy-infested treasure floors, Kieran managed to find not 1 but 2 autopetters, which would be great for our animals moving forward. Alongside the autopetters, I put on my beautiful new turban before we all dropped our loot into the storage shed. Kieran was back off to Ginger Island, this time fully prepared, so he spent most of his day creating seeds and completely maximizing how many ancient fruit we could grow here for more wine down the line. Matt was back in Pelican Town accepting the Juicy Bugs Wanted community quest and collecting his copper watering can, putting it straight back in for a steel upgrade. Today was a special day for Joe, as after a couple hours of nervous pacing, he plucked up the courage and got engaged to Leah, and with their wedding in 3 days, he headed to the forge to enchant his pickaxe and axe, getting swift on them both before heading home to sell off some items. I knew my skills were lagging behind, so I decided to spend the whole of my day killing things in the mine, working on the Monster Slayer goals and my combat level to end day 155.
See, Joe, that's the commitment I need around here.
Sorry. I was left to my own devices. Many days far away with nothing to show. And the walls kept crumbling down in the city that we love. Great clouds roll over the hills, seeing darkness from above. But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing ended up? But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like you've been here before? And the walls kept tumbling down in the city that we love. Great clouds roll over the hills, bringing darkness from above.
Oh, God. That's going in. God, I knew my role immediately. As soon as you started singing, I knew I'd be the drum in that. I just knew.
Day 156 was another milestone day. Matt also became a master angler from his river crab pots, which did the job for him. He then purchased a workbench from Robin before purchasing all the recipes he could, as we'd need it for the crafting collection. He then grabbed a second coop, as we planned to fill one with rabbits for rabbit's feet, which for some strange reason everyone seemed to love, which was good for us. Kieran was fishing around Ginger Island, inspired by Matt and not myself, his words, not mine. Joe was cracking geodes, and with the whole team being productive, that left me, where I proceeded to spend all day creating a Joja shrine in my spare room, just in time to show the rest of them lot as they returned home for the day.
Come in, take a seat on the sofa.
What the fuck is this?
After that strange team building evening, I raced off to give Sam a birthday gift, before laying in bed with him as Kieran walked in, which wasn't ideal timing.
You're too late.
Oh my god, that is disgusting.
Maybe I wanted a third partner. It was then back to the mines for me, working on that combat skill and monster slayer goals. Joe was back at Clint smashing geodes to no avail, so spent some time with Leah before their big day. After achieving Master Angler, Matt spent today collecting rewards and also plotting his next move, looking through what he had completed and what was left to get. And with the green rain falling for the second time tomorrow, Kieran warmed up, decimating every tree in the desert and the forest in preparation for tomorrow. With tomorrow now today, the goal is simple. Green Rain Day. One of the best chances to get the moss resource and also fiber, which we needed a shit ton of. As for perfection, we needed a lot of it for cooking, as well as books to purchase and some crafting recipes. So with that being a number one priority, we spent morning and night just chopping trees and moss bushes, ending the day with a healthy amount to move forward with. Once again, we took our spots at the back. Slightly different hats and outfits this time though, and this time it was Joe getting married to Leah, taking our farm population up to a strong 7, leaving just me to navigate my 2 partners. But hey, it's Joe's day, so we can push that problem further down the line. After the wedding, it was back to business however, as it was our second starfruit harvest. So due to Matt having his mastery skills to get, we let him put his iridium scythe to work. Sam was asking Joe to come to his event, as well as Haley asking Kieran to bring a cake to town for some reason. After about 12 cutscenes, we finally popped by and gave Demetrius a birthday gift. Kieran was back on the hunt for trees as his skill was so close to being maxed. Same with Joe, and I was down in the caves again, where Joe joined me later on. Kieran was up at the quarry replenishing our wine and harvesting it, leaving Matt to spend the rest of the day planting seeds, netting a cool 764,000 gold overnight. Today was all about the Skull Caverns for me, arriving early and spending all day there. Not dropping down many floors, but killing plenty of enemies along the way. Joe spent his morning on Ginger Island before returning to crack geodes, nothing good yet again, before he chopped more trees and saw that the trout derby we wouldn't be attending had begun. I couldn't go back. Kieran placed his watering can in for a gold upgrade before chopping trees like Joe, and then also like Joe, he started work on his monster slayer goals, where you need to kill a shit ton of certain monsters, just another step on the route to perfection. Matt was then left to harvest the ancient fruit, grab his watering can from Clint's and place his axe in for an upgrade, before he activated his second of the 5 mastery skills, unlocking the combat mastery. So he gave out some gifts to stay humble at the end of day 160. Matt was off to Pierre's early today, before heading to Ginger Island to plant some seeds, aiming to appease this giant frog. When in Rome, they say. So he spent his day hunting walnuts, doing multiple surveys along the way. Kieran nearly spent 30,000 gold on a Haley portrait, but opted against it, instead chopping desert trees before once again carrying on with his monster slayer goals, which is also what I did today, but in the Skull Caverns. This time reaching mining level 10. I was getting closer. Joe grabbed a snail, ticking off another master angler goal, before he proceeded to run around for 12 hours, until he finally collected some oak resin, ran around some more and headed to bed. We all showered the dwarf in gifts on the morning of day 162, before Joe grabbed his hoe and commissioned a steel watering can upgrade. Kieran then put his watering can straight back in for an iridium upgrade, before he was back to chopping trees, spotting Penny having a picnic in the woods, opting to run past her, getting his level agonizingly close, so he chased trees all day but couldn't find the one he needed. I headed to see the train pass through before another day of grafting, going for more monster slayer goals. Matt was also doing this, working from the quarry before taking care of some chores and visiting the raccoons, leaving Joe to spend his day on Ginger Island, aimlessly running around pretending to hunt down some golden walnuts. I need to say, I'm working way too hard. This is like my 5th day of being productive in a row, so I took the morning to wander, before going back to the caverns killing anything I could find. I just missed the Joja room and getting my steps in. Kieran finally grabbed level 10, so he visited the Mastery Cave for the first time, before checking his Monster Slayer goals and killing a frostbat. Marlon had a cracking day. Matt once again was on Ginger Island hunting down golden walnuts. I'm very convinced that people go to Ginger Island when they can't be asked to do anything, but that's just an allegation. Leaving Joe, who did the same fucking thing. Nah, this is getting ridiculous now. I'm working my absolute dick off and these two are just frolicking. Could never be me. Day 164 kicked off with me dropping Willie a birthday gift off, before purchasing a pendant from this man, meaning it was decision time. And after enough strange encounters with Emily, there was only one correct decision. So I got engaged to Penny while she was washing up. How romantic. So I spent the day in the Skull Caverns celebrating. Matt grabbed his steel pan from Clint's before spending his day giving out as many gifts as he could. He's gotta stay humble. Kieran was also at Clint's picking up his watering can and placing his hoe in for an upgrade, before going back to pop his monster musk and killing dust sprites, managing to hit the goal. So he pivoted to killing skeletons joined by Matt. Joe ran around on Ginger Island and then he went to bed at 8 PM. Now I do love an early night, but that's taking the piss a bit. If we don't achieve perfection because of him, I'm gonna lose it. After that slight meltdown, Haley invited Kieran to some, well, I actually don't know what's happening here, so we'll leave it. Matt bought a book from the dwarf before putting his pan in for a steel upgrade, before spending his day gift giving and quest completing. Joe went for another artifact round, nothing again, so he dropped his axe in for an upgrade, before planting some trees and heading to work on his monster goals. He also stood by the bus for 6 hours, but I'm the bigger man, I'm not going to talk about that. I began the process of upgrading my watering can, before spending my day fighting in the Skull Caverns, leaving Kieran.
They're just running around the cake. What is going on? That's 3 hours of my day while I get back.
Who finally escaped before attempting to fish up an octopus but ran out of time, so instead caught a slimejack and a wood skip before also working on his monster slayer goals to end the day. Today was a huge day for the three of us, as it was Leo's birthday. Matt has been gifting and speaking to him, but for the three of us, this was crucial. So we raced straight there in the rain to drop off a lot of mangoes. Kieran delayed his trip though, catching that octopus and placing his new gold hoe in for its iridium upgrade, arriving at Ginger Island and picking the first ancient fruit round with Matt for mastery XP. He then dropped Leo off a duck feather before catching the blue discus fish.
Yes, yes!
Rounding out his fishing mastery, also hitting his skeleton monster slayer goal. What a day for him. Matt spent his day gathering walnuts and paying for this mailbox before heading to the forge to continue. Joe tried to catch an ice pip today, grabbing it right at the end of the day, and I headed into the witch's basement to prepare for my wedding. And once I was finished, I joined Penny in the spa. And in the early hours of the morning, me and Penny got married. My new trim scaring everyone who attended.
Look how grim it looks.
You know what it is? This is what she fell in love with him, man.
He's put a casual outfit on as well.
But that's the man she fell in love with. Emily started day 167 by sending me a present, grasping at straws I see, before Matt got our second coupe its big upgrade. Alongside this, the bookseller was here, so we purchased every book we didn't have yet, which certainly dented our finances. Matt then jetted off to Ginger Island to farm walnuts and monster slayer goals. Kieran got a new star drop from Willy before harvesting our ancient fruit and selling our wine, replenishing it in the process. Joe grabbed his new axe, placing his hoe in for its steel upgrade before deforesting the whole desert. And on my wedding day, I spent it working on gathering some more cooking supplies that we had lying around, ending the day earning another 750,000 gold, paying us back for the books at least. The final day of summer had snuck up on us, a chance for one of my favourite festivals. But first I carried on my cooking preparation, gathering 4 of everything we'd need and organising them into chests. Joe gathered oak resin before heading to the mines, hunting the monster slayer goals, which were a big focus now and we had barely made any progress so far. Matt and Kieran picked the star fruit for more mastery XP, so after grabbing his iridium hoe, Kieran headed to the mastery cave, grabbing the combat mastery to start him off, and heading to the mines to test it out. Matt completed another community quest for us before finding the wizard's shop, which could be very promising, but time ran low and it was time for the Dance of the Moonlight Jellies, a festival where you can reminisce on the season just gone, and Joe didn't fucking make it. Just end the day and go to full.
Is this event going to end at 12?
I don't think it ends at 12, no? Oh, it's ended. Sorry.
Day 1 of fall was simple, so I won't bore you. Joe picked up his hoe, I headed to Pierre's to buy all the crops we'd need for cooking and other collections, filling the rest up with pumpkins, and then we spent all day planting them, literally all day, to kickstart fall. Now that boring day is over, Kieran grabbed the community quest from Robin, tasking us with grabbing 1,000 pieces of wood, which should be easy with Joe running around deforesting what he can. Kieran then spent time completing the backlog of quests he had before heading to the mines for more monster slayer goals. Matt somehow breached the floor in Lewis's house, finding his lucky purple shorts, returning them promptly to Lewis, who was slightly concerned how he got them in the first place. He then headed to Ginger Island to donate a mummified bat to Professor Snail in exchange for a walnut. He then paid these parrots to construct a trading hut for us for future use. Joe upgraded his hoe to gold before continuing his reign of deforestation, which left me to place my axe in for an iridium upgrade before I was off to the desert too, but for monster slaying this time. But that didn't last for long, as I died, so I sulked around the farm to end day 170. Today for me was this time a success, heading to the normal mines and fighting all day and night, managing to grab level 10 combat and work on some monster slayer goals, meaning that all I had left to do was foraging to have mastery. Joe was also in the mines with me working on his monster slayer goals alongside Kieran. I did tell you it was a new priority of ours for now, but he did manage to kill all the Dougies he needed. Teach him how to Dougie, yeah, sharp. He then headed to the mutant bug lair and completed his insect monster slayer goals too, so a productive day for him. Joe received the Book of Stars from the raccoons companions as he gave them more food, and finally with his trinket, Matt grabbed his iridium axe before heading to the desert and decimating everything in the Skull Caverns. We were all in on the Monster Slayer goals and weren't slowing down anytime soon. We had some small tasks to do before the monster hunting continued. I stopped by Clint's grabbing my iridium axe before starting the painstaking grind from level 8 to 10 foraging. Matt upgraded our second coop to deluxe, Joe grabbed his gold hoe and upgraded his bin to copper, before heading to Ginger Island to explore for more walnuts and tend to the farm. We finished another community quest before Kieran and Matt were in the mines. You know by now what they're doing. It was Elliot's birthday today, so we raced off to give him a present as he was on our list of could be a future problem when it came to maxing out our hearts. I once again chopped every tree I could find before heading back to sleep it off with Penny. Kieran had gained a new trinket and it was causing him a few problems.
What the fuck? But my frog just swallowed a big slime hole. You can imagine it was a pretty weird event.
But today was more of the same in the Skull Caverns. Joe harvested some ancient fruit on Ginger Island where Matt joined him, purchasing this bridge in the forge where he spent all day killing as many magma sprites as he could, as we needed to kill 150 of them each. And that was it. Joe did run around doing nothing, but that's the norm by now. Prick. Matt was at Marnie's today, filling our second coop with rabbits, adding Jucky, Lawtu, Pickle, McLongaroo, Snus, Canis, Kepe, Snarnu, Pefe, Ma, Nonumo, and Bracody. The goal hopefully is they produce a lot of rabbit's feet for a supply of loved gifts. He then unlocked the mining mastery. Joe grabbed his bin, opting for an iridium hoe upgrade before smashing more geodes, getting a lot closer but still nothing we actually needed. He then was tempted by the Joja parrot, purchasing all the remaining golden walnuts for a discounted 340,000 gold. Look, we were worried about finishing this thing in 300 days, but if you're gonna blame anyone in the comments, blame Joe. So he spent his day in the forge hunting magma sprites. Me and Kieran chopped and hunted like usual, except I surfaced to grab and sell our wine with Matt, ending the day by kegging some more starfruit, earning another 730,000 gold. Also, Morris was back, so I think we did a bad thing. Again, blame Joe. The Queen of Sauce kept us humble on the morning of day 175, before Matt was off cracking more geodes to no avail at Clint's, before he sweet-talked Sandy. Sadly no remote this time, so he took his anger out in the Skull Caverns. I also was cracking mystery boxes, but I got luckier, finding the mystery book we needed for the book collection, so I chopped more logs and killed more monsters. Kieran harvested more ancient fruit and oak resin, opting to add 34 more kegs to our growing empire, placing starfruit in them before heading to the caverns as well, earning his mummy goal along the way. Joe then went on a walnut spending spree, grabbing the farm obelisk and unlocking Mr. Key's room, meeting the man himself for the first time, also seeing our abysmal perfection percentage. He then headed to the forge to kill more magma sprites, this time achieving the goal before heading home to end the day. Now, we have to explain a mechanic quickly. Perfection in multiplayer works like this. It tracks the best case scenario, pulling all of our progress together. So it actually doesn't need everyone to complete everything, but what's the fun in that? So I'm just interjecting to let you know quickly we will all be hitting perfection at the same time, but all having individually completed it. With that out the way, on to tomorrow then. Joe grabbed his iridium hoe today, placing his watering can in for a gold upgrade before he spent the whole day in the forge once again, even though he was done with that goal. But to be fair, he could be enchanting. No, he got there and forgot the prismatic shard. So a cracker from Joe. Matt crafted the statue of the Dwarf King for a mining buff every day for us. He then carried this momentum on, giving out gifts and hunting in the Skull Caverns. This left me and Kieran, who had become creatures of routine. I would chop and replant trees before exhausting that and heading to the mines, with Kieran just going straight to the mines, stopping to check our progress in between. I did complete my goal today though, which was good, so I headed home happy. You'll never guess what we did today. The exact same thing. Kieran was flying though, checking his goals and seeing that he was close to finishing, so he shot to the desert and completed the serpent and slime goals, which were big ones to tick off, equipping the napalm ring before hunting void spirits next. I completed my skeleton goal, so I went for dusk sprites next, and with us two out of the way, Matt placed his watering can in for its gold upgrade before taking the Curious Substance community quest, before Pam had her big payday as he also came to the Skull Caverns to take the baton from Kieran, which left Joe, who returned with prismatic shards, so combined his swords for a new look, enchanting his fishing rod, getting master, then combining his two rings so he could equip a new one. So he left the forge and returned home to end the day. Joe started day 178 by grabbing his gold watering can and putting his pan in for its steel upgrade. Instead of then using the elevator, he proceeded to fight the whole day just to enchant his watering can, getting bottomless, but still what a waste. Kieran took his new napalm ring for a spin, hunting void spirits all day, popping out briefly to buy 350 salads. His plan was to just give them out randomly every time he sees someone and hope that's enough to do the job. I did the same routine I've done for weeks now, leaving Matt, who cracked some some mystery boxes before also spending his day in the Skull Caverns. Matt grabbed his gold watering can and immediately swapped it for iridium. Clint having to work a lot isn't a bad thing, I guess, considering he pencils a whole day off just to stare at Emily. Strange guy. And after dropping Jody a present off, it was monster hunting for Matt and Kieran. Meanwhile, I didn't chop any trees as I picked back up my earlier project, the cooking collection, so that we would all have enough to complete it in time, leaving Joe to harvest some crops on Ginger Island before spending his whole day in the forge again. I guess he enjoys it there. On day 180, we had a little blunder. You see, we had been religiously watching The Queen of Sauce. It keeps us humble, you see. So when a book for 50,000 gold popped up, which would fill out all the remaining recipes, we impulse bought it. When Matt found out that he only had 6 recipes left to learn, so we then all bought it for some stupid fucking reason, learning that we all had 6 recipes left. You couldn't write this shit. But that's when Joe got something rare that we all really wanted.
Whoa. I got the hat.
The bin hat.
I got the bin hat. I got the bin hat.
I hate him. Actually, no, we hate him. So Kieran took his anger out on some more void spirits, finishing his goal, so he was off to the forge to farm magma sprites. Joe must have been keeping it warm for him. Matt was also in the mines again, where Joe joined him later in the evening, leaving me to interact with this bear before more cooking collection planning to cap the day off. It was ancient fruit day on the rainy Ginger Island, so Kieran harvested them for mastery XP. Joe was harvesting our wine today and refilling it before he tried to make more kegs, but our ore chest had been neglected, so he went about smelting and eventually expanded the kegs even more. Matt grabbed 2 goals today, killing his last rock crab alongside his last Dougie. Kieran also killed all the magma sprites he needed, yes! So returned to see he only had rock crabs and pepper X's left to go, leaving more cooking preparation for me from morning to night. Heading to bed where we earned a cool 760,000 gold. Abigail tried to make me cheat on my wife on the morning of day 182, no joke here, just a red card offense. So I burnt the letter before chopping logs, shopping for seeds at Pierre's and tending to the animals, all in pursuit of the remaining cooking collection ingredients. Joe continued his smelting today, adding another eye-watering 40 plus kegs, which saw the quarry really begin to fill up. So he added some star fruit to the new ones before he visited the raccoons, dropping some dried coconuts off to them. Abigail then tried flirting with him and he immediately folded, putting her off a lot, so he took off to Ginger Island to clear his head. Matt polished off his skeleton goal today, leaving Kieran, who used his overflow of staircases to drop floors looking for pepper Rex infested ones, which he actually found, but it wasn't enough for the goal, so he went back to it. Sadly, he didn't find any more, but it was pumpkin day today, so Kieran, Matt and Joe harvested them. I wasn't allowed as I wasn't at level 10 foraging yet.
Okay.
Don't harvest them though, man.
A bit mean if you ask me, so I left them, giving Sandy a birthday gift before grabbing my iridium hoe from Clint. Then I worked on the cooking collection, and sadly I have to mention this, I forgot to visit Pierre, you know, to stock up the pumpkins the other 3 were collecting right now, so that one is on me. After collecting the pumpkins though, Kieran managed to get his pepper X's completed.
Oh, 1 left.
So he began the final task of killing 60 rock crabs, which he'd find harder than it should have been. Matt was in the Skull Caverns using Kieran's staircase trail to benefit him, and Joe placed his pan in for its gold upgrade at Clint's before starting work on his own Monster Slayer goals. We did that thing again, completely forgetting about a festival.
The festival's being set up. What festival?
The Stardew Valley Fair.
So when it was announced that today was the Stardew Valley Fair, we panicked as our chest room had become an absolute nightmare of a mess, so we decided to just grab something and run. Entrusting Kieran probably wasn't the best shout, as he set our display of 9 prismatic shards up.
We're just richer than you all, is what that fucking says, man. Fucking PA, you daft little twat.
So we tried to distract Lewis as he judged, but we only got 2nd place this year. Not the worst result, to be fair. You just have to feel for Willie at this point though. He turns up year after year but can't beat the 4th place curse. Back to normality then. We were back at Clint's today. I put my watering can in for a steel upgrade. Joe grabbed his gold pan and upgraded his bin to steel.
Bye, Clint. Thanks for the pan.
Then he was off to Ginger Island to grab ancient fruit when he stumbled upon a hooded figure known as Fizz, who was offering 1% of perfection progress for 500,000 gold. But we resisted as we had already paid for the walnuts earlier, so instead he visited Mr. Key, grabbing the Danger in the Deep quest, triggering the dangerous mines from tomorrow. Kieran put his house in for its next big upgrade before he hunted rock crabs, which left me and Matt to work together on replenishing the farm with pumpkins after my earlier fumble, which took us into the evening and on to the next day. We were off to Marnie's throughout the day, dropping her gifts off for her birthday. Matt then carried this on, going on a diamond gifting spree around Pelican Town, stopping in the afternoon to also commission an upgrade on his house, before getting back to it. On the other hand, Kieran and Joe straight off to the mines, aiming to descend to the bottom, finding new enemies and new ores along the way, with Kieran utilising his ladders to hit floor 81 before he totaled totemed home. I wish I had more to say, but I just chopped trees. I was dragging myself to level 10, brick by brick. I visited the travelling merchant this morning for good old times. Nothing useful though, so I did my chores, joined by Matt, who had another day of gifting, before Robin promptly ghosted me.
Where's this Robin? She's not here.
Just when I wanted to upgrade my house. Not on really, is it? Kieran had grown impatient, so he flew to the bottom of the dangerous mines, completing Mr. Key's quest, so he visited Marlon after more hunting, equipping his new outfit where he and Joe had had enough. This storage shed had been massacred, so Joe decided to try and craft the larger chests, but instead he made stone chests, so as the day drew to an end, he finally got some larger chests up and running.
Oh wow, that is fucking electric.
Leaving Kieran to begin organising come tomorrow. The renovation of the storage shed was in full swing. Joe filled the remaining chests with big chests, increasing our storage capabilities by a shit ton. Kieran then spent his day by organising them back into the appropriate chests as we had got careless. Matt did drop in to destroy the picture signs, giving Kieran some text signs as we kept messing them up. Also, quick note, his house did upgrade overnight, so he was living it large, even though all the rooms were bare. After helping him, Matt spent his day giving more gifts out before taking off to the Skull Caverns for more monster slaying goals. Joe, on the other hand, was dancing between the desert, the valley, and Ginger Island, doing nothing of importance, before he cracked some geodes and the 2 remaining artifacts eluded us once again, so he went back to Ginger Island to harvest our ancient fruit. Meanwhile, I'm stuck in purgatory. I either plan and gather cooking ingredients or chop wood, with my only break being swapping an item in for an upgrade at Clint's. But I'll be back soon, don't you worry. Since Matt's house was completed, I took my chance alongside Joe for us to both put our houses in for their upgrades. Back to purgatory for me then. So after some more storage organising to complete it fully, Kieran took off to Robin's too, commissioning a cellar for 100,000 gold, before immediately upgrading his bin to steel. Then he completed every quest he could and gave as many gifts out as he could before going back to the lonely rock crab grind, which to be fair was his version of purgatory. But for me, it got a lot easier as I got all level 10 skills.
Yes, he's done it.
Meaning we had all hit it now, so 1 goal down. But it was short-lived as I needed to gather more cooking items, which was easier with our new storage. Matt and Joe had a nothing day, doing nothing of importance apart from Matt dropping 30,000 gold on a Krobus painting. It must be love. Kieran took his morning to work on our overall smelting and gem stock, as recently in pursuit of Monster Slayer goals, level 10 skills and cooking collections, we'd been neglecting the small stuff. Let's not even talk about our animals. Matt grabbed his steel bin and cracked some geodes where I popped in to do my iridium watering can upgrade, before we tried the curious substance quest again. He was then in the forge, trying to catch Kieran and kill his share of magma sprites. Joe was on the keg duties today, and with the increased amount, we had crossed the 1 million gold per harvest amount, and we had plenty of stock to keep going. He also got Clint working, but on his iridium bin this time, before he went back to re-keg the Empire. And with more time on my hands now, I visited the dangerous mines for the first time, and got to work on my own Monster Slayer goals. I sprayed myself down with Monster Musk today and took off with one target, dust sprites, so I went to town farming them for day 191. Matt had a jam-packed day, going from gift giving to visiting Ginger Island, to returning to the mines, to more gift giving, and to more monster hunting. Joe was also in the mines for the first half of his day, opting to switch things up and go to the Skull Caverns for the evening, switching his target up. He wanted more Omni Geodes for trading for artifact troves, trying to complete the museum as fast as we can, so he stayed there all day and night. And with all 3 of us killing monsters, Kieran made it a full house, except today was a monumental one. As midnight approached, he killed his final rock crab.
Is that what I think it is? Yes. Yes.
Oh my fucking god.
Being the first to complete the Monster Slayer goals, so he celebrated by purchasing the Galaxy Hammer from Marlon to end day 191. His salad tactic mentioned earlier was beginning to actually look good, as the villagers loved it. But we saved special gifts for George as it was his birthday today, and with all 3 of our house upgrades done overnight, Kieran maxed his house out completely, adding multiple rooms and removing dividers to complete another goal for his route to perfection. Me and Joe were just behind him, adding cellars to both of our houses, before Joe gave Clint his final upgrade of an iridium pan. It will be a triumph when we're all fully upgraded. He could actually go out of business with any luck, but not for now, as Matt dropped his bin in for a gold upgrade, before him and Joe headed back to the Skull Caverns, with Joe collecting his serpent gold. After grabbing my watering can, I was on Ginger Island, soaking up the sun beaming off of Kieran's coconut hat, and picking ancient fruit, before he closed out day 192 by enchanting his new hammer, getting vampiric, then his watering can, getting efficient, and then finally his hoe, getting reaching, returning home to bask in his newly upgraded house. Day 193 started with me admiring my new house, which was very oddly themed.
Why the fuck do I live in like a church? I'm like the priest now. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's fucking well lot of rooms.
No, like look at the front of my house. I got a fucking painted glass window.
But at least my Joja room got bigger, which was nice. But with that out of the way, it was back to the caves, hunting more void spirits. Joe and Matt were also in the mines today, with Matt managing to find the ectoplasm for the community quest. So he rushed down to the wizards on Dorito to drop that off before heading straight back to it, which left Kieran with newfound freedom, which will be more of a curse in the coming weeks as he was now tasked with one of the other big collections we needed. But today he visited Mr. Key, checking on our perfection stat, which was at a respectable 52% before grabbing the key quest, Key's Prismatic Grange, tasking us with collecting 100 of each coloured item. He then purchased the key to the town, which would help with gift giving down the stretch, before he cracked open some mystery boxes, finding the mystery book he needed instantly. So he took a victory lap around the town before turning in for the day. Matt stopped by Clint's for an Iridium bin upgrade before cracking mystery boxes himself, not getting much though, so he opted for a change of scenery, heading to Ginger Island for some relaxing, but mainly for killing some magma sprites in the forge. Same goes with me and Joe too, but we were still back in the mines, so we'll focus on Kieran for now. He gave out some salads before heading to Ginger Island, giving out even more salads to the travelling villagers. He then purchased the Diamond Hunter book from the Dwarf for his collection, before returning to the farm and taking off to the mutant bug lair, finally picking up his dark talisman. Only 70 days too late, mate. So he headed home, analysing what we had left to do before calling it a night. Sadly for Kieran, his frolicking and freedom came crashing down on day 195 as he volunteered to start our shipping bin process. For some context, every collection in the game is individually tracked, e.g. crafting and cooking, apart from shipping. Luckily we share that progress, so he got to work shipping whatever we currently had. Also luckily, we already had our own fair whack of stuff we would need, so this should go smoothly. After some more time in the forge, Matt switched it up again, heading to the Skull Caverns for his next victims. But for me and Joe, we remained consistent in the mines, until we were all given some respite at 10 PM, as we entered town slightly less underdressed than last time for Spirit's Eve. So we took it all in, completed the maze, and got angry about not receiving another golden pumpkin.
Now who's the loser?
I won.
No, I got a prize ticket. I ain't got another golden pumpkin.
So we headed home in a sulk to end day 195. I placed my bin in at Clint's, kickstarting the copper upgrade before also switching my focus to the Skull Caverns. Also at Clint's was Joe, and this time he struck gold, finding the golden relic.
Stop giving me this fucking mask. Yes!
Did you get it?
I fucking got it.
Leaving one final artifact that can only be found in the ground, but there was no time to celebrate as he had more monster slaying to do, so down he went. Matt also completed his mastery tree today, feeling that old man pat him on the shoulder from day one, alongside an advanced fishing rod. He then cracked some geodes and checked his monster slayer progress before diving back in, with dusk sprites being his new target, leaving Kieran, who apart from indulging in an iridium bin, was straight back to it, shipping everything he could find, including stealing some machines to make some items we'd need, also stopping by the quarry to harvest keg and sell our wine collection for another 1,000,000 gold, which took us nicely from the fall into the winter. For Joe, this winter would be a chance to catch the last remaining fish he needed for his collection, but not today. To my pleasure, he spent all day at the mountains as he couldn't catch the fish he needed without rain. I'm enjoying this way too much. With some more machinery built, Kieran kept making strides towards our shipping collection, noting down what we would need to still gather. And I bet you can't guess what I did today. I gifted Sandy a diamond. Oh, and I also spent every waking second killing more monsters. Matt went on a geode cracking spree before he did some smelting so he could craft a farm computer, which he placed in this bare room, ending the first day of winter year 2. After his day off, Matt was back in the caves, completing his dusk sprite goal today, but he stayed there for more slimes and bats. I gave the dwarf a gift before reluctantly heading back inside. When I saw Stardew Valley on our game list, I thought this would be a relaxing experience, but holy shit, I feel like I'm clocking into a shift every day at the minute. But I bought the manual from the dwarf to lighten the blow. I then wasted more time before heading to the Skull Caverns, but I had to get it eventually, deciding to check my goals before my day ended to see some good progress was made. And after grabbing the community quest Cave Patrol, asking us to kill 50 bats, Kieran headed to Ginger Island, harvesting the ancient fruit using his new iridium scythe to full effect, before he brushed past Mr. Keys and remembered the quest he took a while back. So he raced home in a panic and began collecting an array of items of all different colours. With day 200 around the corner, Penny gave me a star drop to help with the constant monster hunting.
Oh, I got a star drop from my spouse.
Put that in your fucking script.
But sadly, it wore off quick, as after the usual procrastinating, I had no choice and headed to the Skull Caverns once again. Matt finally found his mystery book at Clint's whilst cracking geodes, so treated Linus to a present, as it was his birthday today, before he once again had to face the mines. As we needed one last artifact and it could only be found mainly in the desert on worm spots, Joe had to put down an old friend. The tree farm from way back in the day had served us well, but it was time for it to depart, so he spent all day demolishing it. Kieran grabbed his bin and swapped it for a steel pan at Clint's before he was back off to Ginger Island, where he fertilised a mystic tree that he had planted for a shipping item, and learning that hardwood apparently isn't orange. Mr. Key and his stupid rules. So he returned with pumpkins, finishing the job, and grabbing the next quest, Key's Kindness, tasking us with giving out 50 love gifts in 1 week. He then purchased a Galaxy Soul for 40 key gems before returning to head to bed. Day 200. It's an honour to say that we achieved what we set out to do, all reaching level 10 and beyond in all skills, and creating a pretty large wine empire, but perfection was still our ultimate goal, so it was mainly business as usual today. After polishing off the majority of the shipping collection, bar around 7 items, Kieran was off questing today, placing 10 beets in Mayor Lewis's fridge before feeding this skeleton a piece of solar essence, finding the casino card. He then raced straight to this car for the lucky charm before going to the casino, where he took a well-earned rest. Between the 4 of us, we gave out as many loved gifts as we could today, with Joe stopping in the mastery cave to grab his foraging mastery along the way. Matt then really spearheaded our gift giving, with him and Dorito stopping by everyone he could find. And as the sun began to set on Fumble Farm, by now you know damn well where I've been all day. My dream of perfection was still burning bright, so I'll see you on day 201. Now, I'd love to sit here and give you a pretty introduction, a slow start, etc. But we have so much shit to do, it's ridiculous. Bearing in mind all the days I wasted running around, we're now coming back to roost. So, with that said, let's get down to business. I gave Penny an emerald to start my morning before the wizard was asking for an iridium bar in the mail. So I checked my friendships in a panic before setting off to begin gifting, before hitting the mines for some Monster Slayer goals later in the day. Kieran dropped the iridium bar to the wizard before he drew the short straw. Due to being slightly ahead, he began the painstaking process of collecting everything we'd need for the crafting collection. Now, I would say I feel bad, but I did the cooking, so it's about time he did something for the team. Anyway, we'll leave him be for the foreseeable future. Joe joined me in the mines, completing his skeleton goal, which left Matt to commission a cellar house upgrade and go on a gifting spree, all whilst riding Dorito. He carried on gifting his way around Pelican Town on day 202, but after a while, he sprayed himself down with monster musk before spending the whole day killing monsters. Kieran quickly learnt he was stuck in purgatory today, gathering, buying, and preparing crafting recipes, leaving me to commission my iridium trash can upgrade before me and Joe hit up the Skull Caverns, splitting the monsters amongst the 2 of us. However, before he joined me this afternoon, Joe went to check out Leo's new treehouse, which him and the parrot had moved into. It's good that Matt's been speaking to him because I'm pretty sure that he has no fucking clue who I am. Kieran got a slight break from proceedings today, but only to drop Caroline off a present. No rest for you, pal. So back to it he went. Joe picked our ancient fruit on Ginger Island before it finally happened. Matt dug up a worm spot in the desert and there it was, the palm fossil.
Is the thing we need a palm fossil?
Oh, have you got it?
Yeah.
Yes!
So he gave Sandy a gift in excitement before racing off to complete the museum. Another goal down, alongside getting the last star drop for some of us too, which was huge. So he worked on his friendships and gift giving for the rest of the day. Joe purchased some stuff from Mr. Key's shop before also giving out gifts, which left me, and I was still in the mines killing everything I could and completing some goals along the way. After polishing off a Monster Slayer goal in the mines, Joe rejoined me in the Skull Caverns for a day full of killing. Then I remembered that I don't really like Joe, so I came back to the regular mines, leaving him alone in there. Not my fault. By now you know what Kieran did all day, but he was making exceptional progress on the crafting collection, which left Matt, who was also in the mines, hunting his Monster Slayer goals. It's a nice day when we're all doing simple things. Some of the days in the 200 day video were genuinely painful. Matt carried on this trend, completing his Shadow Brute goal. Joe then polished off his Mummy goal, so they both carried on down to the Skull Caverns together, where Joe found an autopetter for his troubles. Kieran had to start smelting as he had exhausted all of our metal metal bars, which just made his job more miserable. But I was having a blast. Having prepared our kitchen collection previously, I swapped my bin out for a steel pan upgrade at Clint's before continuing my monster hunting, with my talents being taken to the Ginger Island Forge to end day 205. Kieran stepped out for a short while once again, dropping Sebastian off a birthday gift, alongside placing his pan in for a gold upgrade at Clint's, but then it was back to it. Matt found a parrot egg down in the Skull Caverns today where he was staircasing down with Joe, as they were both in need of pepper Rexes for one of their last Monster Slayer goals, which they found at 12:30, but Joe had tucked himself into bed by then. Idiot. I picked some ancient fruit on Ginger Island before I purchased some crafting recipes from Robin, and then I spent 2 hours trying to find where this stupid rainbow shell went before checking my Monster Slayer goals, which was closer than I thought, to be fair, leaving Kieran to dip into the quarry and replenish and sell our wine, earning another 1 million gold, taking us closer to the 3 million mark, but we'd need a lot more than that. Day 207 started with a gold pan upgrade for me before it was back to it all day long. Speaking of all day long, Kieran was going once again. The good thing is he was crafting what he had gathered along the way, so once he was done it was over to us to do our own crafting, which left the dynamic duo of Joe and Matt to continue doing what they did yesterday, staircasing down the caverns looking for pepper Rexes, finding barely any today, but progress is progress, I guess. Matt did find another one after Joe departed though, which put another big smile on my face.
Oh, I found another one.
Literally, I leave. I'm a bad luck charm, man. I'm a bad luck charm.
Joe checked the travelling merchant today for old time's sake, purchasing some food for gifts if needed, before putting another solid shift in at the Skull Caverns. It was the Squid Fest today, but due to Kieran and my own traumatic experiences with it, we opted to skip it. I felt the wind in my beautiful luscious hair today, so I took off to Ginger Island to kill magma sprites, all day long once again. But I did drop into Marlon's in the evening to find and read this book before we all headed to bed. In unison today, me and Kieran dropped our iridium pans in for their final upgrade at Clint's. After today, we would barely be here, and I can stop saying the word Clint every fucking 2 days. I genuinely challenge someone to count how many times I've said Clint's, because it must be ridiculous at this point. Kieran then got back to it, same as me, but today I was switching it up, deciding to fish up some of the remaining fish we'd need for the cooking collection, and after that I took another boat ride. Willie must be raking it in, passing by the Squid Fest on the way. Once on Ginger Island, I grabbed the Keys Hungry Challenge to get to floor 100 in the Skull Caverns without eating or drinking, which would be simple enough, before I returned to continue grinding in the Forge. Joe also carried on in the Skull Caverns and Matt in the Dangerous Mines, meaning we had the perfect split of territories across the three of us to end day 209. Kieran completed his mission today with everything that we currently had, plus he had got us to 75% of the way there, with a list on screen now of the missing items and recipes. You can probably see it's an absolute fuck ton, so just presume we will tick that down day by day, you know, whenever we get the chance. So he saw and gave Harvey a birthday present before checking that he hadn't missed anything. My day started with some more ancient fruit picking before it was back to the Forge, where I fucking died. I think I just turned on autopilot mode and just didn't even look at my health, so I checked my progress before sulking around for a bit. Joe and Matt once again tackled the Skull Caverns, completing Mr. Key's quest easily, thanks to our restocked supply of staircases, finding a Pepper X floor along the way, and plenty of other items, before they totemed home to join me and Kieran in sleeping it off. It was a good start to the proceedings, but we had so much still left to do. Our current crafting progress looks like this, which for reference is Kieran's, and if you're wondering, this is how the three of us also match up. So not too bad, but there was still work to do. We then proceeded to film multiple other videos in between playing, so day 211 began with a bit of readjusting to what we had to crack on with. So I decided to pay off all the work I'd been doing by finally working through the cooking collection that I'd been working on all this time. And I'm not listing out a ridiculous amount of recipes out of fear of a 4-hour long video. So I worked on that before heading to Clint's and grabbing my iridium pan, before getting straight back to cooking, making some good end of day progress. Kieran also grabbed his iridium pan before accepting the island ingredients quest for 100 pieces of ginger, and if you're wondering, we proceeded to fail this quest horrifically.
We need 100 pieces of ginger.
Okay, we're cooked.
No.
Mainly because he went to Mr. Keys, purchasing some more recipes to craft and accepting the quest Keys Kindness for gifting 50 loved gifts, and fuck me, we needed to do this, as the three of us were having howlers, so he then joined me for some cooking, leaving Matt to do some monster hunting and questing, and Joe to stand in his doorway for 6 hours. No rush, mate, it's not like we have all this left to do, so he finally awoke and started hunting monsters. He continued this trend on to day 212, spending all day in the icy floors hunting skeletons, but he did have time to drop by Leo's Joe's new gaff, probably to introduce himself as he hadn't seen much of him so far. But for me and Kieran, it wasn't anything entertaining. We cooked all day, getting to the cook and sous chef milestones, where our collections were beginning to fill up quickly. We didn't have all the items yet, but we were getting very close to getting it done, which left Matt, who went on one of the biggest tears around the valley. This guy dropped gifts off to what seemed like everyone. He was everywhere, running from person to person, giving out a whole assortment of items to anyone he could track down, where during the night the first child was born on Fumble Farm. Haley had a girl with Kieran, who in a daze from non-stop cooking named it Chief Queef. I don't know why anyone would call their kid that. And Matt didn't stop at day 213, he just kept on going. Poor Dorito. But anyway, he continued to give gifts throughout the evening, where he finally took a break and started gambling, aiming to collect our last rare crow, needing 10,000 key coins, but he lost horribly. We also got involved in some gift giving today, mainly as it was the wizard's birthday and we needed his friendship desperately. So we gave him some void essence before Joe harvested our Ginger Island ancient fruit farm and began his work on the island field office collection. And back in Hell's Kitchen, me and Kieran continued to work away, where I momentarily popped out to harvest our greenhouse ancient fruit before hopping right back to it. Day 214 was the week before the Winter Star Festival, so we opened our letters, paying little to no attention to who we got, even though it would really help with our pending friendship emergency.
I'm gonna wait outside the saloon like fucking Pam.
But I did begin working at this, giving out some loved gifts to help the quest along from Mr. Key. Kieran actually saw his child today for the first time.
What's up, big man?
Well, for about 10 seconds as he was prioritizing finishing up his cooking and taking care of our wine and oak resin, which we were beginning to neglect a bit, even with the impending 10 million gold clock we would need. So he took care of that whilst Joe browsed his options in Mr. Key's shop. He then cracked on with working on the field office collection, donating a fossilized spine, before continuing to search and coming up short. So he returned to the valley and reminisced with Willie and this oddly large piece of bait behind him. And you know exactly by now what Matt did all day. Santa continued his spree, and then he went on a small killing spree in the Skull Caverns for the rest of the day to balance it out, where we earned a lot of money overnight and finished the key quest along the way.
Off the charts, some say.
Matt eagerly awaited Pam to wake up from her latest drinking binge on the morning of day 215, where he followed in her footsteps as a role model, gambling in the casino, where he purchased the final rare crow we needed. I wish it was that cool though, sadly, as he just bought the key coins needed. Poor from him, to be honest. So he took his mind off of it with some skull caverning instead. Kieran continued to work on the crafting and the remaining cooking recipes today, as you can imagine. Not exactly riveting stuff from him, before he plotted what was in his own words an emergency list of people he needed to give things to, which was alarmingly long. And I also had an alarming problem. The pressure for Monster Hunter goals paired with these fire pricks, and I quickly died. Rescued by Willie, luckily. Joe also witnessed my rescue as he was on the island donating a fossilized skull, completing a set and getting very close to completing the field office. However, he made it back to bed in one piece. I, however, wasn't so lucky and passed out on top of my bed. Not my greatest showing, I'll admit. I decided to slow down after my embarrassing double death yesterday, so I opted to harvest some crops before taking a boat ride back to the valley, to gift Evelyn a birthday gift before wandering around for a while, mainly checking my collections before stumbling into the saloon for some evening gift giving, and stocking up on food for some future adventures. Kieran had laid his eyes on our overgrown fruitbat cave, opting to just leave it alone for now, before also giving out a ton of love gifts for his own friendships. It would have been so much easier if we just shared perfection, but we couldn't go back now. So Joe kept monster hunting in the Skull Caverns, and Matt was the newest inductee into Hell's Kitchen, so he clocked in for his first shift for the whole of day 216. With Matt locked into his cooking saga, it definitely is a nice time to be narrating, as the script isn't stupidly long per day anymore, so he cracked on with that. Whilst just outside, Kieran polished off crafting a farm computer, obelisk and dehydrator to add to his crafting collection, before he took his turn to work on his mastery levels, harvesting ancient fruit on Ginger Island before paying Mr. Key a visit for some more crafting recipes. Joe carried out his daily routine of dropping off some gifts and then monster hunting down in the Skull Caverns, leaving me, and I sat down, pondered, stared into the open ocean, pondered some more before getting on the boat and facing my fears, heading back to the forge and going to work. Not dying this time, which was a bonus, and a slight surprise. I rewarded my bravery by heading to the bookseller and purchasing any gaps I had in my collection, before riding the open seas once again and getting right back to it, making it all the way to the forge in a successful outing as I also completed my monster goal. And after another grueling shift in the kitchen, Matt had reached the same point that me and Kieran were at, having his cooking collection about 95% done. So he gave out some gifts to spouses before setting his sights on something else. Joe broke his routine today to drop off presents and scavenge around Ginger Island for the field office items, but ultimately came up short, opting to take care of some farm chores instead. And with Kieran crafting the statue of the Dwarf King for his crafting and continuing to spend his days gift giving where he could.
I gave her a salad.
And slowly ticking down his nearly completed collections. As of right now, him and Matt are definitely in the lead, charging towards perfection. We plan to let the early finishers decorate their houses and the farm as a reward, which may never be for myself and Joe, as the two of us always somehow finish last. Kieran carried on smelting what he needed for crafting, also crafting the marble brazier, following this by giving out some gifts and finally dropping that pale ale off to Pam, who I'm pretty sure asked for it in like year 1, also fueling Shane's drinking problem for his own benefit, where he also stopped by the island trader for some recipes to craft. And after some more gifting, Matt grabbed the tropical fish community quest.
I'm gonna accept tropical fish,
where I give us about a 20% chance of completing this one, going off of our last couple attempts, and that's being optimistic. He then followed this up in the island forge hunting magma sprites, following in my footsteps, but it wasn't him to see success today. That came from Joe, who after spraying himself down in monster musk in combination with his breath, he began staircasing his way down, and having almost lost hope of finding pepper rexes, he stumbled onto a floor of them in the evening.
I got a pepper Rex floor. I could cry tears of happiness right now.
Finally ticking off a long-term goal of his.
Yes!
Oh, and I know what you're all thinking, what did I do today? Well, knowing next up was my own crafting collection, which was practically at 0% completion, I eagerly awaited the train passing through, but Linus tackled me just in time. So I begrudgingly gave Leah a birthday gift and cracked on with the crafting all day. But due to Kieran's prior collecting, it made the process easier, but it was a whole lot of clicking. I realize now I could have just put them in the bin, but instead I put them all in a chest outside my house. So in a trance, I crafted, put them in the chest, and did it over and over again. So in more exciting news, Matt went on a spending spree at Mr. Key's, grabbing all the recipes he could before him and the forge reacquainted themselves, where after a day of killing, he checked with Marlon to learn he was 32 magma sprites away from freedom. I wish I could say the same. Kieran then celebrated a rainy Christmas Eve on Fumble Farm with some ancient fruit harvesting, getting his 4th mastery level in the process, so also harvested our greenhouse ancient fruit to celebrate some more, leaving Joe, who spent his whole day working on hunting the final pieces for the field office, alongside hunting down magma sprites in the forge, but Matt had practically made them extinct, so we all got early nights with Christmas Day right around the corner. Here it is then, the Feast of the Winter Star was upon us, and although we had opted to skip the smaller festivals this year, this one would be wrong to miss, so we grabbed our respective gifts and headed into town, greeting the villagers as we were now familiar with all of them as we closed in on the start of our 3rd year on Fumble Farm. And here's the rundown if you were wondering. Joe got Linus a coconut, food for the winter I guess. I gave Robin a singular piece of wood out of frustration from my crafting ventures. Matt got Leah a diamond, I wouldn't take that if I was Joe. And Kieran got Leah a salad. A subtle dig, which if I were Joe, I definitely wouldn't take that. And coming the other way, Kieran received a beer from Kent alongside multiple war stories. Pierre gave me a glow ring, which was shit. And Matt and Joe, the jammy bastards, both got given tea sets.
Oh, I got a tea set.
I also got the tea set.
Let's go.
So we all headed home and off to bed, with varying levels of satisfaction as the second Christmas on Fumble Farm drew to a close. With Christmas behind us and a touch of rest from the relentless pursuit of perfection, we were right back to it. I started my day by checking through my crafting recipes to make a mental note of what I had done so far, something which definitely will come back to haunt the group later on. Then I dropped Leo off a mango and Clint off a gold bar, as it was his birthday today. Joe was also making his way around town today, mainly focusing around Ginger Island, where through the whole team's efforts, we completed another Mr. Key's kindness quest, giving us some much needed key gems. Kieran then returned to the farm crafting a slime incubator, which left Matt, who had had enough of this absolute shithole we called home, so he took to absolutely decimating the lot, including mine and Joe's glitchy cactus statue, something I will genuinely never forgive him for. But this could be the start of finally fulfilling that promise we made back on day 1 of eventually creating a beautiful looking farm. Matt's teardown on Fumble Farm kicked into an even higher gear today, taking the oak resin farm down, alongside basically everything else other than the chests we needed for cooking and crafting recipes, leaving it completely bare. Kieran's travels today took him to the quarry, where he grabbed our remaining star fruit and went to work, removing and re-kegging the whole quarry, netting us a lovely 700,000 gold by my maths. He then completed the pavement around the kegs, meaning no more rocks would spawn, and for me and Joe, we were back to the same old. I was mainly killing monsters, being the furthest behind on my Monster Slayer goals, and Joe was hanging out with Elliot and giving more gifts out, stopping him briefly to check for items for the field office to end his day. Kieran stepping out really showcased the bareness of the farm in its current state, but don't worry, Matt has a plan, which started by placing a chest in the south entrance of the farm with a sign reading "for obelisks," as we had 4 to get for perfection, so better to start preparing now. He then creepily waited outside of Robin's before moving our farm buildings around entirely, apart from my house, which I made him swear not to touch.
You ain't touching my crib, Matt.
And after shuffling around the order to something he was happy with, he laid some signs outside our shed area before finally deconstructing the path. And the reason why we're following Matt so much recently is because the 3 of us idiots are racing around trying to catch up to him. Kieran and Joe were mainly gifting all day and night, and I was simply killing in the Skull Caverns. Kieran did ship one of the few items left with tea leaves, but with all that distraction, the end of year 2 on Fumble Farm had snuck up on us. So as we went to bed, it was time to head back into spring and into year 3, with our granddad there to welcome us in. The shrine had lit up on day 225, or the first of year 3, so Kieran got straight on with it, crafting a tea sapling before scouring around Pelican Town for some forageables, stopping to purchase a jester hat. Personally, I think it suits him perfectly. My time down in the Skull Caverns wasn't over though, but I did finally kill enough Pepper X's, so at least some progress was being made, with Joe also continuing to gift and search Ginger Island for fossils. But with the buildings in place, Matt could finally begin to shape the farm to his liking, so he got to work, fencing the stable area, the animals, and the eventual crop areas being the highlight, before taking a midday break to summon an earth obelisk from the wizard, standard break activities. But then he was back to it, fencing into the night, where the new Fumble Farm was really beginning to take shape. He slept with his fences for maximum productivity on day 226, leaping out of bed and getting on with it, taking his talents to Pierre's, purchasing mainly grass starter but some recipes and an apple sapling, planting it on the farm and beginning to add some grass for aesthetic purposes. Joe's day remained the same, plus the slight addition of redoing quests he had missed earlier. I was finally at the last Monster Slayer goal, the rock crabs, so I began staring a bit too hard at these rocks all day, whereas Kieran decided to do something different, making a load of hash browns, which allowed him to further his cooking collection using it in various dishes. He also caught a sunfish for the team as well, where back on the Great Rebuild, Matt started adding pavements to the place finally, relocating Kieran's jelly farm. He continued painting the farm with different paths on day 227, tinkering with a setup design to put obelisks in the center of the design, planning for the future ones and a special space, which was reserved for the eventual final piece down the line. He then set his sights on our crop zones, which although shrunken would still be more than enough for some big profits. I returned to my home stadium of the Skull Caverns today, staring too hard at rocks, giving myself an eye strain for my troubles. Joe then kept the momentum going by standing around all day. My theory is he had spent a week gifting and now had to think for the first time, so short-circuited, leaving the jester who gave out gifts, picked the ancient fruit for mastery XP, and visited Mr. Key's place, selecting the Key's Hungry Challenge to reach floor 100 of the Skull Caverns without eating or drinking, indulging in a bluegrass starter recipe while there, crafting that alongside a treasure totem to end his day. Today though was huge. With Kent making his way to the farm in year 2, most of us didn't even know him, so we all rushed there with the 2 strangest dishes and dropped him off plenty of presents. Kieran also giving him a war memento, read the roommate. And after fueling the addiction, Joe finally found the consequence of our beer gifting actions. Shane, face down in the grass. The game's the game though, and we did need full hearts. So he headed to Ginger Island where it looked like the field office was complete.
Oh, I got the rib.
Until he found the wrong thing. Idiot. It was, however, more rock staring for me, until I lost my mind and stood in the farm for hours, leaving Project Rebuild, where Matt laid down more sprinklers and began sprinkling in some initial decorations and statues, before plotting out a new tree farm and heading to the ocean, aiming to fish up the eels we still needed for cooking. Matt continued to work on the eventual tree farm and placing statues, before he headed back to some mining and gifting, so a rare day off the rebuild, except he added a shit ton of grass to the animal area. Annoyingly for Kieran, he couldn't return Birdie's locket as it was raining and she wouldn't let him inside, so he proceeded to tap some much needed maple trees and gather some crafting items, before he returned to the quarry with a mixture of starfruit and ancient fruit, going to work on kegging and collecting the wine, netting us a very healthy boost to our finances. And my conquest continued with the rock crabs. I didn't get it once again, but at least Joe's brain started working again, so he started piling through the seemingly endless list of crafting and cooking recipes recipes that he had not started yet. This onslaught of crafting continued into day 230, but you've seen us do this way too much by now, so we'll just leave him to do it. And with the rain once again falling over the valley, me and Matt headed to the pier for some eel fishing, which went incredibly well. So I joined Kieran in Krobus's old house to gather the remaining carp we would need for the other recipes. So a good team effort all around. So I took an early night for my incredible effort today, which left Kieran free to purchase the 2 catalogs from Pierre and Robin, as he had now entered a period of less urgency like Matt. So he decided to shut himself inside the fucking mega house he'd purchased and finally decorate it, deciding to just send it and see what happens. And to polish off this day, the fishing paid off, allowing Matt to cook his final dish, achieving the gourmet chef achievement. Hopefully the rest of us can follow suit shortly. And with one of the individual goals ticked off, he decided that he was done with taking things slow. So on the morning of day 231, he returned to the Ginger Island Forge, targeting everything he could find, but mainly magma sprites for the goal from Marlon. But he wasn't the only one. After what genuinely felt like months, I polished off my final rock crab, completing the Monster Slayer goals for myself. So I fished for chubs, feeling victorious. However, before he could finally decorate, Kieran was dragged along too, staircasing and working his way to floor 100, where he completed the quest for Mr. Key. But he continued to press further, mainly farming iridium for certain crafting recipes. And this monumental stretch of days could only get better, right? As it was Joe, the final person to cover. Nope, he just ran around all day. And now it's time to introduce the next week of viewing. With key gems still a massive priority for upgrades and recipes exclusive to his shop, Matt accepted the next quest, Let's Play a Game, which tasked us with reaching 50,000 points on Junimo Kart Endless Mode, a game none of us had played. So let the montage begin. Joe and Kieran spent all day here, barely making it past 20,000, but they were going to be stubborn. So I guess Kieran's decorating would have to wait for now. Other than them two being MIA from anything else productive, Matt continued to hunt magma sprites and I mainly just had a consolidating day, meaning I was now free to check my collections, plan my next moves, and give out some much needed gifts for friendships. At least the script will get shorter now with those two morons becoming addicted to Junimo Kart. Day 223. I ran through Pelican Town with a swing in my step, heading to Mr. Key and checking out our perfection stat, which was getting there, before going on a spending spree in his shop, buying all the recipes I needed, returning to work on crafting them. And the reason I had a swing in my step was because the other two, joined by Matt, spent their day failing over and over again until night fell over the valley. A good day for me at least. My day began stumbling into Jazz and Vincent, unlocking the Spring Onion Mastery. Not a clue what it does, but we needed it for perfection all the same. So I carried on my routine of gifting to whoever I needed to gift to, and crafting a variety of items including the fertilizers, slowly working on the great list. Matt decided to stop today before he got addicted, opting to grab the Island Ingredients Community quest, tasking us with growing 100 pineapples. So he headed to Ginger Island and there realized we had barely any pineapple seeds. So he returned to the farm to hatch a plan and work on crafting and more decorating, leaving them two, who came agonizingly close today but still failed.
No, I have fucking thing. Come on, Joe, bring it on.
I did the same thing.
Now I'll be real, knowing that Kieran is watching himself fail over and over again while he scripts this is so funny. But Joe failing puts an even bigger smile on my face, I can't lie. Begrudgingly, Matt began the day by forcing them two and myself to use our incredible seed maker method to acquire more pineapple seeds. And if that method bothers you, grow up, because we plan to use it even more. Listen, it isn't a Generational Fumble video without breaking the game in some way. Matt decided today to work in the Island Forge, mainly working on acquiring his remaining journal scraps, plus a secondary goal of maybe getting some pineapple seeds as a drop. I harvested our Ginger Island ancient fruit for some mastery XP before continuing my journey through the crafting menu. It truly amazes me how many useless items there are we'd never use. Oh, and I almost forgot, how careless of me. They failed miserably again. The bookseller made his first appearance in a while, and thank God, as we needed it desperately. Until we realized the books we needed had a 9% spawn rate, and the bookseller wasn't coming around much more. So that set the tone for the start of the day, as we'd have to think of another plan. But that was a later task. So we bought some basic books before Kieran and Joe wasted another day for a few key gems. Meanwhile, I bought a book from Marnie. Also finally spending some of my tickets at Lewis's prize machine for another book. A very book-centric day. I then harvested some ancient fruit at the farm before the amount of knowledge caused me to short circuit, proceeding to stand here for a while, leaving Matt to his usual routine, tackling the forge, but before that, he planted mixed seeds, discarding the non-pineapple ones, and not before long, combined with his actual pineapple seeds, he had a decent field of them, meaning the quest actually looked doable to end day 236, Judgment Day.
Oh shit, he's squaring up, Kieran.
He's down something in his face.
PEDs, man. I'm taking PEDs.
There won't be many days as important as today will be, the finale of the Egg Festival. A quick catch-up is, Joe won year 1 by using his shameless zoom tactic, and I won the following year with Joe using his zoom tactic to tell me where the egg locations were, nullifying my victory. So this year, me and Joe were stepping back due to the controversy, leaving it down to a 1v1 for all the bragging rights. And the final straw hat, Matt the tactical magician versus, well, the village idiot. It all comes down to this. So after some sizing up, we entered the festival and the whole town had turned out for the big event. And with the usual competitors present, the two of them took their place. And Lewis sounded the beginning of the final egg hunt on Fumble Farm. It was fast, brutal, and every other adjective.
Fuck off, Jazz, you little bitch.
No, why is Sam talking to me?
With myself cheering Matt on,
Come on, Matt.
15 seconds.
and Joe cheering Kieran on.
Let's go, Kieran. Let's go. Buff, buff.
They ran as fast as they could, and with the scores ridiculously close heading into the last 10 seconds, it was over to Lewis to announce the winner.
Who is the winner? Yeah!
Somehow he had pulled it off, meaning Kieran had claimed victory over Matt. So Matt sulked home to Krobus and the Egg Festival had found its final winner. With the straw hat proudly being worn, Kieran took off to the saloon for the final day of Mr. Key's challenge.
You're in a winner's mindset now.
You know what I mean? I know what it takes to get over the line now.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I've missed the fruit on the first fucking level.
And the winning only continued, as Kieran made an absolute miracle run through the levels, reaching the 50,000 points required and claiming the key gems for the team.
I've done it! I've done it!
He's done it.
I'm keeping going.
Yes.
Oh my god, there's a big fucking green slime chasing me. Oh, instead of ice, the green slime, it's like Temple Run. The slime slows me down. And there we go. Boom.
Meaning the two of them could now resurface and get back on with perfection. I'm just glad Joe didn't do it. And I know he's editing this part, so fuck you, Joe.
Cheers, mate.
And with the three of them in the saloon, we will move on quickly, as I mainly just gifted and crafted, so nothing interesting from me to report. And with the rain falling over the valley, the villagers opted to head to the warmth of the desert festival, which we wouldn't be attending as consistently as the previous year. Me and Kieran did return briefly to go all in on escargot once again, but that stupid fucking scorpion won again and we lost everything. So Kieran kegged the quarry in frustration, whereas I gave out some gifts and got an early night, struggling to look Penny in the eye after losing all our money. Matt grabbed our second obelisk of 4, the island obelisk, placing it front and center in the layout, before he too had to put a stop to his decorating to refocus on the crafting collection, which took his day to an end. And Joe embraced his new freedom by also fucking crafting. Great job, boys, making this day interesting, I must say. But he did set up a fun day for tomorrow, taking the quest for the extended family of the legendary fish, where we would reunite with some familiar but also new challenges. And without a second spare, we split off into our respective areas. Kieran yesterday caught the mutant carp variant with no hassle, so he went after Mrs. Angler. Matt went after the Glacier Fish Jr., both of them being caught with no real challenge, leaving it up to myself and Joe. I returned to the pier to catch the Crimson Fish variant, and Joe had a rematch himself with the Legend 2, where we both struggled once again. Maybe out of fear, but we continued to struggle, until Matt swept in and swiped my opportunity of revenge,
I got him.
That's so bullshit.
before also promptly swiping Joe's as well.
I got him.
Fuck off.
Which wasn't great for the storyline, but oh well. Quest complete. So we placed them into a tank at Kieran's, where they would live out the rest of their days. So it might be time for Kieran to finally decorate their surroundings. But for now, he would yet again delay. As with acquiring Pierre's lost stock list, he could finally purchase the hop starter needed for the shipping collection. So he headed to Ginger Island and planted them for later, before he used his key gems for something very special. Meanwhile, I was in the dangerous mines hunting down some radioactive ore for our future crafting, before claiming a long overdue foraging mastery, unlocking further recipes. God knows how long that was just sitting there. And in perfect sync, as you can see, all three of me, Matt and Joe raided the chest left by Kieran to craft all day long, leaving him to forge the Infinity Blade, the best weapon in the game.
The Infinity Blade.
Rescuing a pretty shit looking day with a 90th minute winner. Day 242 for Kieran started with cooking 1 or 2 recipes he'd gained through friendships, before spending some time on Pinterest until he ran out of of patience and decided to make his house from whatever designs he felt like doing. And this turned out to be his best decision. Even with the rocky start, he eventually settled on a room dedicated to his wife, where he showed it off to the rest of us.
Welcome to my goon room. Clock's either side so you can time yourself as well.
Matt foraged and crafted all day, joined by Joe. However, Joe did allow himself a few hours to frolic around the valley, giving out some gifts to villagers, and I did the same as them, except I allowed myself a few hours to hang out with Caroline, mainly for the recipe. And I also continued my conquest in the dangerous mines for some radioactive ore. We were really beginning to feel the crunch of reaching perfection, before I was then asked an important question from Penny, where I obviously opted for the pirate room. What else would I go for? To prevent himself from going insane on the morning of day 243, Joe had to escape the farm and crafting, so he spoke to some villagers before heading to Ginger Island to harvest our ancient fruit to free his mind, before he also stopped in at Mr. Key's place, for nothing really in particular. Also dropping by the mastery shed, claiming the fishing mastery and completing all 5 levels of it, joining Matt in the success, and a strange shoulder rub from our granddad. Matt really went all in the past few days, reducing his screen time massively, but also he had made great progress. So he returned to the forge in search of some more journal scraps, in some much needed excitement for himself, and Kieran carried on his house renovations, beginning work on a sort of living room / cozy area, whereas I made some adjustments to his Haley portrait, improving it massively both times.
Oh, wow. Now this is the channel.
But he completed another room and I made sure to keep my Morris portrait close to my chest as I left his house. My Joja connections run deep, and when I decorate, I plan to bring the Joja room to even greater heights. But not today, so I headed to bed. Having woken up from a Joja related dream, I started my day off by searching our shed for beets, due to a quest I'd left since like day 30. So I let the frustration out by gifting beer to Shane, and also helping him shoot some kind of short film. Matt opened his morning with some fossil hunting, sadly only finding duplicates, so he was back in the island forge, scrapping his way from floor to floor, still after some resources and mainly the journal scraps remaining in his collection. We didn't need it for perfection, but he just wanted it. Joe's day really was just small meaningless tasks until around 11 PM, where he summoned the desert obelisk with the wizard for us, taking our total up to 3 with only the ocean obelisk left to build, which left Mr. Holmes under the hammer, who had taken off all his clothes for some reason for inspiration, where he crafted a smaller version of his Haley room, swiping Matt's Krobus portrait and placing it on his wall. He then made some progress into his new bedroom before testing it out to end the day. His work continued into day 245, joining up a study area to his bedroom, and this is where he found his rhythm, and his love for making areas busy with plants and various lamps and braziers, where his house was actually coming along pretty well, to be fair to him, so he started work on his bottom room next. My house had also come along, where Penny had finished her pirate room design. Not gonna lie, it's pretty mid, but I'll improve it later on. So I cooked the strange bun recipe given to me by Shane, taking me one step closer to finishing my collection of cooking. So I rewarded myself by purchasing some upgrades to my house, but I kept it humble, mainly because I didn't want to decorate all of them. Joe, after some crafting, planted 15 beets on Ginger Island, as he also hadn't done the quest. I guess we're idiots together this time. Where Matt decided to feed this bear by the sewer some fish. I had no idea what happened until now, so we will leave his mystery bear relationship alone. Just let's not tell Krobus. My morning opened with checking my hearts and the upcoming events in Pelican Town, before arming myself with a variety of items around the storage shed for gifting when I could. I then cursed Gus out for not opening his island resort shop on the one day I needed it.
When does this fucking resort open, bro?
Before decimating the local fossil area, getting nothing again. It took Kieran a while, but after some time he had wrestled with the catalogue enough, and had found a nice design for his other cozy room down at the bottom. His brain did shut off with this big open space though, so he was done for the day. Joe finally gave this strange bloke a rabbit's foot, only 80 days late, mate. The commitment is insane from that guy to sit in the truck all this time. And back at the farm, Matt kegged some green tea leaves for the shipping collection before he found something to develop our seed maker technique. Now for context, 4 statues of blessings and the 4 raccoon journals we would need would require around 5,000 fiber and 4,000 moss, which is not possible in the one remaining green rain day coming this summer. So we were planning to use the deconstructor to acquire 4 lots at once. So Matt and Joe tested the theory to a raving success.
Matt, is there anything that deconstructs into moss?
There is.
What?
Deluxe worm bin.
Wait,
How much moss do you get?
you get 30, so we get 120 each time.
You get 120. Oh shit! So we can dupe moss.
I think so.
which kinda saved the run. And remember, it isn't a good video without breaking the game at least a bit. So Matt kept seeing his bear in private, bringing him things in a very strange set of interactions. I checked my letterbox today to find that tomorrow was the final flower dance that we would be attending on Fumble Farm. So I mentally prepared for it before also meeting Matt's side piece.
The bear's playing his flute, Matt.
Is he strumming it?
Cleaning up the valley.
Is he? Oh shit.
Before he floated off with an umbrella.
Oh, Mary Poppins.
Floating his way through town. How peculiar. So for some normality, I decided to populate our new fish pond next to my house with lava eels before christening my house with a sign and taking a classic early night. And after a lot of thinking and wrong moves, Kieran finally cracked his dining room / living room, using the momentum to make an office for himself. And in a throwback to our earlier days, Matt flung himself straight into the mines with his fairy, slightly upset about his bear leaving, fighting through floor after floor, hunting anything he could get his hands on, which left Joe, who had put it off long enough, so finally started his cooking collection. So it was a long day of counting ingredients for him. He got some last minute morning cooking early before it was time for the flower dance, a festival where we've had wholesome and also strange moments with over our 3 years here. So we lined up for a seemingly normal dance until Kieran had one last surprise up his sleeve.
Why are you on the woman side? Dance with Harvey.
Other than my hair making another surprise appearance, Matt sat out this time in protest for Krobus not being invited, and Kieran danced with Harvey. Must have been his Speedos on Ginger Island or something. But with that, we grabbed the tub of flowers recipe from Pierre and headed to bed, ending our final flower dance. And with that behind us, the bookseller greeted us today with nothing we actually needed. So for the 100th time by now, our perfection dreams were looking troubled yet again. Matt then grabbed some seeds from Pierre's to craft his tub of flowers, where I took Kieran through the secret spot we'd found one of the books a while ago, but turns out he already had it, just how I want to spend the morning at the minute. So I left that idiot and spent some time cracking Omni Geodes with Clint. Joe continued his great cooking venture, ticking off a whole list of recipes today, where Kieran ticked off an actual book he hadn't read from his list, purchasing it from the dwarf, before polishing off his study room with this fossil before moving on to his kitchen. Matt then visited Mr. Keys, purchasing his final galaxy soul needed, so he ran it up to the lava forge, crafting his infinity blade to end day 249. Matt's pineapple project was done today, so I joined him in harvesting them alongside our ancient fruit, and luckily we had harvested 100 for the quest, so now all we needed to do was ship them and it was complete. He then grabbed the Danger in the Deep key quest, asking us to once again head down the mines, but before that he headed to the quarry to continue a productive morning kegging and selling our wine. And after a morning of gifting for inspiration, Kieran tackled his kitchen, which came out very well, I must say. But today was a huge day for me. First, as Gus finally set up his resort shop, allowing me to grab the final cooking recipe I needed, so I cooked it and joined Matt in completing the collection.
Congratulations.
Where are you? And I'm so sorry.
Before sitting by the fish pond and watching my eels on my new stool, where Matt polished off a productive day by summoning our 4th and final water obelisk, completing the set and ticking off one more goal towards perfection. Now with less than 50 days until we're done, we gathered around the deconstructor, aiming to make up some of the deficit of the moss we needed. So we deconstructed worm bins all day.
Oh, what has he done? Jacob!
Getting slightly carried away and testing out other things that we could deconstruct, taking us through to the next day. The witch visited overnight, a bit late for anything important though, followed by Emily once again trying to make me cheat on my wife.
Emily wants me to go camping with her. Do I do it?
The second time someone has tried to pry me away, so I relaxed and began my morning by tending to my lava eels. I've grown attached to them at this point. Meanwhile, Joe finally did something useful. After crafting, he headed to Ginger Island, where he found and inserted the final fossil.
Yes!
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Get it! Yes!
Completing Dr. Snail's island field office. The goals were beginning to fly down now, so let's keep going. Me and Joe both finally got our casino cards. Well, Joe got his. For some reason, Lewis wouldn't let me in his fridge.
Oh my god, Mayor Lewis is cocking me.
Even after I threatened to tell everyone about his dirty relationship with Marnie. And on the other side of town, Kieran had begun work on his kid's bedroom, sticking to his usual combo of braziers and plenty of flowers for good measure, before applying the same logic to his basement. Just for context, we are continuing to gift and craft any new items when they pop up, but I don't think you or I want to run down every time a single item is crafted, so I'll show you the key ones. And that left Matt, who had purchased the Junimo catalogue from the merchant. So So at ridiculous pace, he began decorating his own house full of Junimo furniture, giving it a unique aesthetic, slotting plenty of fake Junimos in to bring the place to life. Oh, and somehow spring had just flown by us, as we were in a daze of crafting, cooking, and every other task, meaning now it was time to enter the final summer on Fumble Farm. In said days, we would now also miss out on our triple starfruit harvests using the speed grow method, so we settled for 2 instead and began working to hoe the fields. It was a nice burst of nostalgia to the earlier days, rushing to get everything in the ground and planted in time. So we polished it off in the afternoon, where I then worked on some smelting and crafting more items before reaching a new level of understanding by harvesting ancient fruit on Ginger Island. Meanwhile, Joe was also deep into the crafting trenches, and Matt didn't notice Kieran swipe his Junimo catalogue, where he designed his own Junimo room off to the side, returning it where his house was now complete, and he could now, return to the actual goal of the video. Speaking of Matt, he was back at Mr. Key's gaff, grabbing the Skull Cavern Invasion key quest, before he also swiped Kieran's catalogues, working on adding some finishing touches to his own house. Feeling inspired from decorating last night, Matt took his creativity to the outside portion of the farm, adding some trees around the obelisk area now that it was complete, before positioning our statues where, I'm not gonna lie, he kind of ran in and out of his house like a man possessed, decorating inside and outside in random bursts, so we'll leave him to burn out peacefully. Kieran, on the other hand, was fully burnt out, literally. He stayed in bed all day, Haley looking concerned. In reality, he was sitting eating his food all day. And then Joe carried on his new thing of following what the rest of us did, so it isn't worth much screen time, leaving me to take a trip and claim my mining mastery, and yep, that's all I did as well. I, however, filled the rest of my time with some productive running. After visiting the field office, I made a visit to Clint, and cracked a few geodes, where luck was finally on my side, getting the dwarf gadget I needed from the farm computer. So of course I reacted calmly to this news. Yes! Dwarf gadget.
Oh my god, that's actually huge, by the way.
And after an absolute back-breaking amount of crafting, Joe finally ventured outside his house for once, tackling the forge and working on killing magma sprites, where Kieran's big step forward today was crafting the ostrich incubator. Other than that, he did his best impression of me and kinda just ran around Pelican Town all day, where Matt finally cleared out our horrific fruit bat cave before heading into the dangerous mines, fighting his way as far down as he could before we all gathered around this deconstructor like some strange ritual in the evening. Day 256 was a huge day for the people who are slacking on friendships, basically everyone apart from Matt, as it was Jazz's birthday, so we dropped by to give her plenty of gifts, along with everyone else close by that we could also give gifts to. Matt had replanted the tree farm today, attempting to get all of the morels as we needed them for crafting, before he took out on foot searching for them instead, ultimately coming up short in his endeavours, so he took his anger out with his fairy in the dangerous mines. My day, on the other hand, was full of a lot of planning, mainly plotting out my main next steps and crafting, until Kent has decided to send me a bomb in the post. Now, I'm all for giving gifts out, but Jesus fucking Christ, so I disposed of it carefully, taking the remainder of the day to calm down, and Joe evacuated the farm after the bomb threat to the only place he knew, the casino, so we will pray for our bank account in the morning. Fortunately for us, he hadn't completely wiped our money away gambling, but if given the chance, he would 100% stick all 3.4 million gold on red without a second thought. So he cooked a strange bun, did some crafting, and then headed to the river to do some fishing for further cooking down the line. I was taking one for the team as usual today by kegging the wine, before foraging around for grapes as we were 5 of them away from shipping the final item, raisins. So I searched all day around the valley, where Joe made a ridiculous fumble that I've just clocked onto. This guy has been manually searching the storage shed for his crafting, instead of using the chests Kieran laid out earlier. He is a strange man. Speaking of Kieran, he harvested the ancient fruit for XP before he also decided to fish by the mountains, hunting down rainbow trout for some trout soup that he later cooked. He then kept foraging for more grapes where Matt had a very wholesome day, taking himself to join some villagers in an early showing of Wampus.
Wampus. It's like some big fat green thing.
And after he finished his viewing, he took himself home immediately to tell Krobus about it. He then countered his wholesome experience yesterday by returning to cause absolute destruction in the dangerous mines, mainly farming on the jungle floors, etc., hoping to get some drops we could use for crafting like morels, but once again he had come up short. And back on the farm, somehow an iridium meteorite landed right on top of the animal area.
Does it look cool?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, fuck it, leave it. That's cool.
So we called it decoration and left it alone. Kieran finally put his pants back on today after consistent complaints from the villagers, so I can now be seen in public with him. We both headed off to the Ginger Island Forge, mainly spending the day farming cinder shards as recipes were beginning to appear out of nowhere, and our storage shed was beginning to look rather thin of resources. So we worked all day before squeezing into the single bed on Ginger Island. And just a side note, Joe continued to use the main storage shed, a fumble which will go unfixed until the day his crafting collection is complete. But that was not today though, so another day in the trenches for him. However, early in the morning, Joe decided to head for the sun, checking out our perfection stat on Ginger Island, which had reached a respectable 88%. But we still had a lot to do, including keeping the promise of making Fumble Farm look nice, so we weren't out of the woods just yet. So Joe followed in mine and Kieran's example, heading to the island forge, hunting down more cinder shards. And every reaction needs an equal reaction, or however the saying goes, as it was me to make a fumble today, realizing I couldn't get my casino card a while back due to me not even starting the original quest line, which I'll admit is fucking stupid. So I placed the battery in the lamp, put the rainbow shell in the train box, finally put the beets in Lewis's fridge, and fed the skeleton a solar essence, completing the quest and receiving my casino card about 200 days after you probably should have got it, leaving Kieran to spend all day working on his friendships with the villagers and Matt to staircase down the Skull Caverns, hitting floor 100 with some treasure floors along the way, completing Mr. Key's quest for even more key gems to end day 259. And due to his friendships paying off, Kieran was able to join me and Matt in completing and ticking off his cooking collection. So he thanked Leo with a mango for his help with the final recipe. Matt was back in the Dangerous Mines today, continuing his search for morels, where for the 5th time in the Dangerous Mines he came up short once again. Meanwhile, Joe was at Mr. Key's shop grabbing Key's Prismatic Grange to collect 100 of each coloured item, before he purchased a Galaxy Soul from the man himself. However, after seeing Matt and Kieran transform their houses into what they were now, I had some spare time, so it was time for me to start decorating. So I began work on the industrial bottom room as a good start. Joe then polished the day off with some island forge work before joining Kieran to poke around my newly decorated masterpiece.
Look at the fucking free fireplace there.
That's his fucking burner, mate, this one.
That's the ones I took from your gaps.
I know.
After realizing the appraisal guide was a book only one of us had, and that it can only be acquired through artifact troves due to the bookseller's 9% chance not being something we could trust, I took off to Clint's and cracked every single geode we owned. And you know the drill by now, I didn't get it. I did get a golden pumpkin though, and it takes me back to Spirit's Eve. How could I forget that? What an event. Joe interrupted the ladies' yoga session, stopping to show some moves before continuing his day filled with gifts and crafting. And like Kieran way back in the first 100 days, you know where Matt is. He's mining. Well, killing things in the mushroom floors, and once again, he got nothing. So we will pivot our focus to the main event, my decoration project, where my industrial room was looking incredible. So I showed Kieran before making some preliminary plans for the next room, before taking a nap in my pirate bed. I cracked straight on today, but before I could really get going, my letterbox told me tomorrow was the Stardew Valley Luau, and as we were all still struggling with a few villagers, tomorrow could be the biggest day yet. So we planned our gifts, opting for some gold truffles, aiming for the best soup yet. So with the nerves building, I wrestled with this aquarium style room all day, before dropping Maru off a much needed birthday present. Joe was frolicking around on Dorito today, mainly looking for a few of the final grapes we needed, returning to work on some crafting around the island. And at this point, I feel sorry for Matt. Yes, he went to the mines again, and yes, he didn't get anything again. Here it is then, the big day, the luau, a chance to get hearts with everyone. So we entered our 4 items into the soup,
I bet they truffled into the soup.
talked to the villagers nervously, and awaited the decision of the governor, a man that we haven't exactly impressed too much over the years. But today he was impressed. The best soup he'd had.
Yeah, the best soup he's ever tasted.
Best soup he's ever heard.
Yeah, it fucking is.
Look at him. Gluttony.
So we returned home happy, checked our hearts to see the progress, and it was glorious. So we headed to bed chuffed. In consecutive days, it was another big moment on the farm. With the friendships looking better, the bookseller had landed. A chance to get the book. All we had to hit was a 9% chance. Not a chance the game would let us off that easily. So Joe continued foraging for grapes before he took a trip to Ginger Island and completed his own cooking collection.
Yes.
Meaning now we all had it completed. A huge step down. Matt did his same routine to to celebrate, Kieran tended to our wine, where he had had enough of the paving. We were better than that at this point, so he swapped it out for a more modern look overall, leaving me to continue working on my dining room / drinking room combo, moving up towards my kids' room, where almost coincidentally my first child was born, so I named it Dontavius. And I started day 265 with some ancient fruit harvesting in the greenhouse and Ginger Island, making some progress on my final mastery level, so I returned to do some more decorating of the house. Kieran then continued tinkering with the farm design, destroying and replanting our fruit trees just a touch further back for no reason whatsoever. Matt, however, had had enough of his useless dangerous mines grinding, so swapped it out for the Island Forge, finally completing his journal scrap collection, so another goal down. Not a necessary one, but an optional goal all the same, where Joe set some more moss into the deconstructor before continuing his foraging and gifting, deciding to take an early night in the rather bare Ginger Island house. After some tactical deconstructing, I populated my fish tank with the legendary fish, sadly with the angler having to miss out due to tank space, so I placed some spare tanks up top for the other fish, taking myself on an evening frolic for some inspiration. Matt had witnessed a wholesome moment seeing Leo truly become part of the community, before more importantly he found another couple of grapes for our collection, before heading back to the dangerous mines to harvest some more fibre and search for some mushrooms. Kieran then began clearing up some spare crops around Ginger Island for when we eventually decorated there, where Joe gave out some gifts and I returned from my frolic, putting some more work into the house before it was time for bed. And overnight we had two big things happen. Firstly, it was starfruit time, so I got to work harvesting it to hopefully polish off my mastery, with Kieran subbing in to plant the seeds back down after me, joined by Joe. And then it was time for the main event. The green rain had fallen for the last time on Fumble Farm, and it was a huge chance to make up some more of the moss and fibre deficit we were facing, so we chopped trees and bushes down all day, racking up a decent amount of both items, but still we needed to find more from somewhere. And welcome to day 268. And you might be wondering, why such a special introduction for a seemingly normal day? Well, today it's time we ticked off the fibre and moss we needed in order to get the Statue of Blessings, alongside the raccoon journals we would need. So we will be gathering around the deconstructors and tactically deconstructing the thousands of fibre we need. This might be a while, so play the montage.
3, 2, 1, go. 3, 2, 1, go. 3, 2, 1, go. Go, 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 go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, and we didn't stop today if you were wondering. We kept on going all day long, stopping to go buy the book and craft the statue whilst we waited. And with 2 days of fibre deconstruction behind us, we took the evening to grab some supplies. I moved inside to continue decorating and we headed to bed, with two big problems in the back of our minds put away for good. And with the fibre and moss problem behind us, Kieran, Joe and Matt headed to Ginger Island for the sun, and it was time to bury an old friend, our ancient fruit farm. We wanted to do something cool with it, so it was time to go. And when we decided on a path design, we got to work, placing a load of quality sprinklers and paving around them for something very special. Joe then headed to Pierre's whilst they continued, and he purchased a ridiculous amount of seeds from Pierre, using his missing stock list. And back at my place, I was placing the finishing touches on my house, moving into the basement and getting it near to completion. Meanwhile, back on Ginger Island, Joe dropped off his mountain of seeds and Kieran got to work hoeing and planting them. Eventually, this would turn into a field of a variety of crops, and with a full day of work behind him, he tucked himself into the Ginger Island farmhouse and headed to bed. Our morning on day 271 opened up with the raccoons all coming out to greet us, as their family was at maximum capacity within their treehouse. So me and Matt took off for the quarry to collect and replace the ancient fruit back to starfruit, still needing to make over 5.3 million gold in 29 days, so it wasn't looking good. Kieran was still in the Ginger Island farm, adding more crops and placing down wooden paths ready for us to decorate in the future. We owe it to ourselves as we promised a beautiful farm way back on day 1. And with me being finished decorating, I handed the catalogues on to Joe, and he got to work on first a Junimo and dining room combo for his house, so we'll check in with him soon, leaving Matt, who was poking around the secret areas of town today, finding the pink lemon, Forogumon and HMTGF statues, bringing them all back to show me.
That statue's so cool, man.
So he tended to the animals before showing me how to get my own versions, so I retrieved them and placed them onto my area of the farm, giving it a whole new look to end the day. And just like that, the morning of day 272 had come around and the annual Trout Derby had rolled into town for its 2-day festivities, except after my razor-thin fail in year 1, I was too scared to go back, not today at least. So I headed to see Robin adding a new extension to my kitchen, completing Kent leaving just Leo and the dwarf before my friendships were complete, which meant that I could join Matt in that accomplishment, who today joined Kieran in removing all of the shit outside our house back into the shed, including the spare materials, freeing up space for more decorating later, which did take them all day to move all of the stuff, as we had accumulated a lot of shite over 272 days. I was in Cindersap today feeling the aura of my granddad as I joined the other boys in completing the mastery, crafting the challenge bait, meaning I was essentially one recipe away from my crafting being done too. What a day. And after finishing his Junimo and dining rooms, Joe set his sights onto his living room and bedroom area, hitting a bit of a creative block and barely getting anything done. Here we go then, the annual Trout Derby. Time to face up to the horrors of year one and beat the demons. Joe and Kieran joined me for moral support. Matt couldn't give a shit though, so he continued working on his pebbled pavement he began constructing yesterday, before adding even more grass to the farm area. But back to the main event. Kieran and Joe's moral support quickly divulged into the complete opposite, as I watched them fish up tag after tag, and going into the evening it was looking bleak. Meanwhile, Matt was having a blissful day fishing up an Iridium Krobus statue for himself, before slipping Kieran some seafoam pudding for performance enhancement, and after nearly quitting multiple times, thanks to the help from the boys in the end, I was able to acquire all of the gifts and finally complete the annual Trout Derby. 3 years later, but still a win all the same. And with the Trout Derby packing up and leaving, it was back to business as usual. Matt started ramping up his decorating work, placing machines and statues around, before he headed to Robbins to acquire the second stable for his newly purchased horse flute, before continuing his decorating. He headed to an evening party with the pirates. Would have been nice to at least get an invite, Matt. Joe stood in Kieran's doorway for some inspiration before cracking on with his house, ultimately not getting much further than yesterday, leaving me to give the dwarf a birthday gift, completing him and leaving Leo as most people's final friendship to get. So we'll be dropping off plenty of mangoes in the coming weeks. Kieran was also helping Matt in decorating small details around the farm for some aesthetics, and against all odds we were creating somewhat of a nice farm design. And to top it all off, the top left tree farm had finally yielded morels, so we opted to plot out a second stable area there to be worked on, before turning in for the evening. And on day 275, with 25 days to go before the end, we visited Grandad's shrine, before Kieran took me to Ginger Island to show me his plans for decorating Ginger Island, which were looking promising, but that was enough for me, so I turned in early in the evening for some sleep. Kieran and Matt did some more farm decorating before Matt took himself to the saloon to play some Journey of the Prairie King, a game that we thought would be easy, but not a chance in the fucking world we were completing this, especially after failing Junimo Kart for a whole week. So Kieran dug out some plots for future fish ponds and a potential slime hutch before he passed out, leaving Joe, who had made some progress, completing his living room and some strange crystal room in the bottom area, before he too turned in early for some thinking time. So we'll leave him to cook for a few days and check back in when he awakes from his thinking time. This morning started with Robin completing the second stable, so Matt named the horse Gnarput, allowing him to use the horse flute, so poor Dorito was demoted to secondary horse in his eyes. So he put a hat on Gnarput before sprinkling in more decorations around the farm. The busier the better in our eyes. And in the desert I was taking a trip to the Skull Caverns for old time's sakes, and for some much needed resources, before finally adding the corner room to my house at Robbins, so I headed off to decorate it. And Kieran was at Clint's all day cracking geodes, using the predictor to finally uncover the appraisal guide. So due to his good luck with the order, he cracked more, allowing me and Matt to both also get the book and read it. Another goal down. So he acquired the second fish pond from Robin for the farm, and assisting Matt with decorating, leaving me to work on the second version of the Joja room. My work carried on into today, aiming to capture the essence of the original Joja Mart before Morris was unfairly driven out of town, so I placed his photo on the wall to remember him before continuing my work. Matt sat on this stool for a long time before becoming inspired, except his inspiration was to go around placing Junimo plushies everywhere, stopping by Joe's improving house, adding his own touch of flair to it. And with my Joja room complete, I invited Kieran as the first guest, where Penny was helping me sell the look.
You like this one, yeah?
I love this one.
So Kieran added some more Junimos around the farm to help Matt before heading to the quarry, collecting and kegging some much needed starfruit wine, earning another million along the way. And with the rain pouring down on the farm, it was simply the biggest day yet, Leo's birthday. This was the chance to bring it home and over the line, so I accidentally walked in on Linus changing before dropping Leo off a mango, and just like that, my friendships were complete, joining Matt and Joe, where Kieran also joined us on one more huge goal ticked off, leaving just a few crafting recipes, a lot of money, and some miscellaneous tasks to go. So Kieran commissioned another fish pond at Robbins, where Matt was there just before him, also commissioning something, a brand new home for Pam to live in, before he painted some buildings around the farm for a new look, before filling the cave with Junimos. Me and him then worked on a side area to my house, before Kieran took off to see the wizard blizzard until he realised he didn't have enough fibre, so came home and headed to bed along with the rest of us. We decided today to place the deconstructors front and centre, due to how much they had aided us, especially with the fibre and moss from earlier, before Kieran finally had enough fibre to place down the Junimo hut, over on the left hand side of the farm, as we felt it wasn't busy enough compared to the rest, so he decorated near it, where I took a much needed day to reflect. We weren't in the early stages anymore, or even in the factory stage, and somehow our farm was thriving, and now we just had to stick the landing and it would be complete in a short 20 days, leaving Matt, who took care of some little chores around the valley, before thinking on how we could convert the tree farm into a second stable area, as Gnarpert was lumped in with all the other animals at this point. So on day 280 he got straight to it, reallocating the mushroom logs that had served us well over the days, before he got back to it. The rest of us, alongside our new Junimo helpers, got straight to work harvesting the final starfruit harvest, which may be crucial as it might have to come down to us selling everything just to afford the golden clock. So we spent the final day of summer winding down and mainly watching Matt build his stable area, which was coming along nicely. And as 10 PM hit, it was time to head to the beach and reflect on our time here at the Dance of the Moonlight Jellies for the last time. And they showed up big time to dance the summer away and head into the final season on Fumble Farm. So into the fall we went, my hair flowing in the breeze, so I invited Kieran to throw the super cucumber into the pond, which he still nearly messed up.
No, you right click.
And in an emergency case of needing just a touch more money, we got to work hoeing the land for potentially the final time, deciding to plant purely pumpkins, as they matched the full look and also we could get some extra large ones. Joe, on his search for hazelnuts, stumbled upon Pam with her new house, opting to show off that he paid for it, of course. We obviously have a reputation to maintain. And after Matt repainted some more buildings and moved the stable, he completed that area and Joe used the hazelnut he found to craft the full wild seed, completing his crafting collection. Another huge milestone we could all finish now with the full season. And with that action-packed day of tasks, Joe's house was complete, so he invited us all in for the grand tour.
So if you come in, this is my lovely new red floor. Here is a nice seating area, enough room for you and all your friends. Now if you have a look up here, we've got this nice china set. Okay, it's lovely. Vintage. Yeah, it's sandy. Oh, there it goes. Now let's make our way over here down to.
I'll be there. I'll get there. Y'all get there, but you're all sprinting. You know what I mean?
Sorry.
That Jumino's a nice touch.
Yeah, thanks. I didn't put that there. Now let me tell you about this one. Okay, look at me move. This is Leah's room where she needs to she needs to grow the wood in order to chew it.
Matt was back dropping a small fortune on grass today, polishing off his second stable area, which might be even better than the first one. But now it was time for the team to unite and work on a joint project, the Ginger Island farmhouse. We split into two teams. Me and Kieran would be taking the right half of the house, with Matt and Joe combining for the left. So we got to work. You tell us who had the better half. Me and Kieran went for a bedroom living room split, with Joe and Matt going for a dining room and sitting room area. So we worked at it all day, placing down plenty of ideas, and at the end of day one, this is how we were looking. And as we moved into day two, we were quickly working on placing the finishing touches into our individual sides, deciding to collaborate in the middle and join forces on the kitchen portion, connecting the two sides together. And I must say, we started this as a competition. And I do think our side is nicer, you let us know. But this ended up turning the bare farmhouse into an absolutely gorgeous design. So with the farm outside also growing, we tucked ourselves into bed where Matt shipped some final items, unlocking the polyculture achievement, a nice side bonus to the rest of our goal hitting. We started day 284 taking a guided tour around the Ginger Island house, which was now complete, where it was time to now move on to the exterior and work on making it as nice as possible, until we found out that Matt had dug a few patches of the crops up.
We've got nothing growing in the middle.
Matt, what's going on?
So we got to work, adding some tables and chairs, somehow incorporating a Christmas tree and plenty of braziers and totems, with Joe and Kieran decorating the right border and I took the space on the left, adding some more tables and chairs, some pillars, along with adding in some items and plenty of grass for good measure. And after one day of work, it was looking lovely. A big improvement on the ancient fruit factory from before, but we weren't done just yet. With the top portion complete, we shifted our focus down to the bottom part, discovering we can even and decorate onto the beach, where Kieran grabs some seeds from Pierre's to replant if needed, or if Matt decides to randomly destroy some again. And then I got to work on this bottom area, using the shipwrecked boats as my inspiration, just placing a lot of stuff in random patterns. And as we headed into the evening, I was actually gassed with how it turned out. Even the boys loved it. So Joe and Kieran ran a pebble path down the right hand side, and with the path down, we had just some finishing touches to add to Ginger Island. So we headed to bed where Kieran's second child was born. So he named it Don Quavius, joining Don Tavius on the farm alongside Chief Queef. So with Don Quavius being born, he once again prioritized the farm. That's commitment right there. And we worked on the path area, adding plenty of braziers, creating a very tranquil sitting area, accompanied by some grass for good measure. And with the crops all practically grown out by now, wow, it looked good. Could even be nicer than the actual farm. But then we realized we could actually enter the shipwreck, the more you know I guess. So we placed some grass inside before heading to bed, feeling proud of what we'd done. But the decorating wasn't over. Day 287 opened with a female slime hatching in our brand new slime hutch. And also Marlon came by to help us with the process too. So we checked it out and Kieran got to decorating, placing plenty of Junimos in there for good measure.
Yeah, come look how many slimes have spawned, man. That slime's incubated already.
It said it took 2 days.
No, mate, it's fucking popped out, man.
Fucking hell. Oh my god.
Before me and Joe fixed a previous mistake, getting our glitchy cactus statue back, and luckily, before long we got it working once again.
3, 2,
3,
1,
2,
go.
1, go.
Boom!
He's back.
And after the farm was sorted, we headed out to do some foraging, aiming to grab the final hazelnuts we needed for crafting, and he managed to find one. So we met up in my drinking room to distribute it, where Kieran had been at the hat shop, so he decided to bestow upon us some new hats, with myself receiving the King's Crown, claiming I look like King Neptune from SpongeBob. Bald!
Bald. Bald.
Elite reference if you get it. Matt with the cat ears, Joe with the goblin mask, and himself with the diving hat. And we looked very good, so we sat and enjoyed each other's company before all sleeping in my bed for some reason, alongside the cat and Penny. Today the bookseller came into town, but we didn't care. We had all completed that collection, so mainly hunted down the final hazelnuts, where I joined the team in completing it. But I didn't get the crafting completion pop-up, nothing to worry about I guess. Joe then wanted revenge and we had time to kill, so he accepted the Let's Play a Game Junimo Kart quest. Kieran today though had a problem. He also didn't get the crafting pop-up upon completion until he checked, and he's just an idiot, forgetting the deluxe worm bin, so he crafted it and once again didn't get it. So he searched and searched, not realizing the thing he needed was right in front of him. I also named our new ostrich Bloodclot. Listen, we're 300 days in nearly and we've named so many animals, including our new blue chickens, Keckers and Freys. So we were at full capacity in the animal area on day 288. Sherlock Holmes cracked the case this morning, crafting the bug steak and completing his crafting collection, joining the rest of us in completing it. Well, I hadn't got the pop-up technically, but I'm sure it's fine. Joe, Kieran and Matt then played Junimo Kart all day, Kieran with no pressure as he had completed it. Matt barely playing it for the first time, so was just having fun, but the pressure was all on Joe, and his first day of playing showed that he was feeling the pressure, failing all day entirely. And for me, I was having a whale of a time playing Journey of the Prairie King next to them, also failing miserably. Day 290 was a rinse and repeat, except I joined them in playing today, which didn't last long, I'll admit. So they ploughed on until enough near misses and close fails had pushed Joe over the line.
I'm quitting.
No, Joe.
No, I've had enough.
No.
So he stormed out of the saloon, breaking some of Gus's furniture on the way out. So I forced him to keg the wine with me to calm down a bit, whereas Matt and Kieran were enjoying some Joe-free playing time, cutting it very close but just about making it to bed on time. Here we are then, the final 10 days. And like I mentioned, we weren't done decorating yet, so we all met up at the bus stop, annoying Pam a little bit, waiting for a creative inspiration to hit. So we began just freestyling in the meantime, where I built a bus stop in the far corner. But with some grass starter that Joe had brought, we began to find our groove, replacing the path with a more modern look before heading to bed for the night. Matt was being stubborn, however, as he wouldn't let Junimo Kart go, ultimately failing again, arguably making it worse for himself. We began to really hit a stride up at the bus stop today, adding fencing alongside a nice sitting area, where Pam was enjoying the new look. So we spruced it up with more grass and braziers before laying a little campfire area off to the right, adding in some lampposts for a pop of light, also adding in some final decorations, Junimo Junimos of course as our signature touch, and even more grass, completing the bus stop in all its glory. And Matt managed to complete the 50,000 score on Junimo Kart, smashing past it and making Joe feel even worse. Feeling annoyed by the news, Joe did some final tinkering with the bus stop, where he saw Pam shed a tear at the new design she gets to stand in front of for 12 hours a day. It's the little things on Fumble Farm. So with the decorating bug truly back, we took to decorating the bottom entrance of the farm, including a path to the travelling merchant, setting up a little landing spot for when they come to the valley, where Matt took himself just down south and started working on a little decorating by the hat shop. And after a lot of grass, braziers and paths, we had a nice area complete with lampposts, and we wouldn't have to wait long for the merchant to arrive. Not long at all, as she landed today. And we had smashed it, as she landed in the new fenced area, completed with a table and chairs to hang out. So we added some further touches to the fishing platform before heading down to see what Matt had been brewing, and he had smashed it too. So with all the different areas complete and decorated, Kieran grabbed himself a chef hat to celebrate and we headed to bed, finally ticking off that goal of having a beautiful farm, alongside the surrounding areas to complement it. And today was a simple but big one.
Oh, we got a big pumpkin.
With everything complete now except the golden clock, we had more time to take the festivals slow. So today we all headed into the storage shed, picking up a prismatic shard for the Stardew Valley Fair, honouring our previous year's attempt. And then for the remaining 8 items, we all chose 2 without telling each other. So we pondered all day and headed to bed, having no clue what each had chosen for tomorrow's festival. Here we are then, time for the reveal. So we all sat in our new bus stop sitting area and waited for the setup to complete. And when called, we headed inside and placed the prismatic shard front and centre. And then we began to reveal our items.
Oh, strange doll variant 1.
No, this is gonna look code. Mystic syrup.
The second mystic syrup. Well, it's time to put in my second mystic syrup.
Ow.
Golden cow.
Oh, respect. We gotta finish off at Diblob.
Diblob.
And with our setup complete of 2 strange dolls, 2 mystic syrups, a blobfish, a beer, a piece of moss, and a golden cow alongside the prismatic shard, there was no way in hell we could lose this time. So we stood proudly as Lewis judged, and somehow we were robbed by Pierre once again.
Second.
We got second.
So I told everyone about his relationship with Marnie, effectively sealing our fate in Pelican Town, but we weren't concerned. We had way more sway in the village at this point than Lewis did, and we're departing soon anyway. So we gambled for the remainder of the day before heading home and sleeping, with another witch dropping by for like the 12th time, which angered me further.
Fuck off!
We don't need you. Wasting our time.
Still annoyed by the result of the fair earlier. And to calm down fully, our pumpkins had grown and a rather large one had appeared outside my house, which did a little bit, but it wasn't enough. So we organised a little spa day for me to let my hair all the way down. So we headed in, had a little swim, and then with everyone all prepared for the finale, we headed to bed after another day of relaxing. And after our final wine sale, we were still 1.1 million gold short of the golden clock. But don't worry, we wouldn't come all this way without making a backup plan. And due to my confrontation with Mayor Lewis, we didn't need anything to stay behind. So we decided to spend the day selling everything we owned, as we were in need of some quick cash to finish. And we wanted to keep ourselves humble and grounded as always, making a quick 2 million gold and just about creeping over the line of the 10 million gold needed. So let's go spend it and finish this. So with the rain beating down over Pelican Town, we took one of our final walks through the forest, taking it all in and heading to the wizards, all gathered round the table where the privilege was bestowed upon me to make the final purchase. So I of course graced it with a cold line for the road.
Tick tock on the clock.
Placing it in the middle of the farm and ticking our perfection percentage from 90 to 100%, meaning we had done it. All the cooking, crafting, shipping, everything had been completed. So we raced back and stood in front of the golden clock, taking it all in for one last time.
Get your fucking fairy out of the way, bruv. Holy shit.
Before we took to our farm for one last time as well, and headed to the casino, some of us for the first time, where we played games and enjoyed our final night in the valley.
I've got 2. Hit, of course. Hit again. Hit again. Hit again. Hit again. 19, stand.
How? And on the morning of day 300, we felt it.
Oh, look at the parrots.
Oh shit.
And a message confirmed that the legacy of Fumble Farm would reign for eternity. So we took our final walk, knowing there was somewhere we could go now. And on the way there, we thought back to the first day, the first egg hunt, the many deaths, and success along the way, taking it all in before beginning to ascend Perfection Mountain. And as we took the steps, it took us all day, but we made it, each taking our walk and reaching the summit, achieving perfection in Stardew Valley Multiplayer.
Have you guys got your wives with you?
Yeah. Are you there with Krobus?
No, I'm with Lewis.
Until a problem presented itself. Remember when I said my crafting collection had not popped up? Turns out that all the way back in Spirit's Eve, when the others purchased the jack-o'-lantern recipe, I may have forgotten to do it and just keep it a secret. And when they found out, they were pretty mean about it.
There's a problem, fellas, there. One of us does not belong. Leave. Get off the mountain.
So I waited and waited until the day finally arrived where I could too join the others in achieving perfection, crafting the final jack-o'-lantern and completing my own collection finally. Perfection! Only 7 days late.